Chapter 91, Cultivation. Right after Shen Wang finished speaking, he saw Shi Yan and felt a bit guilty. Hopefully, he didn't hear what I just said. That would really draw hatred. Pausing for a moment, Shen Wang casually greeted Shi Yan, offering a small compliment. Minister Shi, you arrived so quickly. Truly diligent and dedicated. Just a moment ago, you were saying I'm your best friend in the special department, and now you turn your back on me. Shi Yan's eye twitched, his smile forced. Being your best friend, how could I not hurry? I have to live up to those 2 words, right? Shen Wang blinked. Did he really say that? It felt like his original words were different. Noticing Shi Yan's less than pleased expression, Shen Wang wisely swallowed his words and changed the subject. This is the man I was telling you about. Learned a little bit about controlling ghosts and started bullying ordinary people, thinking no one could handle him. Hearing Shen Wang's words, the men realized something was amiss and stopped being stubborn, pleading, I was wrong, big brother. I didn't mean to harm anyone. I was just playing a joke on him. Terrified, the men looked at Shen Wang and Shi Yan, filled with regret. If he had known it would come to this, he never would have come up with such a bad idea. But now it was too late for regrets. We will investigate the truth of the matter, Shi Yan said coldly, glancing at the men and signaling the special department members behind him to take him away. Watching the men being led away dejectedly, Lu Yongjun felt a surge of elation and spat, serves you right. That's what you get for breaking the law. Having vented his frustration, Lu Yongjun was immensely grateful to Shen Wang and Shi Yan. Thank you both so much. Without you, I might have really been deceived. That scammer was just too detestable. Shen Wang smiled and said nonchalantly, just doing my job for the payment. Shi Yan glanced at Shen Wang but said nothing. Regardless of what Shen Wang said, he had been a great help. Lu Yongjun was well aware of this and kept expressing his heartfelt thanks. Shen Wang casually responded while sending his bank account details to Lu Yongjun, instructing him to register with the special department before transferring the money. After getting a confirmation from Lu Yongjun, Shen Wang promptly left, handing Lu Yongjun a talisman for peace and cleansing the yin energy from his body as he went. With that, the haunted villa issue was completely resolved. Standing by the roadside, pondering how to get home, Shen Wang saw Shi Yan silently walk to his car, get in, and started in one fluid motion. Shen Wang's eyes lit up. He quickly opened the passenger door and hopped in. You remember my address, right? Give me a lift, please. Shi Yan. Seemingly coming to a decision, Shi Yan smoothly started the car, his face wearing a perfect smile, his voice gentle. Fasten your seatbelt. I'll take you home. Shen Wang was taken aback, beginning to wonder if he had gotten into the wrong car. Clutching the seatbelt, he warily asked, You're taking me home? Right to my doorstep. Shi Yan's smile was tender, his voice even softer, of course. It's late, and it's not convenient for you to go back alone. Shen Wang felt goosebumps all over, his eyes widening in alarm. You've had your subordinates take the criminal away. Don't you need to go back to the special department for overtime work? Shi Yan casually remarked, all he needs to do is take the person back, lock them up, and we will handle it when we resume work tomorrow. Shen Wang's gaze rested on Shi Yan with a hint of suspicion. After a moment, he suddenly asked, are you asking for a favor from me? Otherwise, why would his attitude be so strange? Shi Yan, focusing on the road ahead, maintained a composed demeanor. How could that be? Am I the type to fawn over someone just because I need a favor? Shen Wang rolled his eyes. Why wouldn't you be? Sensing Shen Wang's skepticism, Shi Yan hesitated before conceding. All right, I admit I do need your help. I thought as much, Shen Wang replied with a cold chuckle. So, what is it? After a brief silence, Shi Yan slowly said, have you heard of the National Metaphysical Competition? Shen Wang was puzzled. What's that? Every 4 years, a world metaphysical competition is held where young cultivators under 35 from various countries compete. The top 3 teams win prizes provided by the host country. Before the World Metaphysical Competition, a national metaphysical competition is held domestically to select the best and brightest talents. After hearing Shi Yan's explanation, Shen Wang nodded and asked, what does this have to do with me? I'd like you to represent the special department and participate in the competition. Shi Yan sighed softly, his expression tinged with a hint of melancholy. In the past, the competitors were always selected from the Metaphysical Association and our special department. Compared to the well-established Metaphysical Association, the special department was far behind in strength and lacked talented individuals. This situation led to the special department, despite government backing, being subtly overshadowed by the Metaphysical Association. Seeing Shi Yan's hopeful gaze fixed on him, Shen Wang's initial reaction was, sounds troublesome, I don't want to go. Such a thankless task that only earned reputation was not in line with Shen Wang's way of doing things. Especially since it wasn't just a national competition, but, as Shi Yan hinted, there was also a world competition. Shen Wang felt a deep aversion. A 10,000-year-old spiritual plant. Shen Wang. Shi Yan glanced at Shen Wang, revealing his final card. If you win the championship, the main headquarters of the special department will open its treasury for you to choose 3 treasures. The blogger known as Star Talk was confirmed to have had relations with a minor, was arrested, and his reputation collapsed overnight. His account was banned by the live streaming platform, resulting in a total internet blackout. Although the other culprits weren't involved in such severe malicious acts, they had still swindled a significant amount of money. They were arrested by the police, their accounts cancelled, and they were no longer able to deceive others. These individuals, who attempted to gain popularity by stepping on Shen Wang, ended up exposing their own illegal activities and were ultimately imprisoned. The irony of their situation was filled with dramatic contrast. When the announcements of their arrests were published, the netizens who had been misled earlier started commenting. Serves them right. Congratulations to at Star Talk, at Wu Zhouyi, at Qing Qing Tarot, and at Fortune Teller, on receiving a pair of silver bracelets, handcuffs. Hopefully, you'll reform yourselves in prison and become better people. My Shen Gu does have some metaphysical aura. How dare these nobodies try to challenge him? Too audacious. Ha ha ha, they tried to debunk Shen Ji's metaphysical persona, but ended up being debunked by Shen Gu himself. No one does it like Shen Gu, truly formidable. Exploiting metaphysics to cheat people of money and affection, it's about time these frauds were arrested. Amidst the netizens' schadenfreude, various live streaming platforms conducted self-inspections and banned accounts promoting feudal superstitions, curbing the arrogance of online fraudsters. This left the implicated fraudsters furious, cursing those few peers who had stirred up trouble. However, no one dared to secretly curse Shen Wang anymore, fearing they too might be caught and end up in prison. Amidst the chaos, few noticed that as some broadcasters were banned from the platforms, a new wave of broadcasters registered, taking the place of those banned frauds. Yen revealed a smile befitting a supreme villain. Before, officials didn't have the resources to manage online affairs, so these people kept exploiting loopholes. Now I've decided to let professionals handle it. Shen Wang curiously asked, what do you mean? A glint appeared in Yan's eyes, his tone calm. I've arranged for our professionals to conduct metaphysical education. If practitioners of the metaphysical world don't seize the narrative on online platforms, there will always be people misusing the guise of metaphysics to deceive others. Professional matters should be handled by professionals. Hearing Yan's plan, Shen Wang was impressed. That's a great idea. I support you in spirit. This plan was indeed well suited to the circumstances and perfectly aligned with the rules of this world. After discussing this matter, Yan turned to Shen Wang. So, have you made your decision? Shen Wang, still marveling at Yan's initiative and ambition, was taken aback. So, this was your main purpose for coming today, and passing on the news was just incidental. Yan nodded readily, matter-of-factly stating, you've been considering it for several days now. Shen Wang, feeling the pressure from Yan's expectant gaze, pondered for a few seconds. I have a few conditions. Okay, state them. Yan responded immediately, his eyes lighting up as Shen Wang showed willingness to negotiate. First, I want decision-making power over the team, to avoid being held back by incompetent teammates. Yan agreed without hesitation, no problem. Second, you can't interfere with any of my actions. Yan's brow furrowed slightly, but he still nodded, agreed. Third, Shen Wang looked straight at Yan. I want another visit to the treasury to pick 3 items. Yan's mouth twitched. You'll get victory rewards and access to the main headquarters treasury to choose 3 items if you win. That's all after the competition, a promissory note from you. Shen Wang grinned. What I want now is your earnest money and sincerity. Just say whether you'll give it or not. What could Yan do but agree? Deal. After all, treasures, although rare, were not as exceptional as an overwhelmingly powerful ace like Shen Wang. Chapter 92. Having gleefully negotiated his terms with Shen Wang was eager to visit the special department's treasury right away. Yan felt a mix of emotions but had to accept it. After all, Shen Wang was free to redeem the agreed conditions whenever he wished, even if it was a bit sooner than expected. As Yan escorted Shen Wang back to the special department, he watched Shen Wang charge into the treasury like a hungry tiger. Yan lowered his head, rubbing his temples, pretending to see nothing. Shen Wang, entering the treasury, was oblivious to Yan's complex emotions, and even if he were aware, he wouldn't have cared much. Upon entering the treasury again, Shen Wang took a deep breath, soaking in the spiritual energy in the air, and began to select treasures meticulously. This time, his objective was crystal clear. He was looking for materials suitable for crafting artifacts. The Xian Jade Immortal Book in his mind woke up, whispering its request, I want spiritual plants. Shen Wang's eyelid twitched, trying to reason with the book. Next time. Before he could finish, the Xian Jade Immortal Book started sobbing. I became like this for whom? Isn't it all for you? Following you to this backwater place, I can't even get a decent meal. Listening to the Xian Jade Immortal Book's whimpers in his mind, and unable to mute it, Shen Wang closed his eyes tightly, then reopened them, conceding, I'll find you one spiritual plant, no more. After a negotiation full of verbal sparring, Shen Wang emerged triumphantly over the book. Finding the area with spiritual plants, Shen Wang carefully selected one brimming with spiritual energy. In his mind, the Xian Jade Immortal Book drooled over the remaining plants. Can I eat all these? I promise to leave no trace, or we could sneak in at night, like we did that time at Qingqing Mountain's treasury. Grabbing the items and ready to leave, the Xian Jade Immortal Book was confident that no one in this world could stop its master. Listening to his book's villainous remarks, Shen Wang had nothing to say. You know, a minor villain like you wouldn't last more than 3 episodes. The Xian Jade Immortal Book hummed and hawed, its gaze lingering on those spiritual plants, and finally let out a long sigh, its entire being dimming. All right, I get it. I'll be a good book. While conversing internally with the Xian Jade Immortal Book, Shen Wang navigated through the treasury, searching for his desired artifact crafting materials. After much searching, Shen Wang passed by variously shaped jade stones and stopped in front of a nondescript little black stone. The Xian Jade Immortal Book glanced at it, asking puzzledly, Master, are you planning to switch to being a sword cultivator? Otherwise, why would he focus on the sword-releasing stone? The sword-releasing stone is a type of ore capable of absorbing sword intent. For most cultivators, it's of little use, but it's valuable to sword cultivators with developed sword intent. In the world of cultivation, those battle-crazed sword cultivators would place a massive sword-releasing stone in their sects, releasing their sword intent onto it daily to temper their sword hearts. Shen Wang didn't respond. The Xian Jade Immortal Book fluttered its pages. Such a small sword-releasing stone isn't much use. Attacking such a small stone would require controlling the sword intent to an incredibly delicate degree, just a bit too much and the stone would shatter. Shen Wang picked up the palm-sized stone, tossing it in his hand. This thing is common in the world of cultivation, but rare here. After speaking, Shen Wang picked up a large yellow ore, patted it satisfactorily, and left the treasury with his selected items. Familiarly instructing the treasury staff to record his items, Shen Wang played with the sword-releasing stone in his hand, looking pleased. Yan glanced over, the Sun Moon Snow Ginseng, Sand Mother Stone, and this, little black stone. Yan recognized the first 2 items, but the last one, the little black stone, surprised him. Do you know how to use this thing? This little black stone had been handed over to the special department for several years now, and the researchers had yet to figure out its use. It looked like an ordinary stone, yet faintly pulsed with spiritual energy. Realizing his subordinate's peculiar gaze, Yan couldn't maintain his smile and hissed, he's not a sword cultivator, what does he need that for? Use your brain. The Xian Jade Immortal Book barely filled its pages with the Sun Moon Snow Ginseng before slowly closing its cover and drifting back to sleep. Knowing that the Xian Jade Immortal Book was fine and merely conserving energy through sleep, Shen Wang didn't worry much. He played with the sword-releasing stone in his hand and sent a message to Gu Dongting. As expected, Gu Dongting didn't reply. Shen Wang tossed the sword-releasing stone up and caught it, smirking mischievously. Since you're not replying, I'll take it as your consent. He already had an idea for the sword he would give to Gu Dongting. After some thought, Shen Wang also messaged Xiao Hego, informing him of his plans to go into seclusion for a few days, just in case he was needed urgently. Xiao Hego responded immediately, why the sudden decision to go into seclusion? Shen Wang was candid, explaining his participation in the national Xuanxue competition and added, such a national competition is full of hidden talents. I need to prepare in advance to avoid any unforeseen failures. Xiao Hego didn't reply. Just as Shen Wang was about to put away his phone, he suddenly thought to ask, do you know about this competition? Anything I should be wary of? While Gu Dongting and Shi Yan could provide information on the standard procedures and rules, Shen Wang thought that Xiao Hego, straddling both righteous and unorthodox paths, might have more insider information. Indeed, Xiao Hego replied, with your skills, winning the championship shouldn't be a problem. The competitors are all under 35. But. After sending just but, Xiao Heji's message showed that he was still typing, piquing Shen Wang's curiosity. He prompted, but what? There seems to be someone causing trouble behind the scenes in this Xuanxue competition. Be careful. If things go as expected, Tang Jiu will also participate in this competition. Shen Wang's eyes narrowed slightly as he read Xiao Heji's message. It then vaguely dawned on him that the protagonist, Tang Jiu, seemed to have gained fame through participating in a competition, later interacting with foreign cultivators. In the original storyline, Shen Wang was supposed to have been long dead by now. Having his blood replaced by Tang Jiu, he died silently in a hospital, unknown to anyone. Only his brother Li Pingping and sister Lu Yu remembered him, tirelessly seeking the truth behind his death. Meanwhile, Tang Jiu had moved on, gaining international fame and reaching the pinnacle of his life. Shen Wang didn't take the novel's plot to heart. Canon fodder or not, he believed in his ability to defy fate with his strength. As for the plot following his death, Shen Wang only skimmed through it. It mainly involved Tang Jiu's romantic entanglements, acquiring rare treasures, and receiving various aids. He couldn't be bothered to remember all that. Enlightened by Xiao Heji's reminder, Shen Wang realized, so that's how it is. It was all to prepare for Tang Jiu's impressive performance. In the original story, Tang Jiu represented the Xuanxue Association in the competition, triumphing over various challenges, romantically entwined with fellow competitor Gu Manling, and ultimately winning the championship. Xiao Hego seemed somewhat worried. Tang Jiu is not simple. Don't underestimate him and be very careful. Protagonists always seem weak but are capable of overpowering stronger opponents, like indestructible cockroaches. Shen Wang agreed, you're right, I'll be careful. Thank you for informing me about this, I'll prepare thoroughly. Putting down his phone, Shen Wang scoffed. He didn't believe that after all his efforts to suppress Tang Jiu, the latter could still have the same unbelievable fortune as in the original story. After his laughter, Shen Wang immediately prepared for the weapon forging, determined to have his weapon ready before the competition. He mentally despised his opponents but took them seriously in his actions, resolute not to be a minor character. Meanwhile, Gu Dongting, upon receiving Shen Wang's message, was lost in thought. How could he forget the Xuanxue competition? It was the first formal encounter with Tang Jiu in his past life, the starting point of their enmity. As the righteous leader of the Xuanxue world, Gu Dongting, although under 35, didn't need to participate in the competition, instead serving as a judge. During the competition, Gu Dongting was shocked to find his obedient and adorable younger sister inexplicably close to a seemingly frivolous and flirtatious man, even showing signs of budding romance. Gu Dongting didn't immediately intervene. After investigating Tang Jiu's past relationships, he quickly took Gu Manling back to their family home. Confronted with Tang Jiu's flirtatiousness, Gu Manling erupted in anger at Gu Dongting, accusing him of being a feudal patriarch and violating others' privacy. Subsequently, Gu Dongting, acting as a stern enforcer, harshly disrupted the lovebirds, only to solidify Tang Jiu and Gu Manling's relationship, culminating in Tang Jiu's splendid victory and championship in the Xuanxue competition. Recalling these events, Gu Dongting's eyes flashed red, a faint red mole appearing under his right eye, quickly vanishing unnoticed by others. Gu Dongting struggled to suppress his dark emotions, clutching his chest, his strong fingers gripping a piece of his shirt. He could feel another Gu Dongting struggling to break free. Why now, of all times? Gu Dongting thought with frustration. Chapter 93. Shen Wang reviewed his hard-earned savings. In the backyard, under the nurturing aura of the gathering spirit formation, the Qinghan stone shed its rough exterior, becoming smooth and translucent, and the flowing gold stone sparkled even brighter. The spiritual plants exchanged from the Xuanxue Association had grown considerably. Upon closer inspection, the two little spirit bees still looked chubby, resembling the cartoon bees seen in animations, with their small black and yellow fluffy fur and tiny transparent wings on their backs. Compared to before, these two little creatures had grown slightly larger and plumper, looking innocent and harmless. Seems like they've been eating quite a lot. Shen Wang played with the spirit bees with his fingertip before placing them on a nearby spiritual plant. Unlike ordinary bees, spirit bees can not only feed on nectar but also nibble on tender leaves. That's why Shen Wang could leave them unattended in the backyard. By now, they no longer looked wilted and listless as they did when they first met, but were lively and full of energy. After checking the growth of the spiritual plants, Shen Wang reactivated the defensive formation and sat down cross-legged in his usual cultivation spot, his gaze falling on the Qinghan stone. Qinghan stone, Lu Jin stone, thousand-year thunderstruck wood, shamushi, along with everything looted from the Qingqing mountain treasury, were scattered on the ground. Shen Wang, resting his chin in his hand, looked at his spoils and picked up a palm-sized Jijian stone, taking a deep breath. Without proper fire, I'll have to grind it slowly. Without a refining furnace or spiritual fire, it was Shen Wang's first time refining under such difficult conditions. Tossing the Jijian stone into the air, Shen Wang slowly closed his eyes. Blue flames appeared over his head and shoulders, floating upwards and eventually merging into one. Everyone is born with 3 soul flames, but these flames are not only connected to one's destiny, they also don't have much use. Humans, unlike demonic cultivators, aren't born with the ability to control beast fire. Without special methods, it's hard to summon soul fire. Shen Wang knew how to use soul fire because it was mentioned in the Xian Jade Immortal book, in a recipe for using soul fire in alchemy. Soul fire, unlike other more powerful types of yang fire, took a while to melt the Jijian stone. Shen Wang was well prepared for this and focused intently, carefully removing impurities. Only after the pure black Jijian stone melted into a small pool of black liquid did Shen Wang seize the right moment to add the other materials he had prepared. Red gems, green stones, and even crystal clear transparent stones, no matter their color, they all disappeared without a trace once merged into the black liquid. As more items were added, the initially small amount of black liquid gradually expanded, then slowly shrank under the fire's refinement, finally becoming a single large drop smaller than the original mass. A lychee-sized black liquid twisted and deformed in the air, gradually taking the shape of a small sword. As the liquid-formed small sword solidified and hardened, falling into Shen Wang's hand, a full 7 days had passed. The tiny sword, only the size of 2 fingers, appeared like a delicate little toy, entirely in a matte black color. Its darkness was profound, without a single reflection, as if it could swallow any color. Shen Wang let out a long sigh, not bad. The result was much better than he had imagined. Placing the black little sword aside, Shen Wang sat in meditation to restore his spiritual power, then turned his attention back to the materials. The sword promised to Gu Dongting had been forged, and now it was time to prepare a weapon for himself. This time in seclusion, Shen Wang had disappeared for a whole month. Just when Yan began to suspect he had taken something and run away, Shen Wang finally contacted him, unhurried. He had promised to make Shen Wang the team captain. Without the captain, how could the other participants from the special department go ahead? Shen Wang admired his masterpiece for a while before selecting the black small sword and setting it aside. Then, Shen Wang pricked his middle finger with the small sword and smeared the bead of blood on the other 3 swords. In an instant, the blood on the sword's blades was absorbed completely, leaving them as pristine as new. Upon closer inspection, the already beautiful swords seemed even more striking, as if they were given a finishing touch, now radiating a special aura. Shen Wang swallowed the 3 small swords in one gulp and chuckled, a set of 5-element swords, now I've gathered metal, wood, and earth, only missing water and fire. The 3 small swords quietly hung in his dantian, forming a cycle with the spiritual energy of wood, fire, and earth, significantly speeding up his cultivation. After laughing, Shen Wang realized that Xiao Gu, who always responded to requests, hadn't contacted him for a month. Something seemed to flicker in his mind, but it was quickly dismissed. Shen Wang also sent a message about his emergence from seclusion to Xiao Gu. He must be busy. After all, Xiao Gu always had an elusive presence, mysterious and traceless. Yan booked a flight for Shen Wang for the next day. With little time to spare, Shen Wang quickly tidied up the backyard, handed the house keys to Li Pingping and others, and then hurriedly met up with Yan and the rest to head to the capital for the national competition. Seeing the few participants at the airport, Shen Wang was at a loss for words. Only you guys are competing. Yes. Long time no see, brother Shen. Everyone present was an acquaintance. Besides Yan, there was Xie Qingming, the head of the Demon Extermination Department, and his subordinate, the captain of the first team of the Demon Extermination Department, Huang Guqiang. The last person was Qin Yurong, whom he hadn't seen for a while. Qin Yurong greeted Shen Wang cheerfully, his previously blonde hair now dyed back to black, looking much more mature. Woo, brother Shen, I've missed you so much, did you miss me? Shen Wang. Not that much more mature. Chapter 94. It had been a while since Qin Yurong had seen Shen Wang, and he was so excited that he wanted to give him a bear hug but was evasively avoided. Without a word, Shen Wang's actions clearly expressed his refusal. Brother Shen, you've changed. You weren't like this before. Towards me, you used to. Qin Yurong couldn't help but cover his face, feigning tears. Mid-sentence, he suddenly realized something was amiss, it seems, not really different. Remembering Shen Wang's previous attitude towards him, Qin Yurong sadly found that it was no different from now, equally disdainful. He lifted his head, trying to find a trace of remaining friendship in Shen Wang's eyes. Brother Shen, if Brother Gu wanted a hug, would you grant his wish? Shen Wang paused, not speaking, but returned a meaningful glance to Qin Yurong. Yan couldn't bear to watch anymore, patting Qin Yurong's shoulder. Why do you humiliate yourself like this? Qin Yurong, I overestimated myself. If he had any self-awareness, he wouldn't have asked such a question. Qin Yurong smiled bitterly, sighing exaggeratedly. Seeing his amusing demeanor, the rest burst into laughter, even the typically stoic Xie Qingming cracked a smile. With Qin Yurong around, the group's atmosphere was relaxed and cheerful, making the time on the plane less tedious. Arriving in the capital, they took a taxi to the official hotel for the national competition, just in time for dinner. In a hurry, Shen Wang and the others quickly stowed their luggage in their rooms without familiarizing themselves with the surroundings, and headed straight for the hotel's restaurant, ready to indulge themselves. Just as they reached the entrance of the dining hall, they encountered several other competitors. The opponents, brash and arrogant, blocked the entrance to the hotel's restaurant, looking down their noses. Is this all the special department has brought? Shen Wang's brows raised. Of the 5 people opposite, most were unfamiliar faces, but there were 2 he recognized, one exceedingly familiar. Yan's brows furrowed slightly. Zhao Hang, if I'm not mistaken, you're from the Baiyun Temple in the capital. Clearly a member of Baiyun Temple, yet mixing with people from the Metaphysical Society, and from different divisions at that. The man named Zhao Hang scoffed. So what if I am? You, a demoted man, what right do you have to question this? Yan's expression froze slightly, as if he was beyond caring about face. He had known that the Metaphysical Society borrowed people from cooperating sects, but he hadn't expected them to be so unabashed, not only borrowing across regions but doing so without any cover. Watching Yan's displeased expression, Zhao Hang feigned sudden realization. Now that you're with the special department, can your department even muster up a full team? It won't be like the last few competitions, right? Unable to gather enough people and having to form a scratch team, only to be eliminated in the first round. Before Yan could respond, Qin Yurong jumped up in dissatisfaction. Who do you think you are? With your early balding, wrinkled face, and murky eyes, you're old enough to compete. A man in his 40s or 50s babbling on and on, do you even behave like a man? What our special department does is none of your business. With your yellowed eyes and the look of overindulgence on your face, better take care of yourself and don't drop dead in bed. With sharp words, Qin Yurong left Zhao Hang fuming and flustered. Who the hell are you? Which sect do you belong to? Do you know I am from Baiyun Temple? Qin Yurong rolled his eyes. So what if you're from Baiyun Temple? Don't tell me you're like a giant baby, running back to your master crying when you lose an argument. Then your Baiyun temple must really be idle, meddling in every trivial matter. Unlike our special department, we're always swamped with missions, busy saving lives. For every word Zhao Hang said, Qing Yurong had 3 in retort. In just a few sentences, Zhao Hang went from a promising Baiyun temple disciple to a bald, decrepit old man, and even a giant baby. His face changing colors, realizing he couldn't gain the upper hand today, he glared at the members of the special department. We're all cultivators, what's the point in verbal sparring here? Show your real skills on the competition field. In the past, Shi Yan might not have taken the bait, but today, with Shen Wang behind him, he felt exceptionally confident. You're not even worthy. Shen Wang watched their verbal duel, his gaze lingering on Tang Jiu, thoughtful. In the original text, Tang Jiu was the captain of the Metaphysical Society's Western Division, a rising star and undoubtedly a dark horse, dazzling the audience. But now, although Tang Jiu appeared in the Metaphysical Society's team, he was just an ordinary member, overshadowed by the parachuted reinforcements, lacking any protagonist's aura. Shen Wang raised an eyebrow, finally turning his attention to the provoking Zhao Hang. You want a match? Then let's not lose face. How about raising the stakes a bit? Stakes. Zhao Hang, who was confronting Shi Yan, was taken aback, turning his gaze to Shen Wang for the first time. It was just a casual glance, but it made him startle in alarm. When Zhao Hang initially saw Shi Yan and his group approaching, his attention was entirely on Shi Yan, barely noticing the others, with only the slightly stronger aura of Xie Qingming warranting his attention. Upon seeing Shen Wang, Zhao Hang couldn't believe how he had overlooked such a person. A tall and slender figure, a face so handsome it was flawless, a seemingly lazy demeanor that belied no aggression, yet his eyes were profoundly deep, as if nothing mattered to him. Proud and lazy, like a giant tiger basking in the sun, easily mistaken for a harmless cat, but ready to strike lethally when someone got too close. As the other party remained silent, Shen Wang couldn't help but ask, have you suddenly gone deaf? Zhao Hang snapped back to reality, warily eyeing Shen Wang. What stakes do you want? Don't worry, I'm not a devil, Shen Wang said with a grin, baring his teeth. I think the sword at your waist looks quite nice. Zhao Hang couldn't believe Shen Wang dared to ask for so much, scoffing. Do you know how precious my sword is? It's a treasure forged by a master craftsman. You think you can just swindle it away with sweet talk? What a joke. This sword, a treasure. Shen Wang scoffed. If you had anything else of value for stakes, I wouldn't even bother looking at this worthless blade. Only someone as unsophisticated as you would treasure a sword devoid of any spiritual energy. This is a treasure specifically found for me by my master. Zhao Hang, enraged that Shen Wang disdained his most treasured possession, retorted, you're just a country bumpkin, ignorant of the world. What do you know about treasures? I hadn't seen you before. I wonder from which ancient tomb the special department dug you up. Is this your first time in a 5-star hotel? Do you even know how to use an elevator? Have you ever eaten such fine food before? Before Zhao Hang could finish, a man in a black suit approached. He scanned the crowd and finally turned to Shen Wang. Excuse me, are you Mr. Shen Wang? A question mark popped above Shen Wang's head. Hello, I am the manager of this hotel. You are a special guest. The top floor suite is reserved for you. We will deliver meals to your room, so you need not come out personally, the hotel manager said respectfully and politely. Shen Wang was taken aback. His first reaction was to look at Shi Yan. Shi Yan was also bewildered. It's not me, I don't know what's going on. With nearly 1,000 competitors participating, booking this hotel was already a feat. Presidential or VIP suites were usually reserved for senior sect members or judges, not for competitors. Especially since no other competitor received such treatment, only Shen Wang. The hotel manager, noticing their confusion, explained with a smile, Mr. Shen, our young master specifically instructed that within our properties, you are a special guest, entitled to the highest priority. Young master. Shen Wang could only think of one young master he knew, Liang Ruri. No, that's not right. The Liang family has no ties with the metaphysical world, and it's unlikely they would sponsor a metaphysical competition. A thought suddenly struck Shen Wang, and his eyes brightened. Is your young master also in the hotel now? The hotel manager smiled without answering. Mr. Shen, if you need anything, please feel free to contact me. I'm at your full service. Watching the manager's retreating figure, Zhao Hang's face looked as if he'd been kicked by a donkey. Just a second ago, he had called Shen Wang a country bumpkin who hadn't seen the world, and then the manager suddenly appeared. He even suspected that the men overheard their conversation and intentionally chose that moment to intervene. Feeling like he was choking, unable to swallow or spit it out, Zhao Hang felt like he was about to cough up blood. Shen Wang, with a smiling gaze, watched Zhao Hang's displeased expression, adding, are you afraid of losing, so you dare not bet? How could that be possible? Zhao Hang immediately retorted without thinking, with the capabilities of your special department, even 10 years wouldn't be enough to defeat me. As he spoke, Zhao Hang also realized something. Stakes are stakes, but they only matter if you lose. But this was a guaranteed win for him, so what was there to fear? Realizing this, Zhao Hang puffed up his chest again. Let's bet. If you lose, I don't want anything from you. All I want is for the people from your special department to kowtow to me 3 times, run around the hotel 3 times, shouting that the special department is inferior to the metaphysical society, that the special department is trash. Zhao Hang thought his idea was brilliant, excitedly looking at Shen Wang and his group, more eager about the bet than Shen Wang. Do you dare to bet? That's a big bet. Shen Wang hesitated. Are you a man or not, dare you bet? Zhao Hang, becoming anxious, raised the stakes. If I lose, not only will my sword be yours, but I'll also bow to you and run 3 laps downstairs. How about that? Shen Wang revealed a smile. Deal. After finalizing their agreement with Zhao Hang, the 2 groups went their separate ways. Watching them leave, Shen Wang couldn't help but exclaim, I've never seen someone so eager to bow to me. Shi Yan and Xie Qingming, who were initially apprehensive, exchanged a look and couldn't help but laugh as well. Quickly putting the matter aside, Shen Wang and his group swiftly had dinner, ready to return to their rooms. Shen Wang's room had been moved to the top floor. After bidding farewell to Shi Yan and the others, he entered a separate elevator alone. After swiping his room card for the floor, the elevator doors were about to close slowly. Suddenly, a hand stopped the door, and several people boisterously entered. Seeing Shen Wang, these clearly older individuals showed a hint of surprise in their eyes, but no one said anything, each continuing their conversations. I wonder if there will be any fresh faces rising this time. It's always the same few people over and over, it's getting tiresome. I'm afraid this time, it will still be the metaphysical society and those major sects dominating the top ranks. For small schools and sects, it's not easy to make a name. Gu Taoist, you're among the younger generation. Have you noticed any promising newcomers worth looking out for? Gu Dongting, conversing indifferently, suddenly felt something slipped into his palm, causing a momentary pause in his speech. Taoist Gu, what's the matter? Gu Dongting, unfazed, continued, ensure the competition procedures are thoroughly checked, take protective measures, especially with the ghost props, which need to be triple checked before use in the competition. Calmly and methodically arranging tasks, Gu Dongting clenched the item suddenly placed in his hand. A finger, seemingly accidentally, was also enclosed within his palm. The finger, as if in protest or playfulness, scratched the palm like a nimble little snake, entwining Gu Dongting's fingertips before swiftly letting go, as if nothing had happened. Gu Dongting tightened his grip, feeling the object that was slipped into his hand cold, hard, seemingly the shape of a small sword. I will provide the live broadcasting equipment, ensuring the maximum safety of the participants. It will also allow for online streaming, offering a clearer assessment of the participants' abilities. The elevator arrived, and Gu Dongting, still speaking, walked out with the surrounding people. Shen Wang also exited, brushing past Gu Dongting. Both looking straight ahead, neither turned back nor greeted each other, as if they were strangers who had just met by chance. The metaphysical elites, earnestly discussing competition matters with Gu Dongting, were unaware of what transpired in the moment these two brushed past each other. Their fingertips grazed each other. A touch so light, so swift, like an accidental collision, leaving behind only a faint warmth. Chapter 95. Gu Dongting, seemingly nonchalant as he bid farewell to others, felt his heartbeat slightly lose its rhythm the moment he closed the door to his room. Looking down, he saw a toy-like small sword lying in his palm. The pure black sword, in stark contrast with his pale, jade-like fingers, made the sword appear even darker and his skin even more luminous. Carefully picking up the small sword, Gu Dongting cherished it, examining it closely, guessing it might be a decorative pendant, a gift from Shen Wang. Suddenly remembering something, he searched the room, found his neglected phone, and opened the messaging app, indeed seeing messages from Shen Wang. The previous messages were informing him about the end of Shen Wang's seclusion. The latest message was, drop blood on the blade of the small sword. Gu Dongting, puzzled but curious, followed Shen Wang's instruction, biting his fingertip and dripping a drop of blood on the blade of the black sword. Just as he was about to inquire, the small sword flickered, greedily absorbing the drop of blood, and Gu Dongting's pupils contracted. He felt an inexplicable connection forming between him and the sword. Gu Dongting's heart nearly stopped for a moment, his composure slipping for the first time. Is this a magical weapon? In modern society, weapons used by cultivators are called magical weapons, but in the ancient times of the metaphysical world, there was another kind of treasure. Blood recognition, flying through the sky, moving mountains and seas. The magical weapons of those times were almost like fantastical creations. Gu Dongting, a swordsman, had hands that were exceptionally beautiful in shape and color, with distinct joints, slender and strong, as fair and elegant as carved jade. Only by touching them could one feel the roughness that belied their beautiful appearance. It was the thin layer of calluses formed from years of holding a sword. The calluses brushing against Shen Wang's fingertips left a tingling sensation that started at his fingers and tickled its way to his heart. Shen Wang suddenly buried his head in the covers, covering his flushed ears. As he lay there, annoyed with himself for impulsively teasing Gu Dongting, there was a knock at the door. Shen Wang sprang up from the bed, asking irritably, who is it? As he opened the door, the face that unsettled his heartbeat appeared before his eyes. About to blurt out a retort, Shen Wang suddenly found himself at a loss for words, managing to squeeze out, why did you come here? Feeling his tone was too gentle, Shen Wang hurriedly added, I mean, aren't you busy? Gu Dongting, as if he hadn't heard Shen Wang's words, extended his hand, displaying the black small sword in his palm. This magical weapon is too precious, you shouldn't have given it to me. Shen Wang's gaze fell on Gu Dongting's palm. Gu Dongting continued, having a magical weapon can significantly enhance your strength. Gu Dongting's words suddenly halted, and he tilted his head in confusion, looking at Shen Wang. Shen Wang, touching Gu Dongting's hand and not letting go, instead explored it further, like a child discovering a beloved toy, innocently remarking, you have sword calluses on your hand. Feeling his hand being examined, Gu Dongting involuntarily curled his fingers, a bit uneasy. I'm a swordsman, of course I have sword calluses. Right, you're a swordsman. Shen Wang released Gu Dongting's hand and looked up with a smile, so this sword was custom made for you. Give it a try. Gu Dongting pursed his lips, his fingertips twitching slightly as if to shake off the lingering tickle, but he ended up just gripping the small sword more tightly. With a casual movement, the toy-sized sword suddenly expanded, transforming into a full-sized black long sword. The length and size were similar to Gu Dongting's usual sword but slightly heavier. Effortlessly spinning the sword, its sharpness was extraordinary. Intending to unleash a sword strike, Gu Dongting paused, realizing his usually fluid sword intent felt awkward and sluggish, as if mired in mud. Gu Dongting tried several times to channel his sword intent, each attempt yielding the same result, leaving him bewildered as he turned to Shen Wang. Shen Wang chuckled proudly, puffing out his chest as he explained, it contains a sword-resolving stone that refines your sword intent. Impressive, isn't it? Gu Dongting looked at the long sword in his hand and then back at Shen Wang, his expression complex. While other people's magical treasures enhance their master's strength, the one in Gu Dongting's hand seemed to have his combat power. Gu Dongting reluctantly nodded, impressive, a very unique design. He wondered which ingenious artifact smith had crafted such a piece, thinking that if they took on commissions, their stall would probably be overturned by the crowd. Shen Wang's eyes sparkled, you must really like this high-class, understated, and meaningful black color, right? Gu Dongting nodded with difficulty, I do. He didn't have a particular preference for colors. Since the Gu family's cultivation attire was white, he had always worn white. But black. Gu Dongting was sure he had never revealed his liking for black to anyone. So why did Shen Wang think he liked black? Gu Dongting was puzzled. But, seeing Shen Wang's lively expression, a smile crept into Gu Dongting's eyes. I do quite like black. At least he didn't dislike it. I know, Shen Wang nodded confidently. How could he not know? Gu Dongting had told him himself. When he first found out, Shen Wang was also surprised. Given Gu Dongting's perpetual attire in plain white, Shen Wang didn't understand if his liking meant something different from the ordinary. Casting away the moment's confusion, Shen Wang excitedly watched Gu Dongting practice with the sword, feeling utterly satisfied. Several times Gu Dongting felt like he was performing a monkey show, but seeing Shen Wang's excitement, he went through the motions. He took it as making Shen Wang happy. Gu Dongting, wielding the sword in flashy, dance-like movements he would never normally perform, looked beautiful yet practically useless in actual combat. Only when Shen Wang had his fill did Gu Dongting stop this meaningless show-off, solemnly thanking Shen Wang with his sword in hand. If you ever need anything, I will oblige. Without waiting for Shen Wang's response, he left. Left alone in the room, Shen Wang was startled, then fell backward onto the bed, laughing, so serious. Unspoken yet heartfelt, his cold, firm-like expression while giving thanks was unexpectedly moving. Back in his room, the black long sword in Gu Dongting's hand reverted to its small, two-finger-sized form. As he pondered how to wear the small sword, it transformed into a streak of light and flew into his body. Inside his dantian, a pure black long sword now appeared. So this is the ancient magical weapon, Gu Dongting murmured to himself, his eyes sparkling with a bright light, my cultivation, like a drop in the ocean. A great fighting spirit was ignited in Gu Dongting's heart. It was said that this was the era of decline, where modern people couldn't compare to even a fraction of their ancient counterparts. However, he believed that no matter the era or circumstances, each had its own opportunities. Modern people might not necessarily be inferior to the ancients. But, a flicker of contemplation passed through Gu Dongting's eyes. He felt that something about him had been unusual lately. He vaguely knew what had happened during this period, yet it seemed like looking at flowers through fog, only remembering the gist, without noticing anything unusual. Could it be deviation? Or the influence of inner demons? Gu Dongting's brows furrowed even more. His cultivation, however, showed no issues and had even improved. Unable to figure it out, Gu Dongting decided to take things one step at a time, his eyes calm. Whatever happened, as a swordsman, his only choice was to face challenges head-on. After resting in the hotel for a few days, the national metaphysical competition officially began. The organizers sent the location of the competition to the contestants via text message, directing them to the venue. Shen Wang, who had been simply following Shi Yan's lead without much thought, only felt the reality of the situation as he stood on the competition grounds. Looking at the undulating mountains and forests before him, Shen Wang was stunned. Did the metaphysical competition rent several mountains? Shi Yan, didn't you read the information I sent you? Shen Wang avoided Shi Yan's gaze, looking around to change the subject. There are so many people here. Indeed, the place was crowded, teeming with people. Among the crowd were monks, Taoists, people dressed like ordinary citizens, and even some in tattered clothes resembling beggars. Shen Wang also encountered a few acquaintances. His former teammates from the entrance exam, except for the youngest monk, all were present, the chubby Chen Jiming, the geomancer Lin Yan, and the Miaojiang youth Siko, all standing there together. Upon seeing Shen Wang, his former teammates eagerly pushed through the crowd to his side. Brother Shen. I knew you'd be in the competition. The chubby Chen Jiming, in particular, was overjoyed, greeting Shen Wang excitedly. Brother Shen, do you have a team? Want to join ours? Shen Wang eyed Chen Jiming, skeptically noting his unchanged cultivation level. You're participating in the competition with your skills. This made him question the seriousness of the competition. Chen Jiming chuckled. Every sect gets a few nominations, so why not give it a try? Although we'll probably be eliminated in the first round, participating in such a competition is an experience in itself, added the geomancer, standing with Chen Jiming. Noting Shen Wang's doubt, Shi Yan struggled to hold back an eye roll. Didn't you read any of the information I gave you? Shen Wang scratched his head, looking innocently. You arranged everything so clearly, what was there to read? His job was just to fight, right? That was something he excelled at. The corner of Shi Yan's eye twitched. With the competition about to start, he had no choice but to quickly explain the essentials. It turns out that the national metaphysical competition is organized by sects, nominating talents from within to participate. However, in modern times, metaphysical practices have waned, with some sects dwindling to only 1 or 2 disciples. Not to mention young cultivators under the age of 35. Therefore, the entry threshold for the competition is extremely low. Even if not recommended by a sect, solitary cultivators who wish to participate are welcomed by the organizers. Shen Wang. He knew that the spiritual energy in the modern world was thin and metaphysics was in decline, but he hadn't realized it was to this extent. Noticing Shen Wang's puzzled look, Shi Yan tried to justify the state of the metaphysical world. It's just for participation, the majority will be filtered out in the preliminary round. So, as Chen Jiming said, most people are just there to add to the atmosphere. Shen Wang nodded in understanding, then asked, what does forming a team mean? Isn't this an individual competition? At this, Chen Jiming perked up, leaning towards Shen Wang to eagerly explain, the preliminaries follow a set procedure, like our entrance exam. It's about capturing ghosts, and those who catch more rank higher. But unlike the entrance exam, in this competition, participants can attack each other. Shen Wang suddenly understood why people formed teams. The competition rules were simple and brutal but effective. Those who could find and subdue ghosts certainly had some ability, and also had to fend off attacks from other participants. The one who comes out on top in such circumstances truly deserves to be the winner. Shen Wang pondered and then asked, what if, and I'm just saying what if, there's a scenario where a lot of participants team up to seize the spoils of the strongest contender, leaving them empty-handed and eliminated in the preliminaries. The drama of a top contender losing in the first round would be quite intense. Chen Jiming's eyes lit up as if he had discovered a new world. Can we do that? Shi Yan, exasperated, interrupted their conversation. Nice thought, but unfortunately, that won't work. Besides rankings, judges also have the power to nominate participants for advancement. So, the possibility of overlooking a hidden gem doesn't exist. If a strong contender gets unexpectedly eliminated early, the judges will surely give them a second chance. After explaining, Yan was perplexed. Even if he could gather enough people for a raid, would the ghost captured by the target be enough for all of you? Would each person even get one? It would hardly impact the rankings, a lose-lose situation. Why would anyone do that? Chen Jiming chuckled. Defeating the outstanding disciples of major sects would be so cool to boast about. His friends, the Geomancer and the Miaojiang youth, nodded in agreement, seemingly eager to try. Yan was at a loss for words, his look conveying disdain. What kind of people are these? While they were talking, someone nearby scoffed. You guys beat disciples from major sects. Following the sound, Shen Wang smiled. Yo, my magical weapon is here. Did you keep it safe for me? Zhao Hang's arrogant demeanor stiffened, his teeth gritted. At this time, you're still bragging. Shen Wang looked bewildered. What bragging? I haven't bragged at all. Seeing Shen Wang's expression, Zhao Hang glowered at him, sneering. You'll see who's just talking big in the competition. With that, he pointed straight at Shen Wang's nose, raising his voice. Fellow Taoists, this is the man who made a bet with me, Zhao Hang. Whoever loses has to kowtow 3 times to the other. The people standing next to Zhao Hang exchanged glances, simultaneously revealing smiles. So he's that overconfident solitary cultivator. Daring to provoke Brother Zhao, he's really seeking death. Brother Zhao, rest assured, if we see him in the competition, we will take very, very good care of him. Does someone like him even deserve Brother Zhao's effort? Leave it to us. It was clear that Zhao Hang held a leading position among this group. His word directed everyone's attention towards Shen Wang. Not just Zhao Hang's few companions, but even some onlookers gathered around him, flattering. With Brother Zhao's strength, dealing with this nobody should be a piece of cake. It's almost an overkill. We'll be waiting to see him kowtow. We'll take photos, record it, and post it online. Ha ha ha, that idea is so wicked, I love it. Zhao Hang held his head high, a disdainful sneer on his lips as his eyes dismissively passed over Shen Wang and settled on Yan. I'm waiting for your kowtow. Yan, Chen Jiming, and the others changed their expressions, about to retort in anger, but Shen Wang, stroking his chin, said, not just kowtowing, but also running 3 laps around the hotel building, shouting, the metaphysical society is trash, inferior to the special department. Oh, and if you lose, you have to give me your magical weapon, Shen Wang reminded with concern. You haven't forgotten, have you? Zhao Hang's expression darkened, coldly responding, I haven't forgotten, and don't you forget either. Kowtowing naked, running 3 laps, shouting, the special department is trash. He emphasized the word naked. As he spoke the final words, his gaze fell on Yan and the others, enunciating each word, the special department is trash. Shen Wang. Why is there an extra bet? No one mentioned stripping last time. The 3 members of the special department behind Yan were furious, their eyes nearly shooting flames. Shut up. This man was clearly provoking the special department. Xie Qingming clenched his demon-slaying sword, while others also readied their weapons. Shen Wang, no longer fixating on the stripping issue, raised his hand to stop others who were about to rush into a fight. Let's see the truth in the competition. Let's find out who's stronger, the special department or the metaphysical society. As if responding to his opponent, Shen Wang's last few words were especially forceful and resonant. Both parties were brimming with a fighting spirit, their gazes nearly igniting sparks in the air, the atmosphere around them charged with a combustible tension. However, after issuing his bold statement, Shen Wang crossed his arms, stroking his chin, still couldn't help but wonder, running naked, isn't that illegal? He wasn't concerned for himself, confident he wouldn't lose, but upon reflection, such an indecent act seemed likely to attract police attention in modern times. Both groups, trying to intimidate each other with their stares. At this point, why worry about legality? Building momentum was what mattered. After a few seconds of consideration, Shen Wang shook his head in disappointment. All right, let's forget the stripping part. Zhao Hang's eyes flickered with contempt. What's wrong, scared? If you're scared, kowtow to me 3 times right now, and we'll call off the bet. Shen Wang sized him up, speaking seriously, no need for that. Mainly, your physique doesn't look that impressive. I'm afraid it might be an eyesore for others. While speaking, he made an okay gesture, leaving a small gap between his thumb and forefinger. It wouldn't be good to scare anyone. Amid an eerie silence, someone finally spoke. How would that scare anyone? If you suddenly see a caterpillar, won't you jump in fright? The atmosphere, which had been tense and fiery, suddenly turned colder than the Arctic, with only those around Shen Wang unable to hold back their laughter. You. Zhao Hang glared fiercely at Shen Wang, his face livid with anger. Very well. Very well. Shen Wang, right. I'll remember you. Shen Wang, question mark. Shen Wang, with a face as handsome as mine, if you forget me after one meeting, you might need to see a doctor about early onset dementia. Zhao Hang, fuming with rage, stared at Shen Wang, his eyes nearly popping out of their sockets. Only when a staff member came to remind them that the competition had already started did Zhao Hang suppress his anger and issue a final threat. Don't let me see you in the competition. After saying this, he left with his group in a flurry, leaving Shen Wang and his companions behind. Chen Jiming, who had been standing firmly behind Shen Wang, sighed with relief when Zhao Hang left. Brother Shen, aren't those guys from Baiyun Temple? How did you offend them? Yan rubbed his forehead, his voice low. I'm sorry, it's because of me. Yan's family had some background, so even with his mediocre talent, he was admitted to Baiyun Temple through connections. However, due to his average abilities, his life there was difficult, and his master barely paid any attention to him. Under these circumstances, the young Yan became a target for bullying by his peers, with Zhao Hang being the most excessive. Yan gave a bitter smile. Our families knew each other. I outperformed him in secular education, so he had to compensate in cultivation. As an adult, Yan resolutely left Baiyun Temple to join the special department. Because of this, he was considered a traitor by Baiyun Temple and despised by all its disciples. He thought moving to City C from the capital would change things, but unexpectedly encountered the same situation. Yan sighed. Xie Qingming and others following Yan finally understood why he had suddenly joined the special department and quickly rose to become the head of the Feng Shui division and the actual leader of the City C special department. Poor kid, don't worry, I'll avenge you. Shen Wang patted Yan on the shoulder. In the competition, we can attack each other, right? The heavy feeling in Shi Yan's heart dispersed with Shen Wang's words, and he even started to worry about Zhao Hang. Just, be careful with your strength. Don't kill him. Shen Wang confidently replied, don't worry, I know my limits. Talking as they went, the group no longer hesitated and entered the forest. Unnoticed by them, several mini cameras hidden in discreet corners diligently broadcasted everything happening to a large screen. In a massive hall, a row of people sat at the front, with others standing or sitting behind, filling the room. If the contestants saw this, they would recognize them as elders from their own sects and families. Among the row of people at the front, an elderly man with a kindly face sat in the middle, stroking his beard and chuckling. The young ones these days are really full of energy. Gu Dongting, seated to the old man's left, commented coolly, the disciples of Baiyun Temple act rashly and impulsively, lacking the temperament for significant responsibilities. The middle-aged man sitting to the right of the elder slightly changed his expression. It's just a squabble among the younger generation. Why should Taoist Gu condemn everyone for it? Gu Dongting simply stated, the actions of the subordinates reflect their leaders. It's evident. The older man, seeing the displeasure on the middle-aged man's face, hastily intervened, let's leave it to the youngsters. We're just here to watch the competition. Others also chimed in, right, let's see if there's an underdog who might surprise us in this competition. There's news that other countries have their hidden aces. We can't just rely on Taoist Gu to turn the tide, we need to find some reliable young successors. That young man just now seemed quite audacious. I wonder how capable he really is. Haven't seen him much before. He might just be a frog in the well, ignorant of the larger world. While the judges at the front argued, those at the back started murmuring among themselves. Who is this kid, acting so arrogantly? You don't know Shen Wang. Oh right, you're practically a fossil buried in the ground, without even a smartphone. Of course, you wouldn't know. He's been popular on the forums lately. I heard he's skilled in talismans. My grandson managed to get one and brought it to me overnight. The craftsmanship of that talisman, TSK, truly profound skills. Looks like the Zhao Hang is going to capsize in the gutter. Among a group of onlookers, a middle-aged, portly man was encircled and bombarded with questions. Old Chen, who's that person your son is following? So that kid is Shen Wang. Rash and impetuous, not very impressive. The middle-aged man, wiping sweat from his forehead, replied helplessly, fellow Taoists, my son has only just passed the entry-level exam. This competition is just for him to gain experience. He met Shen Wang during the entry exam. As he frantically tried to appease the others, he looked for help from a friend, only to find that the friend had silently distanced himself, pretending not to know him. Unbeknownst to Shen Wang, outside the examination area, he had become the center of everyone's discussions. He was leading a group in a widespread search for ghosts on the mountain. This competition's area was vastly larger than the one used for the entry exam, making the search much more challenging. After observing the surroundings, Shen Wang led the group in a particular direction. The chubby boy and others followed him closely, excited and seeming more like they were on a hike than at a competition. This mountain is so huge, and there are no paths. It's quite difficult to traverse. A young man from Miaojiang asked, how long will we be staying in the mountains? 3 days. The feng shui master appeared somewhat anxious, I wonder what rank we'll get. I hope not the last, or my dad will definitely spank me. Qin Yurong and Huang Guqiang from the special department blended in perfectly with the youngsters. Exactly, we're not aiming for top results this time, just to advance smoothly. But with Brother Shen here, advancing shouldn't be an issue. They chatted away, oblivious to Shi Yan and Xie Qingming's increasingly darkening expressions. Just as Shi Yan was about to lose his patience and stop them, Shen Wang suddenly halted. The chubby boy looked tense. What's wrong, Brother Shen? Did we find our target? Shen Wang surveyed the surroundings and then focused on the ground. He kicked aside some mud and fallen leaves, revealing a deeply etched arc on the surface. Shi Yan crouched down, observing for a moment before tentatively asking, is this a formation? A simple misleading formation, Shen Wang replied. He said it so casually that Chen Jiming couldn't help but express his admiration. Brother Shen, you knew it was a formation just by one glance. You're amazing. The others quickly got down on the ground, following the revealed lines of the formation, brushing away leaves to fully expose it. Just as Shen Wang said, it was a small formation, spanning just over 2 meters. Shen Wang didn't disrupt the formation but cunningly covered it again with leaves, grinning, let's hope the next person who comes by is lucky. Shen Wang, surprised, said, the others are your competitors, are you really that generous? With one more person falling into the trap, there's one less competitor. Is this plump boy so carefree even in the face of competition? The plump boy instantly replied, then forget it. They're competitors after all, so don't blame him for not adhering to martial ethics. A teachable child, Shen Wang nodded in approval, that settles it. The group followed Shen Wang for about 15 minutes, finally arriving at the location he had in mind, but... Where are the ghosts here? The plump boy asked, his question coming from the depths of his soul. Surrounded by trees rustling in the wind, sunlight filtering gently and tranquilly through the leaves, there was no sign of energy or ghostly aura. If it weren't for their trust in Shen Wang's abilities, they wouldn't have stayed here for long. While everyone was puzzled, Shen Wang walked towards a certain direction, tapping the relatively flat ground with the tip of his foot. It's right here. The rest of the group. Shen Wang opened a bag specifically for containing ghosts. He thrust his right hand into the soil and pulled it back out, fiercely grasping a dark, grimy head, brutally pulling on its already short hair. Like pulling up a radish, a huge dark shadow was forcefully yanked out. The dark shadow struggled fiercely while wailing, Master, please be gentle, it hurts, don't pull my hair, I hardly have any left. When he was fully exposed to the air and saw Shen Wang's face, his incessant babbling stopped abruptly. It's you. Shen Wang, who was about to stuff him into the ghost bag, paused, intrigued, you know me. The plump ghost, who had been thinking of escaping, lost all thought of it, cautiously smiling, Master Shen, you must have forgotten me. During the entrance exam, someone tried to harm you by sneaking in a fierce ghost. Shen Wang remembered. During the entrance exam, this plump ghost had cunningly hidden underground, undetected by the candidates walking above. It was Shen Wang who discovered and captured him. But then, a fierce ghost suddenly appeared. To protect the others, Shen Wang had no time to pay attention to this chubby ghost. Later, he emerged from underground, blending into the fierce ghost aura, allowing Shen Wang to track the real body of the ghost amidst the dense aura. It's you. Shen Wang didn't bother putting him in the bag anymore, casually releasing him. Are you here to be a prop again? Even though released, the chubby ghost dared not flee. He nodded and bowed apologetically. The Taoist who made a contract with me is both poor and weak. I have no choice but to work for money. I'm just a worker. The poor Taoist watching the live stream. Damn. You're the one who's poor and weak. Shen Wang, puzzled, his poverty is his business. What does it have to do with you? Speaking of this, the chubby ghost also felt helpless. With a crying face, he lamented, Master Shen, you don't know, our ghostly life is also very tough. As a lonely ghost who doesn't wish to be reborn, if one's not strong enough, they can only be bound by obsessions in a small space, eventually losing their sanity and entering the cycle of reincarnation in confusion, or simply dissipating. To move freely, one either harms people to absorb negative energy or makes contracts with Taoists. Ordinary ghosts without strong resentment can't harm people and can only choose to make contracts with Taoists. Even after the contract, it's not all smooth sailing. Ghosts need to work for the Taoists in exchange for survival energy and wish power. Some are wealthy and powerful, offering more energy, but if the contracted Taoist is poor, the ghost has to live frugally too. Unfortunately, the chubby ghost contracted with a poor and weak ghost-controlling Taoist, forcing him to toil even after death to support himself and his Taoist. After hearing his complaints, Shen Wang thoughtfully remarked, your ghostly lives are so miserable. The chubby ghost shivered inwardly, sensing an ominous premonition. I know some, but only a part of them, not all. A part is enough. Shen Wang beckoned him with a finger and said with a smile, gather those ghosts and tell them someone wants to make a deal with them, promising ample spiritual energy. The chubby ghost shivered in his heart. He wanted to refuse, but he didn't dare. He had seen Shen Wang annihilate a fierce ghost with his bare hands. How could he dare resist? He could only sob, Master Shen, it's not that I don't want to help you, but we have contracts with those Taoists. If we breach them, we lose our pay, our spiritual energy. Shen Wang looked earnest, they are too inhumane, so I'm here to help you. Want a minimum spiritual energy guarantee? A basic salary? Social and health insurance? I'm willing to fight for these rights for you, just bring them all here. Chubby ghost. Truly a heart-stopping moment. Chapter 96. The chubby ghost, torn, pleaded with Shen Wang, Master Shen, this is a competition, I can't. The preliminary round wasn't very difficult, contestants just needed to find and capture the prop ghosts to accumulate enough points to advance. If he really gathered all the other ghosts, all the points would go to Shen Wang alone. The chubby ghost didn't know what would happen to Shen Wang, but he was sure he himself would be severely punished by his own Taoist. If it were anyone else making this request, the chubby ghost wouldn't have bothered to respond, but this was coming from Shen Wang. The very Shen Wang who crushed a fierce ghost with his bare hands. 2 wide noodles of tears streamed down the chubby ghost's face, never before feeling such hardship in his ghostly existence, almost wishing he could immediately reincarnate. Shen Wang glanced at the chubby ghost indifferently, cracking his knuckles with a crick-crack sound. The chubby ghost's pupils quaked, and he shrank into a ball, trembling. It's not entirely impossible. Hearing the satisfactory response, Shen Wang relaxed his fist, speaking earnestly, you see, if you had just said that in the beginning, all would have been settled. After the intimidation, Shen Wang fished in his pocket and pulled out a talisman. Seeing the talisman, the chubby ghost realized the gravity of the situation. He fell to his knees, weeping bitterly, Master Shen, I was wrong. I'll call all the ghosts right now. If anyone refuses, I'll drag them here myself. Please don't pulverize me. Shen Wang looked at the talisman, his face expressing speechlessness, I am a civilized person, okay. Don't act as if I'm so heartless. Here, take this, consider it your advance payment. The chubby ghost, trembling, took the talisman. As soon as he touched it, he felt a dense and pure Yin energy. Startled, before his mind could process it, his body had already absorbed the Yin energy sealed within the talisman. Just this one talisman is worth several years of his hard work. Greedy for the energy, the chubby ghost absorbed all the Yin energy from the talisman. Watching the talisman paper burn without fire into ashes, his face showed no reluctance. Master Shen, this talisman. Shen Wang smiled slightly. For such a talisman, bring me 10 ghosts, and you get 1. The chubby ghost's red eyes suddenly shone brilliantly. Master Shen, rest assured, however many ghosts you want, I'll make sure you have them. The national competition gathered the power of all major sects, with a considerable number of ghosts used as props in the arena, some provided by sects like the ghost-controlling Dao, others freshly captured. Not to mention the unfamiliar newly captured ghosts, but those he knew, he could probably exchange for 4, 5, maybe 6 talismans. Ambitious, the chubby ghost, surrounded by surging Yin energy, left in a whirlwind of dark ghostly mist. Leaving behind a group of onlookers, agape in astonishment. Not just the inexperienced youngsters like Little Fatty and the rest, even Shi Yan and Xia Qingming had complex expressions. Little Fatty, watching Shen Wang's smooth operation, couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat from his forehead. Shen Ge, is this really going to work? While everyone else was diligently capturing ghosts, he had infiltrated the enemy's ranks, tempting them to defect. Cunning, truly cunning. Shi Yan, with a subtle look in his eyes, uncertainly said, maybe, perhaps, it's not against the rules. Shen Wang stood tall, righteously declaring, isn't the competition about who captures the most ghosts? There's no restriction on the method. I haven't asked for external help, nor have I cheated, it's all on my own effort. Little Fatty and the others felt that the logic seemed off, yet it also seemed quite reasonable. Being able to persuade the chubby ghost was due to Shen Wang's strength, and the talismans he used to tempt the ghosts were also drawn by himself. Indeed, it was all his own effort. Shi Yan's mouth twitched, he opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but after a thought, he swallowed his words, well, as long as we can advance. Shen Wang, and always giving others surprises. Shi Yan felt a mix of emotions. While they debated on site, those watching the live broadcast off-site were already in an uproar. A middle-aged judge slammed the table, furious, he's cheating. Disrupting the order of the competition. We should disqualify him. The elder in the middle, however, leisurely sipped his tea and spoke calmly, he has only proposed an idea so far, nothing has succeeded yet. Besides, if not for him, we wouldn't have realized such a big loophole in our competition. The others glanced at each other and started to smooth things over. How many ghosts can that chubby ghost really bring back? It won't affect the overall situation, relax. You're not targeting him just because he's opposing Baiyun Temple, are you? As cultivators, we should be broad-minded, not petty. He's just a young man with unusual ideas. Over the years, the national competition preliminaries have always been unremarkable without any hitches. This is the first time someone has brought a twist to the preliminaries. Though reluctant to admit it, these venerable judges felt a strange excitement. No one took Shen Wang's actions too seriously, except for Gu Dongting, who remained silent, eyes lowered, concealing the faint smile in his eyes. Such a wildly imaginative act, thinking of Shen Wang, it somehow felt unexpectedly reasonable yet surprising. Gu Dongting gently twirled his fingertips. Apart from Gu Dongting, someone else sensed that something significant was amiss. The chubby ghost contracted Taoist was full of regret, cursing himself for being greedy for little gain and sending the chubby ghost to work in the competition. Fellow Taoist, why so pale? Worried about your ghost being held accountable by the competition officials. Noticing his expression, someone asked with a hearty laugh. Others began to comfort him in a clamor. Don't worry too much, fellow Taoist. It's just a small interlude in the competition, it won't affect much. Maybe it won't even have time to find other ghost friends before being captured by a contestant. But this contestant named Shen Wang really has an imaginative mind. We could also participate in the competition for fun in the future. Will there even be a next time? I bet the officials will step in after this competition ends and add new rules. Ha ha ha, what if, right? Everyone laughed heartily, except for the chubby ghost master, whose expression was stiff. He forced a smile on his face while inwardly groaning. You have no idea how sociable this chubby ghost actually is. This chubby ghost, in his lifetime, was a northerner and a crosstalk comedian. On the big screen, numerous camera feeds jostled for space, with the largest in the center occasionally changing scenes, often featuring Shen Wang and his group. But as everyone watched, they began to sense that something was amiss. How long has the competition been going? Why hasn't the scoreboard changed at all? Hasn't anyone caught a single ghost yet? The contestants this year seem a bit weak. Let's wait a bit longer. There are many new formations in the arena this time, many contestants are trapped in them. It's normal for them to be cautious. What about the disciples from the major sects? Are they also trapped in those simple formations? No, they haven't even found traces of the Yin ghost yet. Amidst the growing buzz of conversation, suddenly someone shouted, "Look, what is that?" In a corner of the surveillance screen, a massive ghostly aura was slowly writhing, almost filling the entire screen, making everyone's scalp tingle at the sight. What's happening? Could it be a violent ghost outbreak? Weren't the props supposed to be absolutely safe this time? Judging by the thickness of that ghostly aura, it could even be of a minor ghost king level. Sound the alarm, evacuate the contestants. Amidst chaos, the judges stood up in unison, about to halt the competition, when that massive ghostly aura revealed its true nature. Led by a chubby ghost, a dense throng of smaller ghosts carefully skirted the contestants, advancing in a particular direction. Along the way, contestants noticed the abnormal concentration of Yin energy and tried to investigate, but these ghosts, like skilled scouts, always slipped away before the contestants arrived, leaving behind only remnants of their aura. Their cautious, zigzagging path was inscrutable, visible only to the audience watching the live broadcast, who could see that these ghosts were heading towards Shen Wang. Gradually, the once noisy crowd fell silent, the sound disappearing in a space filled with hundreds of people. Everyone watched the chubby ghost energetically speaking, leading the dense group of ghosts towards Shen Wang. After a long while, someone finally spoke up dryly. Damn, everyone except him might end up with 0 points in this competition, right? A regular ghost is worth 10 points, a resentful ghost 20. In previous competitions, a score of 3 to 400 was considered a sign of exceptional talent. And now, just a rough count showed that the number of ghosts moving towards Shen Wang was over 100. At the judges' table, a middle-aged judge slammed his fist on the table, darkly saying, "Stop the competition." This time, no one stopped him. If they followed Shen Wang's strategy, he could potentially capture most of the ghosts, leaving others with 0 points. Setting aside how to determine the advancement rankings, the competition would become a joke if word got out. As the judges were about to call a halt with complex expressions, Gu Dongting spoke up indifferently. He hasn't broken any rules. Gu Dongting's words stunned the other judges. The middle-aged judge scoffed. Our competition aims to select the strong. His underhanded tactics suppress other contestants' environment. While he may not have violated the explicit rules, he has destroyed the spirit of the competition. The other judges nodded in agreement. Indeed, we are a formal competition. Such clever tricks. Even if we let him advance, he won't get far. Gu Dongting's gaze remained calm. No matter how far he can go, as long as he hasn't broken any rules, no one can strip him of his right to compete. You rigid old fool, so inflexible, someone snapped in frustration. If he continues in the competition, and everyone else ends up with 0 points, are you satisfied with that? Gu Dongting calmly looked towards the live broadcast camera. Strength comes first. Even if he has captured so many ghosts, as long as the competition isn't over, others can still seize his spoils. This means that although Shen Wang used his wits to gather so many ghosts, if he can't protect them, it's all for naught, merely a futile effort. But if he does manage to keep them. The other judges twitched, realizing that if this man succeeds, he'd be stepping on the pride of the entire metaphysical community. So many reputable and orthodox sects gathered together, yet none could match the cunning or strength of an obscure, independent cultivator. Where would that leave the dignity of these esteemed sects? The middle-aged judge's face turned sour. What if he just captures these ghosts and then hides somewhere? As soon as these words were spoken, he was met with Gu Dongting's cold gaze. Someone spoke up for Gu Dongting. With so many ghosts on him, and the ghost-catching bag not blocking Yin energy, he's practically a walking minor ghost king. In such a situation, if the contestants can't find him, what's the point of competing? Might as well go home and grow carrots. Hee, I like it. Wandering in the woods for half a day, Zhao Heng grew impatient. Damn, where the hell are those things hiding? Exactly, the difficulty of this competition is too high, isn't it just a preliminary round? I heard that this time, it was Gu Dongting who requested to increase the difficulty, adding formations to the competition field. Zhao Hang's expression changed, angrily saying, Gu Dongting, always him, I think he's just idle and bored. This time, no one responded to his words. The others exchanged glances, practicing the art of turning a blind eye, pretending they heard nothing. Look at him, always wearing white clothes, what an act. Seems pure and dispassionate on the surface, but who knows what he's really like behind closed doors. Zhao Hang, oblivious to the other's silence and even if he noticed, wouldn't care, continued ranting, he's even younger than us, why should he lord over us? Just because he's from the Gu family? Because of his grandfather. Pa, just another one riding on his family's coattails, pretending to be so high and mighty. Someone, unable to bear it anymore, tried to interject, Gu. I mean, Gu Dongting, his family background is indeed good, but he's also very strong, that's why he can. Zhao Hang stopped in his tracks, his gaze darkening as he looked at the speaker, who do you think you are? The speaker's face changed slightly, maintaining a forced smile, Zhao senior brother, I was just saying, Gu Dongting can't compare to you. Zhao Hang suddenly lashed out, kicking the men several meters away, dare to talk to me like that. You think you have the right to stand here? I, Zhao Hang, generously took you in, allowed you to team up with us. After hitting and scolding, still unsatisfied, Zhao Hang kicked him a few more times. A bootlicker, unaware of his own status, daring to contradict his master, he was given too much face. After venting all of today's frustrations on that person, Zhao Hang finally felt relieved. He nonchalantly dusted off his hands and signaled to those around him, what are you looking at? Go find ghosts. Having witnessed their companion being brutally beaten by Zhao Hang for just a word, the others felt an indescribable emotion, hurriedly using their magical instruments to search for ghostly energy. Inevitably, they felt a sense of sadness for another's misfortune. The person who had been severely beaten lay on the ground, covering his head with his hands, curled up, letting Zhao Hang hit and scold him. It was only after the latter left that he unclenched his arms and awkwardly got up from the ground. Had it not been for the contestants' ability to see the rankings and knowing that others also hadn't scored, Zhao Hang wouldn't have been so gentle with these people and would have lashed out already. Just as those in charge of searching for Yin energy were panicking, someone suddenly stepped forward, I think I felt some Yin energy. Zhao Hang was startled, his gaze resting on the person, thinking for a few seconds, you're from the Metaphysical Association, what's your name again? Tang Jiu. Tang Jiu answered evenly, I'm from the Tang family in City C, currently representing the Metaphysical Association in the competition. City C's Tang family. Zhao Hang vaguely remembered this family, seeming like a mediocre clan, not quite a big family. Looking at Tang Jiu with lackluster interest, Zhao Hang doubted, are you sure you sensed Yin energy? In a situation where others were using compasses and special magical instruments, Tang Jiu, who used nothing, claimed to have sensed Yin energy, making Zhao Hang utterly skeptical. Whether it's true or not, we'll find out if we go and see. Tang Jiu said confidently. After sizing up Tang Jiu a few times, Zhao Hang smirked but still gave face to the Metaphysical Association, all right, lead the way. Zhao Hang and his group hadn't followed Tang Jiu for long when they indeed spotted a hurrying ghost. His eyes lit up, and without waiting for others to act, he struck with his sword. The ghost barely had time to react before it was stripped of most of its Yin energy and roughly stuffed into a ghost bag. At this moment, the previously static scoreboard finally moved. Zhao Hang, 10 points, ranked first. Pleased with the score, the last bit of Zhao Hang's irritation dissipated. He laughed heartily, patting Tang Jiu on the shoulder forcefully, not bad, you're good. I've got your back from now on. Once I have enough points to advance, the next one to gather points will be you. Hearing this, Tang Jiu remained composed, simply nodding lightly, thank you. The others who had been following Zhao Hang changed their expressions, wanting to say something but dared not speak out. Zhao Hang, oblivious to their expressions, laughed to himself, I'm already in first place, and those special department folks are all at 0, what a bunch of idiots. Dare to challenge me, I'll make them kneel and kowtow to me. He didn't realize that his actions were being broadcast live on the big screen, almost everyone prominent in the metaphysical community witnessing his behavior. The judges exchanged glances, communicating with their eyes, their expressions meaningful. The middle-aged judge, feeling their gaze, could only watch the screen with a face ashen with fury, wishing he could pull that fool out of the screen and give him a good beating. The judges had to give face to their colleagues, but those watching the live broadcast didn't have such concerns. Who is this guy, so arrogant? It's infuriating. Who else could it be, but those from Baiyun Temple? They already looked down on others with their noses up in the air, arrogantly. Never thought they would be even worse in private. Those people had it coming. In modern society, and they still choose to be someone's slaves, so pathetic, they deserve to be mistreated. Some smaller sects have no choice but to rely on bigger ones for survival. That Tang Jiu seems decent, maintaining his dignity in such a situation. He does have some skills, finding Yin energy under these circumstances. It's a pity he's with Zhao Hang, otherwise advancing wouldn't be an issue. I really want to smack him hard, what a jerk. Just because they're from a big sect, they think they can bully others like that. Filled with righteous indignation, everyone's attention turned to Shen Wang, all hoping for the first time that he would win. Shen Wang did not disappoint their expectations. Before long, the chubby ghost had arrived near him with an impressive entourage of ghostly underlings. Shi Yan and Xia Qingming didn't have high hopes for Shen Wang's plan. They were busy searching for ghostly energy in the woods, especially Xia Qingming, a combat-oriented demon-hunting chief, who was sniffing the air like a police dog, alert and trying to catch any clue from the atmosphere. Seeing this, Shen Wang couldn't help but laugh openly. Xia Qingming, expressionless and frustrated, you're just waiting here doing nothing, expecting those cunning ghosts to come to you. Still leisurely, almost like taking a stroll, making everyone anxious. Shen Wang smiled mysteriously, how do you know they won't come to me? Grinding his teeth in annoyance, Xia Qingming said, if ghosts really come to you, even one, I'll call you Big Brother, be your follower, and listen to your arrangements from now on. I won't deviate from your orders. Wow. Shen Wang blinked, are you sure you want to make such a big bet? Xia Qingming firmly, I'm sure. After he finished speaking, someone nearby let out a meaningful sigh. Xia Qingming followed the voices, noticing Xiao Pengzi and the others showing pity. Xiao Pengzi slowly said, Minister Xie, have you ever considered, with Brother Shen's dislike for losses, he wouldn't fight an unprepared battle, would he? Could he also use summoning spells to call those ghosts? Xie Qingming frowned deeply. If he really manages to catch a windfall, I'll give him my position as Demon Extermination Minister. Xie Qingming was about to speak when suddenly his expression changed, filled with surprise. I feel it. Yin energy. Such heavy yin energy. There must be a powerful ghost passing by. What are you waiting for? Grab your weapons and get ready for battle. Seeing his companion still motionless, Xie Qingming grew impatient, clutching his demon-slaying sword. Just as he tried to discern the direction of the yin energy, he heard Shen Wang's voice laced with laughter. If we're betting, let's bet properly. Don't expect me to do unpaid work for your special department. Xie Qingming paused, finally noticing that Shi Yan, Xiao Pengzi, and the others were staring past him with wide eyes, shocked. A thought crossed his mind, and he slowly turned around. The plump ghost, leading a group of smaller ghosts, floated in the air. The combined yin energy of the numerous ghosts was comparable to that of a powerful ghost, an imposing sight. The leading plump ghost smiled obsequiously, rubbing his hands. Master Shen, I've brought all these juniors for you. How shall we settle this? Xie Qingming's pupils constricted sharply, cursing for the first time, damn. Fortunately, compared to the others, Xie Qingming's reaction was trivial. Xiao Pengzi was already screaming, his mouth covered in shock, and even Shi Yan stood with eyes wide open, taking a while to recover. This method, it actually works. Shen Wang, with a smug curl of his lips, when has my method ever failed? While the living were still in shock, the plump ghost grew impatient. Brother Shen, you promised us, about that thing. Many voices emerged from the multitude of ghosts. We want a basic salary, and benefits like the 5 insurances and 1 fund. It would be great to have vacation time too. Sometimes I want to visit the place where I died, but I can't, stuck in that bag, it's so dark. And about the talisman with yin energy, you said if we gather 10 ghost heads, we get 1 talisman. Is that true? From their noisy chatter, the living finally understood what was happening. It's unclear what the plump ghost did in life, but he first found familiar ghosts, persuading them with grandiose tales, enticing his ghost friends to willingly follow him. That wasn't all. The plump ghost then detailed the talisman Shen Wang gave him, praising its effects with an enthusiasm akin to writing a short essay. The other ghosts were initially skeptical, but once the plump ghost released his ghost energy and they saw his cultivation had indeed improved, all the ghosts couldn't help but be tempted. Being a ghost is tough, really tough. Living people need food and salaries, but ghosts staying in the world consume ghost energy and yin energy, which can either be obtained by harming people or only from Taoists. The yin energy obtained from Taoists is not only scant in quantity but also inconsistent in quality, varying greatly. Without collaborating with Taoists, ghosts would gradually exhaust their yin energy, leaving them with only 2 choices, enter the cycle of reincarnation or dissipate into nothingness. This makes ghosts largely dependent on and controlled by Taoists. What ghosts get to consume entirely depends on the conscience of the Taoist. Thus, regardless of whether they have a master or not, most ghosts live in misery, alternating between fullness and hunger. When they heard about a Taoist playing the role of a benefactor, offering high-quality, pure yin energy, all the ghosts were tempted. As for other things like basic yin energy assurance and comprehensive benefits, they didn't hold much hope and just asked casually. Shen Wang was startled by the emotional outburst of the ghosts. Yes, 10 ghosts for 1 yin energy talisman. Shen Wang knew the plump ghost would work hard driven by benefits, but he didn't expect such zealous efforts. The plump ghost chuckled. Some of them I brought, others were brought by different people. Shi Yan struggled to restrain his urge to educate, thinking to himself that what the plump ghost was doing was akin to pyramid schemes in the underworld, even using similar recruiting tactics. I brought 20 ghosts, give me 2 talismans first, I want to taste them. I only brought 18, can we round it up? Little Taoist, do you have enough of those talismans? If not, don't blame me for turning hostile. What does this 5 insurances and 1 fund you advertised mean? Are you setting up a union? I was a party member when I was alive, I can help you. Amid the noisy chaos, Shen Wang took out a handful of talismans from his pocket and gestured to Shi Yan to do the registration, with others assisting. After a chaotic half-day, they finally counted them all. There were over 260 ghosts in total, including several higher-grade resentful ghosts, requiring the issuance of over 20 talismans. Shen Wang nodded, indicating his satisfaction with the number. This is a manageable amount. There are nearly 3,000 points here, Shi Yan murmured, eyes glazed, over 3,000 points. These points, all earned by Shen Wang alone, were unprecedented, breaking the record of the metaphysical competition. Even when Gu Dongting participated in the competition, he stopped hunting ghosts voluntarily after earning enough points to avoid unbalancing the competition, making his final score quite ordinary. And now, Shen Wang burst onto the scene, unconcerned about the status quo. After pondering, Shen Wang asked Shi Yan, approximately how many points are needed to advance. Shi Yan replied mechanically, 30. With so many participants, just capturing 3 minor ghosts and maintaining them amidst the competition from other contestants was enough to pass the preliminary round. This rule seemed simple, but against the vast number of competitors, it was certainly not easy. As Shen Wang was about to speak, someone burst out of the woods, excitedly shouting with leaves in their hair, Senior brother. Senior brother. So many ghosts. I've found so many ghosts. As soon as these words were spoken, all the ghosts present turned their heads silently and uniformly towards the newcomer. The young practitioner, who appeared quite young, shuddered and suddenly burst into tears, crying, Senior brother, save me, senior brother. Behind him, a refined-looking young man stepped out. Upon seeing the mass of ghosts, he too constricted his pupils and instinctively drew his weapon. Who's there? Shen Wang, stroking his chin, walked out helplessly. Fellow Taoist, please stay calm. The other party watched Shen Wang warily. Who are you? Why can you control so many ghosts? Are you participating in the metaphysical competition with some ulterior motive? Barraged with questions, Shen Wang was rendered speechless. Shi Yan stepped forward, greeting the refined young man. Lin Taoist, long time no see. Sure Taoist. Seeing Shi Yan, the other visibly relaxed a bit, his guard lowered. What's going on here? He had wondered why he couldn't find any ghosts despite searching everywhere. So far, only Zhao Hang from Baiyunguan had 10 points, while others had none. It's a long story. Shi Yan spread his hands, struggling to keep his lips from curling up. We from the special department joined the competition, and Brother Shen, with his brilliant mind, has already captured so many ghosts. Once they're put into the ghost bag, they can be converted into points. As he said this, Shi Yan's smile stiffened for a moment, meeting the eyes of the refined young man. The refined young man silently observed Shi Yan, then glanced at the moving points behind him. A head popped out behind him, urging, "Senior brother, act now." With so many ghosts, it would be foolish not to seize the opportunity. They were all gathered here, eliminating the need to search for them. How convenient. Off the live broadcast, everyone gasped in shock. Wow, how did someone find out so quickly? With so many ghosts and such heavy energy, it would be strange if no one came. What about Shen Wang? He attracted these ghosts with his clever tricks, can he really keep them at bay? Does anyone know who that person is? It's a member of the Celestial Master Mansion, Lin Lulu. He's a leading figure among the younger generation. The Celestial Master Mansion, as famous as Baiyun Monastery. Shen Wang is so unlucky. First Zhao Hang from Baiyun Monastery, and now Lin Lulu from Celestial Master Mansion. Is he at odds with the major sects? Compared to the worried spectators, the expressions of the judges on the stage varied greatly. A middle-aged judge from Baiyun Monastery showed a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth, mocking, "Fellow Taoist Gu, you're right, relying on clever tricks won't get you far. Now he's hit a snag, sooner than we thought, what a pity." In this competition, it seems the Celestial Master Mansion will likely come out on top. In the eyes of the judges, Shen Wang now seemed like a huge treasure chest, whoever found him first would win the final victory. But the treasure chest himself had no power to resist. After mocking, the middle-aged judge couldn't help but express regret. It's a shame, the first to arrive wasn't from Baiyun Monastery. Bad luck. His words immediately displeased another judge. What luck? You've practiced cultivation for so long, don't you know that luck is the most elusive thing? If it wasn't for Lin Liliu's decent cultivation, able to sensing energy and rushing here first when noticing something amiss. Humph, Baiyun Guan's people didn't even notice the congregation of Yin energy. The judges, who had been united in their anger, immediately started arguing again. Only the old men in the middle watched the unfolding events with amusement, turning to Gu Dongting, "Xiao, who do you think will win?" Gu Dongting, observing Shen Wang on the screen who seemed unaware of the situation, slightly curved his lips and confidently said, "Shen Wang." His voice was unwaveringly certain. His answer made the old man take a second look at him, a mix of surprise and understanding. It's rare to see you think so highly of someone. Do you know him? Gu Dongting, without batting an eye, nodded, more than just acquaintances. More than acquaintances. The old man didn't grasp the meaning at first, but then chuckled quietly, more than acquaintances, so a close relationship. You, Gu Dongting, actually have a good friend. The old man nodded, his tone curious, this makes me intrigued about this young man. What charm does he possess to catch the eye of Gu Dongting? Gu Dongting didn't respond because in the live broadcast, Lin Liliu from the Heavenly Master's house had suddenly launched an attack. In the blink of an eye, the attack reached Shen Wang, who still seemed out of sorts. Whether arguing, chatting with friends, or engrossed in their own matters, everyone couldn't help but hold their breath, watching the screen anxiously. Be careful. This unique Shen Wang, he wouldn't just end his journey here, right? Many felt regret, while others wore expressions of schadenfreude. Chapter 97. Lin Liliu, while conversing with Shi Yan, had noticed that Shen Wang was the linchpin of this simple team. The moment his junior brother shouted to attack, Lin Liliu had swiftly circled around Shi Yan and others, drawing his sword to strike at Shen Wang. Shen Wang, handsome and ethereal, lacked the distinct aura of a cultivator, appearing utterly harmless. Lin Liliu's eyes flashed with determination, intent on seizing those points. His junior brother, fists clenched, swiftly positioned himself in front of Xie Qingming, the most formidable looking, to prevent him from intervening. Unexpectedly, Xie Qingming just stood there as if nothing was happening, quietly observing. Confused but secretly thrilled, the junior brother thought, this time in the competition, the Heavenly Master's house might just outshine Baiyun Guan. Meanwhile, Lin Liliu was intently watching Shen Wang. Seeing that Shen seemed unresponsive, he frowned in concern rather than satisfaction. What's going on? His sword, sharp and fierce, directed at Shen Wang's face, created gusts of wind, seemingly capable of easily decapitating a person. Just as Lin Liliu anxiously considered reducing the attack's force to avoid seriously injuring Shen, his unstoppable sword wind suddenly halted. Shen Wang had somehow produced a wrist-thick stick, blocking the aggressive sword in front of him. Lin Liliu's pupils constricted, disbelief in his voice. How is that possible? How can you block my attack with just an ordinary stick? Shen Wang, looking at the stick in his hand, was also surprised. How can this be just an ordinary stick? Everyone's gaze focused on the seemingly ordinary stick. Could it be some kind of incredible magical artifact? Shen Wang flicked his wrist, and the stick struck the back of the sword forcefully. Caught off guard, Lin Liliu's sword nearly flew out of his hand. He was shaken and quickly regained his composure, attacking Shen Wang again. This is clearly a long, smooth, straight, and beautiful stick. Shen Wang effortlessly parried Lin Liliu's attacks, speaking with a chuckle. The others. Isn't it still just a stick? Seeing his senior brother struggling, Lin Liliu's junior brother grew anxious and moved to assist, only to see Xie Qingming step forward. Your opponent is me. The junior brother hadn't expected his senior brother to be overpowered by a stick, and Xie Qingming's strength was formidable too, tying him up and leaving him unable to help, only able to shout worriedly, Senior brother, are you alright? The onlookers, including Xiao Pengzi, had indescribable expressions. Your senior brother doesn't seem alright. Within a few minutes, Lin Liliu was embarrassingly forced to stop attacking. A stick lay across his chest, ready to strike him hard if he made any sudden move. Defeated so easily, Lin Liliu stood stunned, taking a long time to recover. He asked in a daze, who exactly are you? Why had he never heard of such a peer in cultivation before? Shen Wang, seeing that Lin Liliu stopped resisting, also retracted his makeshift weapon with a smile, declaring righteously, I am a helpful lay Feng. Lin Liliu. Shi Yan's face twitched, and Qin Yurong standing next to him complained, Shen Ge, you're clearly with our Sea City Special Department. Shen Wang scoffed, that's why I said, I am Lei Feng. If he weren't Lei Feng, he would have already told the special department to get lost. At this moment, Shen Wang glanced at Xie Qingming, who was exchanging blows with Lin Lilia's junior brother, and commented with barely concealed dismay, Minister Xie, you in your 20s, can't even beat a teenager. Xie Qingming. No longer holding back, he intensified his offense. Though the young man was talented and well-guided, his youth and lack of experience were no match for Xie Qingming's battle prowess, and soon he was disarmed. For the junior brother, facing such a setback on his first exposure to the world, he tried to hold back but couldn't. His eyes reddened, looking pitifully aggrieved. Shen Wang nodded again, you, a man in your 20s, bullying a teenager. Xie Qingming. Drawing his sword, he looked at Shen Wang with an air that screamed a fight to the death. Shen Wang helplessly shrugged, pretending as if he hadn't said a thing, and signaled to the others, what are you waiting for? Tie them up. Eventually, the two brothers from the Celestial Master Mansion were tied under a tree with several vines, while Shen Wang and his group continued to deal with those who willingly came forward as moving targets. Outside the arena, the audience was initially worried for Shen Wang, dreading his elimination, but in just a few minutes, the situation dramatically reversed. Stunned, they watched the younger elite effortlessly defeated and tied under a tree as prisoners, silencing everyone. A middle-aged judge gloated, it seems the younger generation of the Celestial Master Mansion isn't that strong. Just a moment ago, he was sour about the Celestial Master Mansion's people finding Shen Wang first, but now, he couldn't hide his delight. A celestial and dignified middle-aged judge from the Celestial Master Mansion, stroking his beard, said through gritted teeth, victory and defeat are common in war. It's just a minor mistake. The middle-aged judge laughed heartily, as you said earlier, lack of strength is just that, inability to deal with even a freelancer shows the Celestial Master Mansion is nothing special. As they engaged in this verbal duel, the other judges watched Shen Wang on the screen with serious expressions, their eyes reflecting deep thoughts. The people from the Celestial Master Mansion and Bai Yunguan had their biases against Shen Wang, so their views weren't very objective. But they could see that even if Lin Lulu lost due to lack of combat experience and hesitation in his attacks, defeating him so quickly spoke volumes. Shen Wang is probably the dark horse of this competition, the judges thought vaguely. The elder sitting in the center smiled, as if in admiration, birds of a feather flocked together. Shouting, your eye for talent is not bad. Indeed, heroes emerge from the youth. Gu Dongting remained silent, recalling the moves Shen Wang had used, feeling a mix of helplessness and a budding sweetness. He had thought Shen Wang was merely playing when he wielded the sword before, not expecting him to remember the moves and use them against his enemies. It's a pity he was using a wooden stick, losing some elegance. Gu Dongting caressed his sword, his gaze softening. While the judges were each making their calculations, the rest of the audience didn't think so much. Whistling, clapping, and screaming were endless, their excitement painting their faces red as if they themselves had defeated the disciples of the Celestial Master Mansion. Damn, I thought the competition was about to end, but it's just getting started. How did he effortlessly defeat Lin Lulu? If I'm not mistaken, Lin Lulu ranks at the top in combat among the younger generation. I don't know, maybe Lin Lulu underestimated him. Shen Wang is really lucky. Shen Wang is awesome. Totally awesome. In previous competitions, it was always those from prestigious sects who took the top spots. I wonder if Shen Wang will break this pattern and put those snobbish disciples in their place. Go Shen Wang. Go Shen Wang. Go Shen Wang. Defeat the disciples from prestigious sects, take the championship. Defeat the disciples from prestigious sects, take the championship. The increasing noise from the crowd reached the stage, silencing the judges, who looked displeased. The elder sitting in the center chuckled, young people are so full of energy. Just a rabble, the middle-aged judge snorted coldly. Just because he defeated a disciple from the Celestial Master Mansion, they think Shen Wang is so great. The outstanding disciples from other sects haven't even arrived yet. I want to see if Shen Wang can keep up his luck when they do. After counting all the minions and looking at the number given by Shi Yan, Shen Wang stroked his chin, pondered for a few seconds, and looked towards his companions. The 4 members of the special department, Shi Yan, Xie Qingming, Wang Guqiang, and the additional member Qin Yurong. Also, his makeshift teammates, the plump Qin Jiming, Feng Shui Master Lin Yan, and the Miaojiang youth Si Ke. He thought for a moment and asked, do you want to advance to the next level? The special department members undoubtedly aimed for advancement, his question was directed at his makeshift teammates. The plump Qin Jiming's eyes lit up, eagerly raising his hand, Shen brother, we want to advance. We don't need outstanding results, just enough to move up. As someone clinging to stronger teammates for points, he was very self-aware. These minions were gathered by Shen Wang, and the other team members barely contributed, so technically, they didn't deserve any points. Now that Shen brother was generously offering, they couldn't be greedy, just passing would suffice. Shi Yan pondered and then volunteered, generally, 30 points should guarantee advancement. If possible, we just wish to move up. As for the rankings, Shi Yan wasn't concerned. Okay, no problem. Seeing they all had their minds made up, Shen Wang gestured grandly, selecting 21 minions to send out. Amid the reluctant gazes of the minions, they were put into the ghost-catching bag, and simultaneously, several names neatly appeared at the top of the ranking board. Behind each name, uniformly, were 30 points. During this time, others also began to spot the minions, sporadically catching one, marking a modest start. Amidst the sparse tens and swathes of 0 points, several 30-point entries suddenly appeared, catching the attention of all contestants. At that moment, Zhao Hang, with the help of Tang Jiu, was searching for the second ghost. Seeing the changes on the leaderboard, he gasped for air in rage, who are these people? How could they be so fast? And Shi Yan, that useless Shi Yan, how is he faster than me? Tang Jiu, looking at the names on the leaderboard, a shadow flickered in his eyes, slowly saying, I know these people. Zhao Hang abruptly looked up, glaring fiercely at Tang Jiu, who are they? Tang Jiu's eyes turned cold, they are all from the Sea City Special Department. Needless to say, Shi Yan, Xie Qingming, and others, even the newcomers like Qin Jiming and Si Ke, who were new entrants but had influential families in Sea City, had unanimously refused the invitation of the Metaphysics Association and chose to join the Special Department. That poor Special Department. Zhao Hang sneered, I don't even regard the Special Department of the capital highly, let alone some small local branch. After laughing, Zhao Hang's eyes gleamed. No need to specifically hunt for ghosts, these people themselves are walking ghosts. Snatching their points would not only ensure advancement but might also secure a top position. Tang Jiu's lips curled subtly, he slowly said, I have some history with Shen Wang, I know how to find him. Tang Jiu had an intuition that finding Shen Wang would lead to numerous points, not only ensuring his advancement but also standing out and achieving everything he wanted. The Tang family's situation was deteriorating day by day, with their secular world company declaring bankruptcy and their cards and funds frozen. They used to rely on talisman papers from the metaphysical world for recovery. Unexpectedly, a talisman paper shop emerged with good quality and low prices, seizing most of their customers. Tang Jiu was certain someone was targeting the Tang family, otherwise, why would those large sects they had cooperated with for years suddenly end their partnerships? He suspected Shen Wang but quickly dismissed him as the suspect. Shen Wang might be an accomplice, but he certainly wasn't the mastermind. Such manipulation in the metaphysical world required not just strength but also immense backing. Tang Jiu couldn't understand why such a top force in the metaphysical world would target him and the small Tang family. Racking his brain, he couldn't figure out which influential figure they had offended. The Tang family's life was deteriorating day by day, even the gentlest Tang mother now seemed like a madwoman. Tang Jiu was indignant. How could he accept this? His life shouldn't be like this. He was meant to shine, attracting countless women to vie for his affection. Participating in the metaphysical competition was Tang Jiu's counterattack. As long as he could make a splash in the competition, as long as he could win. Tang Jiu had this premonition that if he participated, he would win and get everything he wanted. But Shen Wang was also participating in the competition. Internally seething with hatred, Tang Jiu had to conceal his presence and secretly incited others against Shen Wang. Zhao Hang was an excellent choice for this. Zhao Hang and his group were searching for Shen Wang's whereabouts, while other contestants also didn't miss the chance to target this flock of fat sheep. In the seemingly tranquil forest, nothing appeared amiss, yet beneath the dense canopy, cultivators, each displaying their unique abilities, were stealthily maneuvering through the woods. A bird's-eye view from above the forest would reveal that these people were moving directly towards Shen Wang and his group. Unaware of the impending surge of people, Shen Wang's group was like the eye of a tornado, deceptively calm at the center. Looking at his accumulated points, Xiao Pengzi was grinning ear to ear, as if in a dream. I never thought I could advance to the next round. The geomancer was equally starry-eyed. My dad won't spank me anymore. If only we could advance in the second round too. Stop daydreaming, Shen Wang unhesitatingly interrupted their fanciful thoughts. This is just the preliminary round. It's not difficult, which is why you could slip through. The further stages of the competition would only get harder. In the final round, actual combat is involved. Even if Shen Wang forcibly got them through, they would only end up battered and bruised, serving as experience points for others. Xiao Pengzi wasn't offended, still beaming. I know my own abilities. Advancing to the second round is all thanks to your protection, Shen Gu. I'm just really lucky. Thanks, Shen Gu. Shen Gu is mighty, Shen Gu is awesome. You are our one and only brother, our brother forever. Surrounded by their flattering remarks, Shen Wang rolled his eyes, calling me Dad won't help. Amidst the laughter, Shen Wang's gaze shifted slightly, pushing aside the people around him to look into the forest, raising an eyebrow. Someone else is coming. As soon as the words were spoken, a man and a woman emerged from the woods. Seeing the throng of little ghosts, their pupils constricted, and their first reaction was to draw their weapons. Who's there? The man was tall, dressed in a casual blue denim jacket, while the woman, also dressed in a simple and casual tracksuit, had her hair tied in a high ponytail, looking neat and tidy. Recognizing the pair, Shi Yan also paused, stepping forward hesitantly. Minister Feng, Minister Lu. The two turned to Shi Yan, their expressions shifting several times. The young man asked, Shi Yan, what's going on here? Shi Yan, somewhat helpless, introduced them to Shen Wang. These are our special department's headquarters ministers, Minister Feng Ju and Minister Lu Tingchun. He is the external support we've requested for our Sea-City branch. Hearing this, the two recalled, oh, the one who, after winning the championship, gets to pick 3 items from the treasury. That external support. Initially, they hadn't taken Shi Yan's request very seriously. After all the outstanding talents in the metaphysical world were well documented, either in various sects or the Metaphysical Association, leaving no undiscovered pearls. The special department had capable people, but their foundation was weak. They mostly lingered at the bottom of the competition, barely making it into the top 10, often leaving with regret. They had never achieved the top 3. If Shi Yan really managed to pry away disciples from the major sects, both were happy to see it happen, but they had never heard of this external support before, suggesting his skills were likely unremarkable. While they had agreed to Shi Yan's request, they hadn't held much hope. Now, seeing the multitude of little ghosts spread across the hills, Feng Ju blinked slowly, muttering to himself, could it be that all the little ghosts from the competition are here? Lu Tingchuan's delicate face was filled with confusion as she looked at Shen Wang. How did you do it? Shi Yan, unsure how to respond, could only offer an awkward smile. It's all thanks to Shen Wang's skills, he. Hesitating for a few seconds, Shi Yan emphasized, anyway, it was Shen Wang who gathered them. As for how he did it, Shi Yan was almost too embarrassed to say. Since they were all on the same side, Shen Wang greeted them cheerfully and generously offered, since we're all one team, do you have enough points? If not, I can share some with you. Feng Ju. Lu Tingchun. The two had struggled to find even one ghost after searching tirelessly, barely managing to earn their first and only point. And now, Shen Wang casually offered to share his points. Exchanging glances, they coughed lightly and said, in that case, thank you for your kindness. After all, being on the same team, there was no need to compete. Shen Wang amiably and kindly distributed a few little ghosts to them, helping them each reach the necessary 30 points. The ranking board refreshed again, adding 2 more names to the top with exactly 30 points, just enough to advance. The other contestants were utterly baffled by this situation. 2 female contestants huddled together, utterly perplexed. 30, 30, always 30, why is it always 30? Another female contestant was equally frustrated. Could it be that these little ghosts are always grouped in 3s? But why couldn't we find any? Damn it. What the heck is this? A large group of other contestants also gathered, moving toward the area with the densest energy while discussing among themselves. This competition is too strange, everyone be careful. I suspect that besides the formation, the officials have set up other traps. A dozen or so people emerged from the woods, their eyes lighting up at the sight of the numerous ghosts, filled with eagerness and anticipation. Upon seeing Shen Wang and the others, they frowned. Fellow Taoist, there are so many ghosts here, we don't need to compete then. Better to collect the ghosts quickly and leave, or else when the more powerful competitors arrive, they won't be able to escape. Shen Wang chuckled, sorry, but these are all my spoils of war. The dozen or so contestants looked utterly baffled. They glanced at the multitude of little demons, then back at Shen Wang, their eyes shifting back and forth between the two before they burst into uninhibited laughter. You say it's yours just because you say so. What proof do you have? This is a competition. Don't you understand the principle that the strong lead? We try to talk sense into you, but you won't listen. Do you really want to resort to fighting us? Do you think they would respond if you called them? Shen Wang disagreed with this remark. Pointing at the chubby ghost, he said, if I call them, they really do respond. Hearing this, the chubby ghost moved and shouted with a strong voice, hello, brother Shen. Behind him, the quiet ghosts, who hadn't made a sound until then, suddenly seemed to awaken, echoing in unison. Hello, brother Shen. Hello, brother Shen. Hello, brother Shen. Their simultaneous shouts stirred the ghostly aura around them, sending it wafting in layers, shaking leaves off trees, and startling distant birds into panicked flight. The dozen people who could hear the ghosts' voices were dumbstruck, looking at Shen Wang as if they had seen a ghost. Even if they had really seen one, they wouldn't have been so astonished. The man leading them opened and closed his mouth several times, and after a long while, he finally managed to utter, how did you do that? These ghosts, who should have been cunningly challenging them, were as obedient as domesticated ghosts in Shen Wang's presence. Even domesticated ghosts might not be this obedient. Shen Wang lifted his head, his tone deep, maybe this is just the charm of personality. The dozen or so cultivators. Shi Yan and others. Only the chubby boy and a few others clapped wildly, shamelessly flattering, right. Brother Shen, your charisma is off the charts. Brother Shen is awesome. The opponents quickly regained their composure, exchanging glances before drawing their weapons, so what if you're right, this is still a competition. After all, competitors are allowed to seize opportunities from each other. Lu Tingshun was somewhat worried, whispering to Shen Wang, these people are not to be feared, but the movement of your ghost minions just now was too noticeable. I guess, others will be rushing over here soon. These are all famous figures. Can Shen Wang withstand so many people attacking him at once? Although 10 or 20 points might be a bit risky for advancement, it's still possible with some good luck. Damn, his last escape route is blocked, he can't run away at all. What is he planning to do? Those supporting Shen Wang were extremely anxious, wishing he could just dig his way out. But as more and more people arrived at the scene, their hopes dwindled. On the judges' platform, the expressions of the judges were subtly complex. Previously, they were eagerly hoping their disciples would quickly find Shen Wang. Now that they have, the number of competitors is overwhelmingly high, leaving the judges unable to feel happy. Someone furrowed their brows, attempting to analyze the situation. Among these people, the most promising are Wushu and Boyu from the Xuanxue Association, as they have the most followers. Immediately, someone objected, they only have the advantage of numbers. The strongest are actually. Before finishing, they suddenly clammed up. In the younger generation of the Xuanxue world, apart from the extraordinarily strong Gu Dongting, there were only a few like Lin Lulu, who, unfortunately, was tied up under a tree. The elder in the middle also sighed, only when water is full does it overflow, staying humble and composed is the key to longevity. Exactly, this Shen Wang, relying on his little smarts, is getting too cocky, not knowing how to conceal his gains, lacking ambition. It's only natural for him to end up in this situation. Hearing their words, Gu Dongting lifted his eyes, scanning over these people. Wherever his gaze went, many felt a chill on their backs, involuntarily shutting their mouths, confused, where did they offend this deity? When the judges quieted down and stopped talking, Gu Dongting spoke indifferently, until the last moment, who knows what the outcome will be. Seeing his attitude, which seemed to suggest that Shen Wang still had a chance to turn things around, the judges exchanged looks, unsure of what to say. Now, Shen Wang was tightly surrounded, not even a mosquito could escape, let alone several grown men. Under these circumstances, how could he possibly turn the tables? It's not like he could suddenly unleash divine power and defeat these hundreds of people, right? As more and more people gathered, the atmosphere became increasingly tense. Someone even couldn't resist trying to stealthily grab a ghost and flee, but as soon as they touched the little ghost, it started screaming like a slaughtered pig. Big brother Shen. Someone is stealing ghosts. Someone is trying to steal me. The cultivator who tried to steal the ghost, just a lone practitioner, stumbled in fright at the scream, and under the pressure of everyone's gaze, quickly disappeared into the crowd. In the tense atmosphere, the ghost squawk seemed to break some equilibrium, drawing all eyes to Shen Wang. Shen Wang raised an eyebrow and cleared his throat, his voice not loud but eerily audible to everyone. Hello everyone, I am Shen Wang, and these little ghosts' temporary master. The crowd's expression shifted slightly, watching Shen Wang with inscrutable looks. Not only were the people on the scene baffled by Shen Wang's actions, but the spectators watching the live broadcast were also clueless about what he intended to do. What is he doing? He's not begging for mercy, is he? That would be too low. I don't know, but with his personality, he probably wouldn't, right? Although most people present didn't know Shen Wang well, those who had watched the live broadcast realized that Shen Wang was arrogant, it was impossible for him to beg for mercy. Someone hopeful speculated, maybe he has a way to turn the tide against the odds. After all, this is Shen Wang. The same Shen Wang who, single-handedly, gathered most of the ghosts in the competition, causing all other contestants great distress, nearly leaving them with nothing, and even defeated Lin Lulu of the Celestial Master's Mansion. With his words, unrealistic hopes began to sprout in everyone's minds. Shen Wang, with a smile, looked around, as you can see, I've found many ghosts. But as everyone knows, so many points are unnecessary for advancement, anything extra is just a useless number. So, I plan to hold an auction right here. With that statement from Shen Wang, pupils of everyone, both inside and outside the arena, dilated in shock. Silence ensued, a prolonged quiet where only Shen Wang's voice could be heard. I've already taken the points I need. The rest of these little ghosts can be purchased by everyone at their discretion, with no minimum price. Shen Wang suddenly added, I don't accept cash, but you can use spiritual herbs, refining materials, or anything containing spiritual energy. I'll decide the price. After speaking, he turned to the cluster of little ghosts who were huddling together. I'll give you 30% of the profits. The ghosts lit up for a moment, not expecting to benefit themselves. Thank you, big brother Shen. Shen Wang had everything clearly arranged, but unfortunately, others didn't want to play by his rules. A woman scoffed, you sure have a big mouth. Rather than buying from you, it's better to defeat you and naturally obtain all your belongings. Shen Wang looked closely and realized the speaker was an acquaintance, which made him laugh. You're right, you can choose to defeat me and take my spoils. As a token of my gratitude for your suggestion, I've decided to ban you from participating in the first auction of my Xuanxue competition. In short, he had blacklisted her and refused to sell anything to her. The woman was taken aback, suppressing her anger. I don't care. This woman was none other than Gu Manling. Although she is Gu Dongting's sister and hasn't done anything bad to him so far, Shen Wang, feeling he was the master of the auction, decided to blacklist Gu Manling. Everyone present was just waiting for someone to step forward first to test Shen Wang's strength. Soon, someone could not contain their emotions and stepped forward. You're really bizarre, I want to see what tricks you have up your sleeve. The man was extremely sturdy, with knotted muscles, clearly very strong. After speaking, he immediately clenched his fists and rushed forward with bare hands. His fist, big as a sandbag and full of aggression, aimed straight for Shen Wang's abdomen. Not a bad punch, Shen Wang complimented, and in the next second, a flash of white light surrounded him, blocking the opponent's fist a foot away. The man, unfazed, clenched his fists, relentlessly attacking the white light before him. After several strikes, like shattering ice, the white light slowly began to fracture. Before he could even smile in triumph, another white light emerged. His fist thudded solidly against it once more. Shen Wang winced. Doesn't that hurt? He really couldn't understand these physical cultivators who seemed to rely on self-torture for their training. The man, furious, yelled, Stop hiding in your damn shell and come out and fight me. He had planned to make it a quick fight to conserve his strength for the other competitors, but as soon as he took the first step, he slammed hard into a wall. Everyone recognized what Shen Wang had thrown out, a defensive talisman. Seeing the talisman, the others began to understand why Shen Wang was so arrogant. Its defensive capability was strong enough for him to be reckless a few times. But, a talisman is, after all, a consumable. The crowd watched coldly as the men wore down Shen Wang's talisman, planning to make their move when both were weakened. But after a while, someone sensed something amiss. How many talismans has he used? I didn't count, but probably around a dozen. How come they're not finished yet? Don't know. After a moment of silence, someone else made a move, bypassing the men contending with the talisman and aiming a sword strike at Shen Wang. The next second, another white light appeared. Others, damn it. How many talismans does this guy have? Chapter 98. At this point, those who were waiting to reap the benefits without effort could no longer sit still. Having waited for so long, already restless, they watched as Shen Wang, like a treasure chest, kept throwing out one talisman after another endlessly. While others were laboriously pounding on the protective barrier with their fists, Shen Wang stood there effortlessly, not even shifting his position. Forgetting the dignity of the reputable clans, one after another began to make their move, but without exception, they were all blocked by a talisman casually thrown by Shen Wang. The eager crowd. How many more talismans does this guy have? In a fit of rage, more and more people joined the attack, a variety of techniques and weapons crisscrossing in the air, dazzling to the eyes. The onlookers couldn't help but feel tense. Such a wide-scale powerful attack, it could lead to fatalities. Shen Wang merely glanced at them. With a flip of his hands, his slender and strong fingertips pinching several talismans, he tossed all of them into the air. A burst of nearly blinding white light was accompanied by a crackling sound. It was like rain and hail striking an umbrella, then scattering onto the ground. He can block that too. Which sect does he belong to be so outrageously extravagant? So many talismans, why not save them for later in the competition? Using them in the preliminary round is such a waste. Everyone couldn't help but question their life choices. The audience outside the stage was cheering and jumping for joy, the atmosphere incredibly lively. If it weren't for the judges present on stage, someone might have even stripped off their clothes and run around the venue. A chubby middle-aged man couldn't stop smiling, his face glowing with pride. See that plump kid next to Shen Wang. That's my son. My son. Shen Wang is a talisman master himself, how could he possibly lack talismans? To stand his ground against so many, truly worthy of Shen Wang. The power of his talisman surpasses many veteran talisman masters. I wonder where one can buy them. Upon hearing this, those who had been paying attention to Shen Wang immediately recommended, you can check out his online store. I was lucky to grab a talisman once, its spiritual energy was so rich, truly worthy of Shen Wang. I haven't dared to use it yet, it's enshrined at my home. The strength of his talismans comes from the new type of talisman paper he uses. That paper is really good. After I used it, my success rate in talisman drawing has increased significantly. Thus, without Shen Wang even knowing, his casual online store suddenly experienced a surge in followers. Even the store selling talisman paper by Xiao Heige was recommended through word of mouth. Many planned to buy the talisman paper after the competition. Compared to the jubilant atmosphere of the common cultivators, the judges' faces were much more solemn. In previous competitions, although the rankings might vary, the champion had always been from one of the sections. For them, this competition was more of an internal struggle. Now, an unexpected dark horse like this was bound to displease anyone. They stared at the big screen with grim faces, a thought suddenly crossing their minds, this competition might take an unexpected turn. Among the judges, only the elderly men in the middle and Gu Dongting remained composed. The elder, looking at Shen Wang, spoke thoughtfully, did he draw these talismans himself? Gu Dongting nodded slightly, proudly, indeed, he is a talisman master. The elder nodded, unable to suppress a smile, it's rare to see such an exceptionally talented young man. If I were not a talisman master myself, I would have wanted to take him as my disciple. Seeing such a talented young man, the elder couldn't help but be excited, even considering introducing this young man to his talisman master friends to prevent his talent from being buried. Hearing the elder's words, the judges were all shaken, with someone exclaiming, "Elder Bai." Seeing their reaction, Elder Bai waved his hand nonchalantly, just a casual mention. But a casual mention by Elder Bai could never just be a casual mention. The other judges had varied expressions, internally commenting on the situation. It's known that the Bai family has the most complete alchemical lineage in the metaphysical world, and Elder Bai is the patriarch of the Bai family. He is gentle, highly skilled in alchemy, and highly respected in the metaphysical community. Anyone who meets him must bow respectfully and address him as Elder Bai. Now that Elder Bai showed his undisguised appreciation for Shen Wang, the judges who harbored various thoughts had to reconsider. Among them, the judge from Baiyun Temple was the most severe. He frowned with a sinister look. Even if Elder Bai protects him, he planned to make that brat pay after the competition for embarrassing Baiyun Temple in public. Amidst the light-hearted atmosphere outside, Shen Wang stood within the impenetrable defensive talisman array, indifferent to the attacks, casually asking, "Are you buying or not? If not, let's forget it." It had been a while, and no one had broken his defense or participated in his auction, making Shen Wang somewhat impatient. If these people were unwilling, Shen Wang wouldn't force a sale. By collecting all the demons into his ghost bag, he could finish the competition with an astonishingly high score. As for others being eliminated with 0 points, that's their own weakness. What does it have to do with me? Shen Wang thought, feeling justified. Noticing Shen Wang's motion to collect ghosts, a cold voice interrupted, "Wait." Shen Wang paused, looking towards the speaker, slightly raising an eyebrow. "Yes." The man was dressed in a suit, dark silk shirt, and his hair slicked back, looking refined yet slightly rogue. "May I ask, how do you wish to sell them?" The people standing beside him looked at him in surprise. Who is this pretentious guy? Shen Wang was also surprised. Dressing like this in the wilderness was taking pretentiousness to a whole new level. "He's from the Metaphysical Association's Imperial Capital main branch," someone behind quietly explained. "His name is Bo Yu, and the one next to him is Wushu. They're both prominent young members of the Metaphysical Association. In the young talent rankings of the metaphysical world, he ranks second." Shen Wang reflexively retorted, "Then who's the first?" Shi Yan, who was enlightening Shen Wang in secret. He was at a loss for words with Shen Wang, painstakingly explaining, "Have you forgotten about elder brother Gu?" Shen Wang suddenly realized and belatedly remembered that although Gu Dongting was the #1 figure in the mystical studies realm, he was still a young man in his 20s and indeed should be ranked in the youth rankings. He clicked his tongue lightly, helplessly saying, "It's all because your elder brother Gu is too outstanding, protecting you all under his wings like a mother hen. I forgot that he's about your age." Even though he's a peer, he's practically living like an elder. Shen Wang didn't know what to say. Although they lowered their voices, Bo Yu, who overheard their conversation clearly, was speechless. Being perennially the second best, Bo Yu hated this topic the most. If someone else had brought it up, he would have given them a thorough care, but it was Shen Wang who had said it. Shen Wang, hidden within his defensive talisman formation like a turtle in its shell, left Bo Yu powerless and silently fuming. Knowing who it was, Shen Wang thought for a moment and asked, "What are you offering to buy it with?" Seeing his reaction, Feng Ju and Lu Tingchun from the special department changed their expressions and quietly reminded, "He's from the Mystical Studies Association." "So what if he's from the Mystical Studies Association? We're open for business, all are welcome as long as it's fair and square." Shen Wang waved his hand and said with a sense of justice. Bo Yu thought for a moment and presented a small bottle. "This is the rejuvenation pill that can restore magical power. There are 3 pills in total. Let me know how many points they can be exchanged for." "Rejuvenation pills, huh?" Shen Wang's eyes gleamed with interest. Although useless to him, they could serve as small treats for his Xianyu immortal tome. 3 little ghosts, take it or leave it, Shen Wang stated bluntly. Someone exclaimed in shock, "These are rejuvenation pills. Do you know how precious they are? And you're only exchanging them for 3 little ghosts. That's just 30 points. It's a robbery." Shen Wang smiled slightly. "I said, take it or leave it." Bo Yu's expression shifted several times, silencing the discontent behind him. "Deal." Everyone present ceased their attacks, watching tensely as Bo Yu and Shen Wang negotiated, eagerly anticipating the outcome. Shen Wang promptly selected 3 little ghosts, walking towards Bo Yu with them. Standing outside the protective talisman array, Bo Yu held the small bottle containing the rejuvenation pills, while Shen Wang approached him with easy strides. As Shen Wang's steps brought him closer to the edge of the talisman array, the tension among the spectators heightened. The moment he stepped out of the array, a surge of attacking light erupted, followed by a scream. Was it a sneak attack on Shen Wang? The crowd was startled and looked intently, only to be stunned. They saw a person dressed in black lying on the ground, as if struck by lightning, with hair standing on end and black smoke billowing from their body. But this person was not Shen Wang. Shen Wang sighed, looking down at the person on the ground with pity. "I have so many defense talismans, did you really think I wouldn't have attack talismans?" Bo Yu's pupils shrank. "It's a thunder talisman." With such powerful attack talismans, how many did Shen Wang have? What if he had as many as his defense talismans? With the power of the thunder talisman, he didn't need to aim deliberately. In such a crowded situation, scattering them randomly would knock out most of the people around. Bo Yu bit his lip secretly, abandoning the idea of attacking during the trade. He observed Shen Wang with a complex gaze. "Fellow Taoist, you truly keep your abilities hidden." Such a person, previously unknown in the metaphysical world, made Bo Yu believe that he had been hiding his strength, waiting for the right moment to emerge and shock the entire metaphysical community. "Oh, not at all," Shen Wang responded nonchalantly to his thoughts, hurriedly completing the transaction with a particularly sincere smile. "Thanks for your patronage, dear, do visit again." Bo Yu exchanged with medicinal pills in compliance, while others looked at each other, hesitating. Then, a monk stepped forward. "I have a blessed prayer bead, how much can I exchange for it?" Shen Wang glanced at it and noticed that not only was the bead blessed, but it had also been worn and prayed over daily, faintly emanating a Buddhist light. 10 for this, but are you sure you want to exchange it?" The bead was genuinely valuable, and using it in such a place seemed like a waste. The monk, with a gentle expression, replied, "Let's exchange it for that." With the monk insisting, Shen Wang didn't persuade further. He counted out 10 little ghosts, muttering to himself, monks these days are so materialistic, using such items for points. The monk stored the little ghosts in his bag, and the leaderboard updated with him at the top, exactly 100 points. Hearing the mutterings, several people looked concerned. The chubby one hesitated for a while before reminding Shen Wang, Brother Shen, he is a master from Arhat Temple, and the senior brother of Xiao Huiping. Shen Wang was surprised. Xiao Huiping, one of our plastic teammates, the bald little monk who's just a few years old, a prodigy with a baby voice. That explains it. Shen Wang realized, smiling at the senior monk, thank you for your patronage. With the initial two taking the lead, others also realized that defeating Shen Wang for points was nearly impossible, sparking excitement among everyone. Those with items began searching their belongings, eagerly presenting their items for exchange. Those without anything showed frustration, attempting to bargain with Shen Wang, fellow Taoist Shen, can I write you an IOU? I'll give you the items once we leave the competition. With only a limited number of ghosts and points available, being too slow could mean elimination, which was a risk not worth taking. Everyone was incredibly excited, transforming the previously stagnant atmosphere into one of intense enthusiasm. Shen Wang, smiling broadly, welcomed all customers, skillfully collecting items. The plump ghost efficiently organized the newly acquired ghosts. Small business, cash transactions only, no credit, Shen Wang said cheerfully, thinking initially these people wouldn't have much to offer, just plucking a few feathers. To his surprise, they brought quite valuable items, making him unable to stop smiling. He couldn't help but think, as expected of disciples from major sects, so wealthy. As for offering credit, that was a joke. Doing business with them here was one thing, but expecting them to acknowledge the debt once outside was another. Even if they were willing to pay, their sect elders were not to be trifled with. As Shen Wang conducted his auction, the leaderboard continuously changed, infuriating the live streaming judges. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. What does he think the metaphysical contest is? Using such tricks at the metaphysical conference to cheat our sect disciples of their possessions, utterly lawless. He's turned this metaphysical contest into a complete mess. When they heard Shen Wang was holding an auction, the judges thought he was just a clown, soon to be defeated and eliminated by their sect disciples. But as Shen Wang remained undefeated against their onslaught, they realized something was amiss, yet felt helpless. Now, seeing their disciples in the crowd, hustling like in a noisy marketplace, offering their treasures to Shen Wang, the judges were nearly apoplectic. He's not using defensive talismans now, don't they know to sneak attack, someone exclaimed in frustration. The next second, as expected, someone took advantage of the chaos and drew a sword to stab at Shen Wang. Before the judges could show their pleasure, Shen Wang, without turning his head, flung out a talisman. With a thunderous roar, the attacker was struck by the 5 thunderbolts, convulsing on the ground, his body blackened. The judges. Damn it, this Shen Wang, where on earth did this freak come from? The number of little ghosts behind Shen Wang decreased, while the items in his hands increased. When he could hold no more, the chubby one offered his coat to hold everything. Those who exchanged for little ghosts hurriedly left, and Shen Wang noticed that many were followed by others with ill intentions. Indifferently withdrawing his gaze, Shen Wang paid no mind, his only responsibility was to sell these items. Once sold, they were no longer his concern. After the last little ghost was allocated, the surrounding crowd dispersed, leaving as they had come. Some, unwilling to leave empty-handed, hid in the forest, attempting to ambush Shen Wang's teammates. But no matter how well they concealed themselves, the moment they attacked, Shen Wang reacted as if he had eyes on the back of his head, timely flinging out a talisman. Seeing that Shen Wang's side was impervious, those who had gained nothing looked at him resentfully before leaving in anger. The surroundings returned to calm, and the few people present exchanged glances before bursting into laughter. Even Xia Qingming laughed, I've never seen a metaphysical contest like this before. Unheard of, unseen before. But he had to admit, watching Shen Wang play everyone in his palm, he felt an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. The chubby one and others were not as reserved as Xia Qingming, laughing and saying, I swear, Brother Shen, after this competition, you will definitely become famous throughout the metaphysical world. Brother Shen, you are amazing. Did you see Bo Yu's face? His pretentious airs are nothing in front of you, Brother Shen, you're the real deal. Feng Ju and Lu Tingchun from the special department headquarters also smiled, Shi Yan, where did you find such a strong ally? With such a powerful ally, Feng Ju and Lu Tingchun couldn't help but feel ambitious, even beginning to envision a top 3 finish in the competition. The group completely relaxed, some sitting, some standing, chatting and laughing, enjoying a light-hearted and comfortable moment. At that moment, the forest suddenly rustled, causing everyone to pause and look towards the source of the noise. When both parties faced each other, they were all momentarily stunned. Shen Wang narrowed his eyes meaningfully, so it's you guys. The group was indeed Zhao Hang and Tang Jiu among others. Zhao Hang, slightly disheveled, scanned the group with shining eyes, his expression filled with an unusual excitement, it's you. Tang Jiu timely reminded him from behind, those are the people. As soon as Zhao Hang could not wait any longer, he pointed his sword at Shen Wang and the others, hand over all your points, or don't blame me for being rude. Zhao Hang expected them to either tremble in fear or stubbornly resist. To his surprise, the expressions on their faces were oddly sympathetic, as if they pitied him. Shi Yan struggled to maintain composure, but couldn't help revealing a subtle smile, you have no idea what just happened, do you? Zhao Hang, frustrated and infuriated, snapped, I don't care what happened. Hand over your points, or don't blame me for being rude. Not long ago, under Tang Jiu's lead, Zhao Hang and his group had been searching for Shen Wang and his companions, only to unluckily stumble into a formation. Zhao Hang and his team wrestled with the air, taking a long time to realize it was an illusionary formation. He couldn't understand why the illusionary effects in the competition field were so lifelike, almost real. If not for Tang Jiu's realization, they would still be trapped, battling non-existent evil spirits. It was also Tang Jiu who accidentally found the formation's core and broke it, enabling their escape. Once out, Zhao Hang found that his first-place ranking had vanished, replaced by a new set of names on the scoreboard, pushing him far down the list. Suffering continuous setbacks, Zhao Hang's temper worsened, making others wary of approaching him, except for Tang Jiu who could still communicate with him. Finally encountering Shen Wang and his group, Zhao Hang's spirits lifted, if he could seize their points, he could return to first place. Zhao Heng never considered why each member of this team confidently held 30 points, enough for advancement. Nor did he ponder why those with such high points were openly gathered here, unafraid of being robbed. All he saw were points, countless points. And the admiration and envy he would receive after winning the preliminary round as the first-place finisher. Shen Wang's eyes briefly lingered on the sword in Zhao Heng's hand, his tone meaningful. I heard that competition and rivalry are allowed, right? Shi Yan nodded in agreement. Yes, as long as it doesn't lead to malicious incidents or endanger the lives of the participants, all competitive actions are legitimate. Shen Wang nodded. That's good. Unaware of their implied meaning, Zhao Heng sneered, refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. This is your own doing. Having disliked Shen Wang for a while, Zhao Heng gestured, and his group charged forward. His gaze fixed on Shen Wang, filled with a chilling malice. Dare to defy me. I'll break your legs this time, make you kneel and beg for mercy. Let's see how sharp-tongued you can be then. As they charged fiercely, Shen Wang and his companions remained unmoved, just quietly watching them, and then a bolt of purple lightning struck from the sky, hitting Zhao Heng right on the head, leaving him seeing stars and collapsing straight to the ground, eyes rolling back. The others, affected by the aftermath of the purple lightning, weren't as severely hit as Zhao Heng but still found themselves numb and awkwardly tumbling to the ground in a heap. Shen Wang slowly approached them, looking down on them with disdain, trying to steal my points. Under Shen Wang's cold and contemptuous gaze, those who attempted the robbery but got counterattacked finally panicked, begging for mercy one after another. It was Zhao Heng, it was all his idea to attack you. We were just following orders. We're not from Baiyun Temple. We were just sent here to serve the young master, to be cannon fodder. Zhao Heng was the one giving orders. When Zhao Heng was conscious, they were his most loyal henchmen, ready to strike wherever directed. But now, facing danger, they didn't even care for the still unconscious Zhao Heng, instead starting to blame each other. Shen Wang, having seen plenty of such turncoats, coldly shifted his gaze away, landing on Tang Jiu with a surge of murderous intent. Everywhere I go, there he is, like a cockroach that can't be killed. Disgusting, Shen Wang thought, his fingertips summoning a talisman. He looked at Tang Jiu, his eyes icy. As soon as Zhao Heng was attacked, Tang Jiu immediately reduced his presence, blending into the crowd. Just as he was thinking of escaping, a sudden sense of crisis overwhelmed him. Without hesitation, he rolled to the side, a clumsy move that just narrowly avoided the purple lightning aimed straight at him. As he turned back, seeing the purple lightning, his pupils shrank. He had a feeling that the energy within the lightning was formidable, even capable of killing him on the spot. That feeling wasn't an illusion. Shen Wang really wanted to kill him. Tang Jiu's heart raced as he scrambled up and ran without hesitation. As Shen Wang's strike missed and he prepared to attack again, Tang Jiu's fleeing figure was suddenly blocked by someone. How dare you? Regretfully withdrawing his gaze, Shen Wang mused, the protagonist is indeed the protagonist. He even dodged a close-range purple lightning talisman. Anyone else would have been dead by now. Just as he was about to strike again, someone else emerged to interrupt. It seemed like fate truly favored Tang Jiu, blessing him with an abundance of luck. Son of destiny, the protagonist, Shen Wang sneered inwardly, his gaze on Zhao Heng filled with impatience. So you want to steal my points, right? Hand over yours now. Zhao Heng struggled to his feet, incredulous, and tried to argue, only to be stunned by Shen Wang's words. What did you say? Shen Wang repeated coldly. I said, hand over your points, don't make me act. You want my points? Zhao Heng was almost amused, his head still buzzing from the lightning strike. He pointed at himself, then at Shen Wang. Do you know who I am? I am from Baiyun Temple. Before he could finish, he was sent flying back, tumbling several meters before crashing to the ground. Shen Wang approached and took out the only little ghost he had in his ghost bag, transferring it into his own. Seeing his points increase by 10 while Zhao Heng's dwindled to 0, Shen Wang sneered, you refused a toast only to drink a forfeit. You brought this on yourself. Sudden pain shot through Zhao Heng's abdomen as he was kicked away. Despite the sturdy physique of cultivators, he remained conscious, glaring furiously at Shen Wang. Shen Wang glanced at him, then suddenly bent down to pick up Zhao Heng's sword lying nearby. Remember our wager? Zhao Heng's pupils shrank. The loser had to kowtow 3 times, run around the building shouting their organization was trash, and also, forfeit their sword. As expected, you lost. Now, your sword is mine, Shen Wang said, holding the sword between his finger and thumb, his expression laced with mockery. Zhao Heng struggled, trying to stand. No, that's mine. Just struck by lightning, his body charred and his hair reeking of burn, Zhao Heng struggled to stand after being kicked harshly, only managing to glare in impotent fury. Shen Wang chuckled lightly. I once desired your sword, but not anymore. Zhao Heng's eyes flickered, hastily reaching out to retrieve his sword. That damn Shen Wang, still afraid to provoke Baiyun Guan. Zhao Heng thought bitterly, vowing to make Shen Wang pay once he left this place. The next second, Shen Wang swiftly drew his sword, holding the hilt between his left thumb and forefinger, and pinching the blade between his right thumb and middle finger, slightly bending the pristine blade into an arc. Eventually, under the strain, it shattered into 2 pieces. With a clang, the scabbard and broken blade were tossed to the ground, as Shen Wang declared, your belongings are of no interest to me. Chapter 99. Humiliation. This was blatant humiliation. Zhao Heng's eyes reddened, his mind buzzing, fixating on Shen Wang. He spat out blood in rage and fainted from sheer anger. Everyone else looked at Shen Wang as if he were an alien, unsure of what to say. Zhao Heng's followers felt incredibly relieved that they had pleaded for mercy early, otherwise, they might have been the ones spitting blood in humiliation. Shi Yan and the others had already witnessed Shen Wang's talent for infuriating others, so him making someone spit blood in anger was not surprising to them. Shi Yan found it odd that Shen Wang, known for his opportunistic nature, would just break the sword like that. Focusing on the broken sword on the ground, Shi Yan spoke out, Zhao Heng is a direct disciple of Baiyun Guan. Shen Wang took out a tissue, wiped his fingertips, and casually tossed it onto Zhao Heng, an act low in lethality but high in insult. He might as well have engraved those words on his face. His sword must also be a fine magical instrument, Shi Yan said slowly. Yet Shen Wang, without a second glance, broke this rare artifact, making Shi Yan, who disliked Zhao Heng, feel it was a terrible waste. Although Zhao Heng is brainless and disgusting, why should the treasure suffer for it? Not just Shi Yan, others also felt a pang of regret. Shen Wang couldn't help but frown deeply. Is this trash worthy of being called a magical instrument? He couldn't help but laugh. It seems the prowess of Bai Yunguan isn't as mystical as you've claimed. As soon as he said this, everyone present couldn't help but change their expression, daring to speak of Bai Yunguan in such a manner. What audacity! The crowd outside was also in an uproar. Some thought Shen Wang too arrogant, speaking recklessly with just a bit of achievement. Others believed that at just over 20, his youthful arrogance was understandable. On the judges' panel, a middle-aged judge from Bai Yunguan looked displeased, his right hand clenched into a fist. Next to him, someone said meaningfully, he's not wrong, though. Bai Yunguan became the foremost sect in mysticism by chance. It's mostly just good luck. During the years of frequent wars and suffering, the world of mysticism couldn't remain unaffected. A great power established the Mysticism Association for mutual support, staying hidden from the chaotic world to preserve their lineage. And Bai Yunguan was merely the first to join the Mysticism Association, hiding from the world earliest, hence their relatively intact heritage. Nearly a century later, as the world of mysticism thrived, Bai Yunguan's slight lead had completely vanished, and their title as the foremost sect was on shaky ground. The middle-aged judge's expression changed repeatedly, eventually settling into a dark glower. The other judges exchanged glances, each smiling slightly. Outsiders only see Bai Yunguan's zenith, firmly in first place, but in reality, Gu Dongting stayed out of their intrigues, simply watching Shen Wang with focused eyes. Elder Bai sighed imperceptibly. Today's world of mysticism is no longer like the old days, focused on cultivation and seeking the Tao. It has become like the secular world, full of power and desire, reeking of money. This preliminary round of the mysticism competition was full of twists and turns, utterly surprising. After Shen Wang sold the little ghosts, more names appeared on the scoreboard, but soon, the calm was disrupted. The score leaderboard was constantly changing, with some instantly dropping to zero and others abruptly climbing to the top. Just watching the ever-changing rankings on the board was enough to sense the undercurrents at play. Yet no matter how fiercely the contestants fought for it, no one dared to disturb Shen Wang. Mere meters away from them, two groups were fighting fiercely, while Shen Wang and his group, not far from the action, had found the best spots to watch and were commenting. Going barehanded against someone with a knife, his points are going to be taken. I don't think so. He may be unarmed, but his boxing skills are formidable. It's the one with the knife who can't handle it properly. Hey, that guy is so shameless, going after a woman's points. Picking on the weaker ones, what kind of man is that? Damn, that woman is ruthless. Don't let her hear you. She's the type to take down a kid with a single strike, and someone like you, she could handle 10 at a time. Those fighting desperately for points had to beware of not only their opponents but also the commentary from onlookers, nearly infuriating them to the point of spitting blood. And those who thought of attacking the onlookers were promptly dispatched by Shen Wang's talismans, leaving them no choice but to suffer in silence. After receiving the notice of the competition's end, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The groups that were fighting just moments ago turned their heads and glared at Shen Wang and his group, united in their animosity. Shen Wang. Shen Wang, I told you not to be so sharp-tongued. See, now everyone hates you. The others. Who started being offensive first, really? After leaving the competition arena, Shen Wang and his group were clean and tidy, their hair barely disturbed, while the others who came out at the same time were at best disheveled, and some were even limping, supporting each other. Bo Yu, along with several others of equally distinguished appearance, walked out side by side, and their expressions changed upon seeing Shen Wang. Shen Wang still remembered Bo Yu, the first person to buy his charms. He greeted them warmly and kindly, congratulations on securing first place. Everyone secretly observing the scene had subtle expressions upon hearing Shen Wang's words. In this competition, Bo Yu ranked first on the points leaderboard with a total of 470 points, breaking the record for the preliminary round of the Mystical Studies tournament. Following him were Wushu with 230 points, Dao Chunyan with 200 points, and Rao Qingwen with 170 points. These individuals were originally the hot favorites to win the Mystical Studies tournament, followed by several other cultivators of equal strength who were just less fortunate. In the past, they might have felt happy, disappointed, or resentful about such results, but now, everyone's feelings were complex. This was especially true for Bo Yu. He secured the first place, shattering the record in the metaphysics competition. Logically, he should have been triumphant and exuberant, but there wasn't a hint of a smile on his face. Casting a cold glance at Shen Wang, he then left. Shen Wang, taken aback by the neglect, exclaimed, that was incredibly rude of him. The others, it's not incomprehensible, though. Bo Yu has always been the favored son of heaven, constantly competing with Gu Dongting. But now, Shen Wang's sudden emergence has stolen all the limelight. What does it matter if Bo Yu has amassed over 400 points? Almost all of those points came from Shen Wang. If it weren't for Shen Wang's reckless actions and record-breaking performance, the top spot would have been his. Because of Shen Wang, his first place now seems like a joke. The most ridiculous part is that Bo Yu is in first place with over 400 points, while Shen Wang, with a mere 40 points, ranks beyond the 100th position. The two names, one after the other, are incredibly ironic. Even Lu Tingchun from the special department couldn't help but feel pity for this old rival. He's only ignoring you, which is quite polite already. If he had a worse temper, he might have already taken action, though, most likely, he wouldn't stand a chance in a fight. Thinking about it, it's even more pitiful. The contestant scores have been finalized, just waiting to be announced the next day. After returning to the hotel, Shen Wang rested for the night. Early the next morning, he received the official advancement list for the metaphysics competition. Shen Wang started searching from the back of the list. He found his name neatly aligned with Shi Yan and Xiaopengzi, but a quick glance made him frown. Tang Jiu also advanced, and lined up with him was Gu Manling. These two names spoiled Shen Wang's mood early in the morning. He tossed his phone aside, such bad luck. Just as he was about to organize his spoils from the metaphysics competition, a call came in. It was from Shi Yan. Shen Wang answered the phone with disdain. What's up? Shi Yan, accustomed to Shen Wang's disdain, straightforwardly said, there's a gathering at noon. Get ready and don't be late. Shen Wang was puzzled. What gathering? Weren't we here for the competition? Where did this gathering come from? Pausing for a moment, Shi Yan explained, after the preliminary round, it's customary for the advancing contestants to organize small gatherings to share information and insights. In short, it's an occasion for the competitors to probe the competition's inside stories and test each other's strengths. Shen Wang flatly refused. You go. I won't. He couldn't be bothered with such gatherings, considering them a waste of time. In the end, Shen Wang attended the gathering because Shi Yan mentioned, Brother Gu has also been invited. Shen Wang, why didn't you say that earlier? After taking a shower and changing into new clothes, Shen Wang, on his way out, noticed a small bottle of perfume on the hotel's wash basin. Hesitating for a few seconds, he finally picked it up and sprayed it randomly on himself. When he met Shi Yan, even Shi Yan couldn't help but sniff. What's that smell on you? Shen Wang. Shen Wang, my natural scent. The words Shi Yan was about to utter were abruptly stifled, leaving him with an indescribable expression. Upon arriving at the gathering, most of the others were already there, chatting and laughing in small groups. The lively atmosphere suddenly grew tense as Shen Wang entered. Oblivious to the changed atmosphere, Shen Wang looked around. Not finding the person he was seeking, he suspiciously asked, You're not tricking me, are you? Shi Yan's mouth twitched. Why would I lie to you? He's occupied but will join us later. It was then that Shen Wang casually found a spot and sat down. Everyone watched his fluid movements in silence, not uttering a word. Bo Yu approached and greeted Shen Wang. You're here. Shen Wang, speechless, thought, what nonsense is this? If I weren't here, who would be standing here, a ghost? With Bo Yu's remark, the icy silence was broken. Someone approached with a wine glass, saying meaningfully, This is our first time seeing you outside of the competitions. Shen Wang, fellow Shen, care for a drink? Glancing at the offered wine and then at the somewhat familiar yet nameless person across him, Shen Wang smiled. Indeed, it's normal for me not to recognize many as I've just entered the metaphysical circle. The other person's eyes suddenly hardened. Do you think this is still part of the competition? Bo Yu's gaze darkened slightly, then he smiled nonchalantly. I've been focused on cultivation and haven't paid much attention to online gossip. Never heard of it, seems not very famous. Shen Wang nodded, then asked, How about your cultivation? What rank did you achieve in the preliminary competition? The other person's face stiffened, unable to swallow or spit out his breath, utterly frustrated. Taiha Mountain is a well-known sect in the metaphysical world, but Luo Tian's cultivation is mediocre and he's not well-known. This competition was particularly fierce, and he barely advanced. Shen Wang, I've seen your name on the scoreboard, a few places below mine. After speaking, he clicked his tongue lightly, sizing up Luo Tian with a few glances before sighing and shaking his head. He seemed to say nothing, yet everything at the same time. Luo Tian's face changed colors before he suddenly slammed the table and roared, Shen Wang. I challenge you. Startled by Luo Tian's sudden outburst, Shen Wang was full of question marks. What challenge? Challenge what? Shi Yan, standing behind him, rubbed his forehead and quietly reminded, private fights are forbidden in the metaphysics competition, but friendly exchanges and sparring are allowed. With so many competitors and inherent rivalry during the competition, friction is inevitable. A group of young and spirited youths can't always be restrained, so while brawling is officially forbidden, the competition officials tend to turn a blind eye to personal vendettas disguised as friendly spars. After hearing this, Shen Wang didn't hesitate. I refuse. In competitions, he works diligently to earn points and other rewards. What else can he gain outside of them? He isn't interested in putting in effort for nothing. Especially in these childish sparring sessions, Shen Wang couldn't be less interested in playing such juvenile games of one-upmanship. When Luo Tian proposed the challenge, he was brimming with confidence, never expecting Shen Wang to reject him outright. His enthusiasm was suddenly stifled, leaving him staring in disbelief. You coward. Luo Tian, infuriated, burst out in anger. Others. During the competition, he was anything but indifferent. Luo Tian, fuming, was about to explode in anger when a voice interrupted him. I'll give you a spiritual herb if you accept my challenge. Everyone turned towards the voice, their surprise turning into schadenfreude. Even Luo Tian's anger subsided, replaced by a malicious grin as he made way for the newcomer. Shen Wang also looked over, pausing when he saw the man's face. Who are you? The man speaking was impressively tall, at least 1.9 meters, with a well-proportioned and muscular build, the very image of a male model. Unfortunately, his face seemed to have been marred by some injury, covered in scars almost entirely. He made no attempt to hide it, sporting a buzz cut and boldly displaying his face, which was quite intimidating. Cho Yin. With such a face, his eyes remained calm and resolute, a faint excitement flickering within them. Will you accept my challenge? Seeing him, Shi Yan's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly warned Shen Wang, this is the 4th-ranked youth, he's very strong. Shen Wang pondered, is that the ranking where? Gu Dongting is number 1. Shi Yan, is that all you remember? Shen Wang innocently countered, what else should I remember? The two exchanged glances, both feeling speechless, and simultaneously turned their heads away. Cho Yin, unfazed by being ignored, simply repeated, I'll give you a spiritual herb. Will you accept my challenge? Do you all really want to challenge me that much? Shen Wang mused, stroking his chin, I didn't realize I was so charming that you all like me this much. The others. Luo Tian, grinding his teeth, spat out through clenched teeth, if wanting to beat you to a pulp means liking you, then yes, we really like you. Shen Wang pretended not to hear him and suddenly stood up, walking to the center of the banquet hall, clearing his throat. Capturing everyone's attention, Shen Wang spoke seriously, since so many of you want to challenge me, and constantly avoiding it isn't a solution, I've decided. Everyone. Under their expectant gazes, Shen Wang smiled slightly and leisurely said, I've decided to auction off the opportunity to challenge me. 3 slots available each day, highest bidders win. The others. Damn. Everyone was speechless, feeling like they were back in the competition, dominated by the fear of Shen Wang's auction, that damn familiar feeling. Talk about profit before anything else. Everyone present felt they had their eyes open to a new level of pragmatism, beyond words to describe. Those who knew Shen Wang silently lowered their heads, recognizing such a tactic, it was indeed very Shen Wang. Now, starting with Cho Yin's bid of 1 spiritual herb, is there anyone else who wishes to raise the bid? Shen Wang casually clinked 2 cups together as an improvised gavel, 1 spiritual herb once, 1 spiritual herb twice. One spiritual herb 3 times, sold. The 2 cups chimed together, producing a melodious sound, and Shen Wang was visibly disappointed. I can't believe there were so few bids. What a loss. Zhou Yin hadn't expected Shen Wang to pull this move. After securing the challenge, he took out a rectangular wooden box from his bosom and handed it to Shen Wang in front of everyone, saying, "Here. The spiritual plant." Shen Wang's eyelids twitched. Someone grumbled, putting a spiritual plant in a plain wooden box without any special preservation techniques, letting the spiritual energy dissipate, such a waste. Shen Wang glanced at the speaking youth, sighed deeply, and accepted the spiritual plant with a furrowed brow. What a big loss. Shen Wang consoled himself, thinking it was still good to have this as the first deal of the day. Normally, cultivators would go elsewhere for a sparring match, but Shen Wang glanced at Zhou Yin and proposed, "Let's do it right here, quick and decisive." "All right." "Fine," Zhou Yin agreed immediately, "I can fight without weapons or spiritual power." Understanding, Shen Wang nodded, and in the next second, Zhou Yin charged at him with fists clenched. The audience, stepping back to give them space, watched the duel intently, whispering and discussing amongst themselves. Zhou Yin, the battle maniac, doesn't rely on spiritual power, which hardly affects him. Looks like Shen Wang is in for a beating. He only said he wouldn't use spiritual power. He didn't say Shen Wang couldn't use it. Zhou Yin is refraining from using spiritual power. In front of so many people, would Shen Wang really stoop to using it, such a shameless act? Seems like he might. The speculators closed their mouths and nonchalantly moved past the topic, continuing to watch their contest. At first, everyone was expecting Zhou Yin to thoroughly thrash Shen Wang, but as they fought, even the least discerning spectator could see that Shen Wang was holding his own against Zhou Yin. Zhou Yin was ranked 4th among the young generation, but his strength was beyond just that position. An independent cultivator without any sect or faction backing, Zhou Yin had made it to the rankings with his reckless fighting style in a mystic world dominated by various clans and sects. Though he was only 4th in the youth rankings, with Gu Dongting 1st, Boyu of the Mystic Association 2nd, and Shen Feijie of Dragon Tiger Mountain 3rd, all renowned and backed by significant power, wielding numerous powerful artifacts. In terms of solo combat ability, Zhou Yin could definitely be in the top 2, even trading blows with Gu Dongting. Now, facing the formidable Zhou Yin, could Shen Wang really match him without using any spiritual energy? It was evident that Zhou Yin's attacks were broad and forceful, every punch and kick creating a fierce wind, whereas Shen Wang's moves were more agile, seemingly mundane but always narrowly dodging Zhou Yin's attacks as if he had the ability to foresee them. Shen Wang thought, a joke. The combat prowess I honed in the brutal world of cultivation is not something you peace era kids can compare with. After fighting for over 10 minutes, feeling he had earned off the value of that spiritual herb, Shen Wang dodged Zhou Yin's attack, stepping back and quipping, "Your paid time is up. If you wish to continue, please join the next auction round." The captivated audience was stunned, then shockingly realized, had he been holding back all this time, appearing evenly matched but not using his full strength? Impossible. Zhou Yin's gaze darkened, his eyes filled with unwillingness as he looked at Shen Wang. Others might not see it, but he could distinctly feel that Shen Wang was not only holding back, but also deliberately exposing his moves. In just these 10 minutes, Shen Wang had pointed out every unnoticed flaw in his technique. He's so strong. Zhou Yin knew he was no match, and in a surge of defiance, he attacked more fiercely. Shen Wang sighed, effortlessly grabbing Zhou Yin's wrist and pinning him to the ground. Shen Wang said, "I already told you, if you want to continue, you'll have to join the next auction. Why won't you listen?" The previously animated crowd fell suddenly silent. After Shen Wang released Zhou Yin and dusted off his hands, he signaled, "The second round of the auction begins. Any takers?" No one made a sound. The ease with which Shen Wang had just pinned Zhou Yin, as if he were restraining an ordinary person, sent a chill down everyone's spine. Just moments ago, everyone was thinking that after the match, they would show Shen Wang the true strength of the prestigious sex, to curb his arrogance and show him the real power in the mystic world. Instead of teaching Shen Wang a lesson, they were the ones who got a stern lesson from him, leaving them feeling the sting of embarrassment, their earlier provocation gone. How is this possible? Someone muttered in disbelief, isn't he just someone who relies heavily on talismans to overpower others? Yeah, isn't it just because he has more talismans? The crowd was lost in thought. Shen Wang waited, but with no response, he shook his head in disappointment. Had he been too harsh, scaring them off from challenging him? A miscalculation. Shen Wang touched his nose in annoyance, feeling innocent since he had been gentle and even fed his opponent moves. Shen Wang's gaze tentatively fell on Luo Tian, "Weren't you eager to challenge me?" Luo Tian's face paled, and he involuntarily stepped back. He had challenged Shen Wang believing that Shen relied solely on talismans for strength. At this banquet, Luo Tian thought Shen wouldn't have as many talismans, which emboldened him to challenge. But seeing even Zhou Yin defeated by Shen Wang, Luo Tian no longer dared to challenge. He had a feeling that if he dared to challenge, Shen Wang would surely beat him black and blue. Paying to get beaten up. Luo Tian slowly lowered his head, avoiding Shen Wang's gaze like a student fearful of being called out by a teacher. Just as Shen Wang was about to announce the end of the auction, a woman stepped forward, "I will." Shen Wang, pleasantly surprised, quickly asked, "What will you offer?" The woman pondered and then pulled out a talisman from her bosom. At the sight of it, Shen Wang almost burst out laughing. "Where did you get this from?" The familiar spiritual energy, the recognizable traces of the talisman lines, the perfunctory runes, it was a talisman he had drawn himself. The woman confidently said, "I got it from your store." Shen Wang. Rarely at a loss for words, he could only rub his forehead and weakly ask, "Is there anyone else bidding?" Really, no one else? Truly, is there no one else bidding? After asking 3 times and receiving no response, Shen Wang reluctantly took back his own talisman, asking the woman, "How do you want to compete?" The woman was not tall, with neat and tidy short hair. Her features were plain, the kind that would blend into a crowd, wearing tight clothes that outlined her graceful muscular figure. She slammed down a large case resembling a violin case from her back, pulling out 2 broadswords from within. Recognizing the familiar twin blades, Shen Wang recalled seeing this woman in the competition. Back then, her swords whirled fiercely, chasing after opponents with a blade so formidable it struck terror into hearts. Dao Chunyan. The woman nodded, her eyes the only striking feature on her face, shining brightly. I'll use my swords. Shen Wang looked around and casually picked up a pair of chopsticks from the table. Then I guess I'll use these. Dao Chuanyan's expression hardened as she glared at Shen Wang. Are you mocking me? Shen Wang protested his innocence. Not at all. Dao Chuanyan snorted coldly, swinging her swords fiercely to cleave through the air, aiming straight at Shen Wang's face. Whether you are or not, you'll pay for underestimating me. Seeing Dao Chuanyan's formidable presence, the onlookers' eyes lit up, crowding closer to watch carefully. Now, with Dao Chuanyan armed and Shen Wang effectively unarmed, surely he would get a beating. This simple hope was shared by all spectators. Dao Chuanyan, a top 10 ranking expert, wielded her specialty twin swords, while Shen Wang only had a pair of short wooden chopsticks. In such a scenario, surely Shen Wang couldn't turn the tables. Like his earlier duel with Zhou Yin, the two exchanged several moves in a blink, lively and intense. But as the crowd watched, their hearts gradually sank. Despite the absolute disadvantage in weaponry, Shen Wang was still holding his own. It was as if his entire body had eyes, effortlessly dodging Dao Chuanyan's attacks from any direction without even lifting his gaze. The ordinary pair of wooden chopsticks, in his hands, became as nimble as sharp little swords, even finding their way through Dao Chuanyan's impenetrable sword defenses to reach her. The more Dao Chuanyan fought, the more astonished she became. She had always considered her dual sword technique nearly unbeatable among her peers, but here was Shen Wang, a few years her junior, predicting her moves just like her master, always finding the flaws in her swordplay. To others, her attack seemed impeccable, but to Shen Wang, it appeared riddled with flaws. Being able to snatch a talisman from his store meant she was a fan. Adhering to his principle of favoring fans, Shen Wang fed her moves for twice as long as he did with Zhou Yin. After a while, Shen Wang stepped back, announcing, "Time's up." Dao Chuanyan's rapid swordplay ceased abruptly. Breathing heavily, she gazed at Shen Wang with sparkling eyes, not attacking further but sheathing her swords and respectfully bowing to him. "Thank you for the guidance." Shen Wang raised an eyebrow. Girls are indeed more courteous. In just half an hour, Shen Wang had successively bested two renowned young talents. By now, no matter how reluctant the onlookers were, they had to admit that Shen Wang was strong, exceptionally strong. His ability to dominate the preliminary rounds, making a plaything of all the contestants, wasn't just luck or reliance on talismans, but his own overwhelming strength compared to most participants. His absurd auction was not about playing mind games, it was actually giving other contestants a chance. Everyone felt a mix of emotions. Seeing Shen Wang, who hadn't even broken a sweat after two bouts, left the crowd with indescribable feelings. Someone in the corner, watching Shen Wang steal the show, clenched their teeth in the shadows. It shouldn't be like this. It shouldn't be. In the eerie silence, a cold female voice rang out, a crowd pleaser, a mere clown, not worth mentioning. The crowd frowned in unison. Though their feelings about Shen Wang were complex, his prowess was undeniable and certainly not describable by those words. When they saw who had spoken, there was a moment of surprise, followed by a sense of inevitability. In the face of Shen Wang's overwhelming dominance, leaving everyone breathless, only one person could possibly dampen Shen Wang's sharp edge. Only one person had the right to utter the words, not worth mentioning. Gu Manling's brother, the foremost figure in the mystic world, the sword cultivation genius, Gu Dongting. Indeed. The previously subdued atmosphere suddenly seemed invigorated, as if injected with a shot of adrenaline. No matter how much Shen Wang tried, he was like the Monkey King, unable to escape from Buddha's palm. Everyone was thinking, it'll be better when Master Gu arrives. They were all looking forward to it with great anticipation. Even though Gu Dongting wore the same white robe, he exuded a natural charisma and a proud, fierce aura. In contrast, Gu Manling lacked the transcendent quality and seemed to force a lofty demeanor. On her own, she might have looked appealing, but next to Gu Dongting, she appeared overly fragile and affected. Gu Manling's pretty face shifted slightly as she responded coldly, "This is the traditional attire of the Gu family." Previously, when Shen Wang mocked others or even during his bout with Dao Chuanyan, most people just watched for entertainment without interjecting. But seeing Gu Manling's change in expression, they became indignant. It's well known that this is the Gu family's traditional attire. She is Master Gu's sister, what's wrong with her wearing it? Master Gu is a man, how can you compare him to a woman? Just because you're strong doesn't mean you can do whatever you want. Bullying a woman is no achievement. Gu Fairy's beauty is unparalleled, aloof, and solitary. I think you're just sour grapes for not being able to reach her. Shen Wang, who had only uttered a single sentence from beginning to end, was baffled. Of course she can wear white, but how does her wearing this outfit compare to Gu Dongting? Shen Wang, now indignant, slammed the table, engaging in a verbal duel with the crowd. Gu Dongting's face, his demeanor, his poise, which of these can she match? The crowd pondered and compared Gu Manling with the memory of Gu Dongting. Indeed, she fell short. Someone racked their brains and finally blurted out, "Master Gu is a man of iron and steel." Comparing him to a woman, what are you implying? Shen Wang felt wronged. They wear the same clothes, and even look somewhat alike. Isn't it understandable to think of Gu Dongting upon seeing her? But considering it was Shen Wang's first competition, and although he was accompanied by Shi Yan's status and strength were not notable in the capital, Gu Dongting worried Shen Wang might feel out of place, so he hurried over after finishing his work. Upon entering, Gu Dongting immediately noticed groups of people clustered together, forming a circle around Shen Wang in the center. Surprised, he inquired about the situation, only to find the explanation both amusing and exasperating. He's an independent cultivator with no sect, yet he's trampled the prestige of our major sects into the ground. Master Gu, you must show him his place. Master Gu, please teach him a lesson and let him know our might. He even insulted Fairy Gu, it's unbearable. Gu Dongting looked toward Shen Wang, who stood at the center of the crowd. It seemed he had heard something amusing, as a sly smirk curled his lips, revealing a villainous grin. Shen Wang drawled in a low voice, "Master Gu, are you going to discipline me?" Gu Dongting moved next to Shen Wang, his eyes showing resignation. He turned to the others and said, "With so many of you ganging up on him alone, it's simply disgraceful." Zhou Yin. Dao Chuanyan. The others. Gu Dongting frowned slightly, his tone revealing a hint of dissatisfaction. Cultivators should rely on talent and character, not the power of their sections. Is your vision limited to just sect rivalries? The others. Turning to Shen Wang, Gu Dongting's frown deepened. The world is full of talented individuals. Exceptional aptitude is not rare and isn't exclusive to major sects. As seniors and elder brothers, you should be open-minded and self-aware. There's no need to belittle yourselves, nor should you be narrow-minded and envious of others. Gu Dongting was genuinely displeased. Today it's Shen Wang standing here, with absolute strength to protect himself. What if, one day, a talented individual inadvertently receives a legacy and steps into cultivation, yet without such strong abilities? Facing the questioning of disciples from almost all major sects, how would they fare? Everyone initially thought Gu Dongting would come to reclaim the prestige for the younger generation of the mystic world. However, they didn't expect him to side with Shen Wang, treating everyone equally without sugarcoating his words. Though naturally reserved and aloof, Gu Dongting is usually just reserved in character, and it was rare for him to show such anger. While the crowd listened dejectedly to his reprimand, they couldn't help feeling aggrieved. It's not like we bullied him. It was he who bullied all of us. In the silence, Gu Dongting heard this complaint and looked at the speaker. If you hadn't provoked him, why would he retaliate? Knowing Shen Wang's aversion to trouble, he would never engage in something both troublesome and unrewarding. The young cultivators who were reprimanded opened their mouths, thought back, and realized they had indeed been the ones to provoke first. They sheepishly closed their mouths. Someone muttered, "What about him bullying Fairy Gu? Aren't you going to address that, Master Gu?" Hearing this, everyone eagerly looked up at Gu Dongting, their gazes filled with anticipation. In the mystic world, it's well known that the Gu family is fiercely protective of their own, intolerant of outsiders bullying their kin. Gu Dongting paused, glanced at Gu Manling standing aside, and asked indifferently, "How did he bully you?" Gu Manling bit her lip. He said that. "I don't look as good in white as you do." Gu Dongting waited for a while, only to hear this. A rare hint of perplexity appeared in his eyes. Is that all? The others thought about it and realized that was indeed all Shen Wang had said. However, Shen Wang had just defeated two strong figures in the mystic world, and people were resentful towards him. And there he was, a tall man standing in front of Gu Manling, his dominance over her apparent. Especially since Gu Manling's expression changed and she looked aggrieved after hearing the comment, eliciting sympathy from the crowd and further anger towards Shen Wang. Now that they had calmed down, they realized it was all over such a trivial matter. It was indeed somewhat laughable. At that moment, Gu Dongting and Gu Manling, standing together in similar white attire, shared a similar cold demeanor. The slight resemblance in their features was accentuated by their dress and demeanor, making them look quite alike. The difference was that Gu Manling appeared like a delicate white lotus, trembling and fragile in the breeze. In contrast, Gu Dongting was like a sturdy, resilient poplar, tall and firm, reaching into the skies. Shen Wang's comment about not measuring up seemed not entirely unfounded. Gu Dongting paused, and being her brother, he didn't speak harshly but simply remarked, "Cultivators should focus on their path, appearances are just a shell." Gu Manling bit her teeth and lowered her head. "I understand. We are of different genders, how can we be compared?" Seeing Gu Manling's demeanor, Gu Dongting softened his tone. "If someone cares about you, you are unparalleled in their eyes, no need to force comparisons with others." Shen Wang, who had been silent behind Gu Dongting, suddenly spoke with a half-smile. "Even the renminbi has its detractors, let alone you. It's best not to think too highly of oneself." Gu Dongting, though bluntly put, the reasoning is sound. Gu Manling almost couldn't hold back her anger, her eyes reddening with indignation and frustration. Gu Dongting, unaware of Gu Manling's emotions, turned to the other cultivators present and said, "You're bullying with numbers and power. Do you realize your mistake?" The others, who is bullying whom here? This is outrageous. Internally fuming, the crowd replied weakly, "We realize our mistake." Gu Dongting nodded. "In that case, apologize to Shen Wang." The young cultivators were almost red-eyed with rage, humiliated, rubbed in the dirt, and now they have to apologize to the instigator. This is infuriating. With tears in their eyes, they looked at Shen Wang and apologized fiercely. "Fellow Shen, we're sorry." Shen Wang, feigning authority, felt quite amused and said with a smile, "No worries, I magnanimously forgive you all." The young cultivators, damn it. They were so angry they could go berserk. Under the fiery gaze of everyone, Shen Wang smiled even more joyfully. He loved this feeling of infuriating others without consequence, when they hated him to death but couldn't do anything about it. Glancing at Gu Dongting, Shen Wang's expression softened, cherishing the feeling of being unconditionally protected. It's really wonderful. No wonder those minor villains dare to act so boldly. Thinking of the thrill of having such backing, Shen Wang almost wanted to provoke those people again. Gu Dongting then nodded, signaling to everyone, "Let's not dwell on this matter and continue the banquet." The crowd returned to their seats, heads hung low. The atmosphere remained heavy for a while before it slowly started to ease, though it still felt somewhat subdued. Shen Wang quietly asked Gu Dongting, "They are like this, are they okay?" Gu Dongting looked up and said indifferently, "They've had it too easy for too long. It's time they took a fall to realize there are always greater powers out there." Shen Wang nodded in agreement, then turned away from them, chuckling, "Today I truly learned what spoilt by favor means." Gu Dongting was momentarily stunned by the phrase, then he too burst into laughter. The two of them whispered and laughed together, causing those secretly watching to tear their handkerchiefs and grind their teeth in envy. Had they known the bond between them was this strong, they wouldn't have provoked them or enjoyed the drama. Basking in the envious and resentful gazes of the crowd, Shen Wang strutted about, reveling in his moment of triumph. His gaze swept around and suddenly stopped at a corner. A youth there seemed downcast, his head lowered, ignoring everyone. A man beside him leaned in and said several things, but the youth didn't look up. Just as Shen Wang wondered why the man was leaning so close, almost touching the youth's face. Suddenly, the man lifted the youth's chin and kissed him firmly on the lips. Shen Wang's eyes widened in shock. Oblivious to their surroundings, the men and youth continued their embrace. After a long kiss, the youth finally smiled, nestling close to the man like a cat and returned the kiss. Gu Dongting, following Shen Wang's gaze, crushed the wine glass in his hand. Chapter 102. Shi Yan, adept at socializing and currently engaged in lively conversation, glanced where Shen Wang pointed and casually remarked, "Oh, them, that's Chou Yin and Bai Jia's young master, Bai Fuchen." Chou Yin. Shen Wang was startled again. He looked closely, noticing the taller man only showing a small part of his unscarred face. When more of his face became visible, the smooth yet terrifying scarred visage was revealed. Shen Wang couldn't help but wonder, how could such a disfigured man have a partner? He felt a twinge of envy, thinking of his own solitary world. Zhou Yin didn't always look like this, Shi Yan explained, sensing Shen Wang's thoughts. Before his injury, he inadvertently saved Bai Jia's young master. Bai Fuchen then clung to him despite his annoyance. He was so focused on cultivation and hardly paid any attention to Bai Fuchen. Later, for some reason, Bai Fuchen got kidnapped by someone overseas. Bai Jia's family couldn't reach there, so Zhou Yin went alone to rescue him. His face was injured during that incident. The Bai family tried everything but couldn't restore his face. After listening, Shen Wang nodded thoughtfully, so Bai Fuchen offered himself in gratitude. His family didn't object. His own child with a man, and a disfigured one at that. Could the Bai family elders really accept this? A life-saving grace, plus Bai Fuchen's dramatic insistence, what could the Bai family do? Shi Yan smiled with a hint of melancholy, they even passed the family elders' approval. Now, they don't hide their relationship in public. In short, they're a couple that openly displays their love everywhere, becoming the most famous gay couple in the world of cultivation. Shen Wang was amazed by the twists and turns of their relationship. In modern society, thanks to the internet, Shen Wang wasn't ignorant about same-sex relationships, and while such couples were rare in the cultivation world, many cultivators indulged in desires, regardless of gender, often without emotional attachment, driven purely by physical needs. But in modern society, Shen Wang had only read about such relationships online, and in the cultivation world, he was too busy with cultivation to pay much attention to these matters. This was the first time Shen Wang witnessed two men kissing, breaking the mold of the mythical stories in his mind. It brought something seemingly unattainable, tangibly close to me. Shen Wang felt a complex mix of emotions, glancing again at the couple, public displays of affection, what a spectacle. Shi Yan, okay, we get it, you're single. No need to be bitter. Shen Wang rolled his eyes, turned sharply, and unexpectedly locked eyes with Gu Dongting, both momentarily startled. Their usually casual and understanding glances at each other felt strangely off at that moment, prompting both to hurriedly look away. Shen Wang lowered his head, touching his nose tip, the metaphysical world is really liberal. Gu Dongting pursed his lips, a gentleman should be strict with himself but lenient towards others. As long as they don't harm anyone, there's no issue. The previously light and pleasant atmosphere now felt like a lump of damp cotton stuck in the chest, causing a sour sensation in the heart and resembling a budding flower on the tip of the heart, shyly unfolding its first petal with the first drop of spring water. Rigorous education for the gifted, and a laissez-faire approach for the less talented. Gu Dongting paused, looked around, and noticed Gu Manling surrounded by a group of young people, her expression proud, naturally enjoying the attention like a proud white swan. Her eyes and brows held a hint of arrogance towards everyone, but softened slightly when her gaze fell on a particular individual. And that person was Tang Jiu. Gu Dongting subtly furrowed his brow, a mix of, how did they end up together, puzzlement and a vague sense of inevitability. It seemed as if Gu Manling and Tang Jiu were destined to come together. Gu Dongting didn't even interrupt their conversation to bring his sister back, but instead said indifferently, the Gu family is headed by my uncle, and I've been learning swordsmanship with him since I was young. However, Manling, being a girl and quite young, couldn't endure the rigors of sword training and her parents were worried about her health, so they took her back. Gu Dongting started wielding a sword from the age of 3, still unsteady on his feet. As for Gu Manling, it wasn't until she was 10 that grandfather Gu sent her to the Gu household for forced cultivation. Shen Wang nodded, no wonder then. Though it was just a few years delay in cultivation, the implications behind this are worth pondering. Gu Dongting's parents handed over 3-year-old Gu Dongting to his elder brother, fully entrusting him. They might have felt heartache but never once mentioned taking him back. As for Gu Manling's parents, not only were they unwilling to let their daughter suffer, their worry about her getting injured indicated not so much their love for her, but rather a lack of trust in their elder brother, doubting his judgment. This makes Gu Manling's family's eventual betrayal traceable. It was a fissure that existed decades, even tens of years ago, widening over time, and apart from Gu Dongting himself, no one knew how extensive it had become. Shen Wang's gaze fell on Gu Manling and Tang Jiu. Dongting, do you trust me? Gu Dongting was slightly stunned, then answered without hesitation, of course. If you trust me. Withdrawing his gaze, Shen Wang looked earnestly into Gu Dongting's eyes, speaking softly yet firmly, your uncle's family is up to no good, be wary of them. Gu Dongting's pupils contracted slightly. Shen Wang sighed inwardly, not really expecting his words to be believed immediately, and tried to explain, they say birds of a feather flock together, people are known by the company they keep. Your sister and Tang Jiu getting together suggests that they, I believe you, are cut from the same cloth. Huh. Shen Wang abruptly turned to Gu Dongting, utterly astonished. I will investigate. Gu Dongting's expression remained calm as he earnestly promised, if there's an issue, I'll inform the other elders in the family to handle it. Shen Wang fell silent for a long while, then suddenly burst into laughter. He grabbed Gu Dongting by the shoulder and pulled him into an embrace, laughing, thank you for choosing to trust me. On one side was a blood relative, and on the other, a friend known for not so long. Anyone would know what choice to make. Yet Gu Dongting chose the friend, chose himself. Shen Wang's eyes were smiling, feeling incredibly reassured inside. Gu Dongting, startled by Shen Wang's sudden move, stood dazed in his embrace, his chest pressed tightly against the other's, feeling the steady heartbeat. A laughing voice breathed into his ear, and two closely beating hearts became erratic, one setting off the other to increase its pace. The person nearby waited for several minutes, seeing no sign of them separating, and awkwardly interjected. Shen Wang and Gu Dongting snapped out of their trance, hurriedly letting go of each other and casually turned to the newcomer. Upon seeing them clearly, Shen Wang slightly raised his eyebrows, exchanging a quick, subtle look with Gu Dongting, as if sharing a secret. The speaker looked quite young, much shorter than the men beside him, with fair, translucent skin, a round face with baby fat, and round eyes, like a teenager in his teens. His non-threatening, cute appearance shone even more brightly in contrast to the men beside him. Shen Wang recalled for a moment, remembering the name Shi Yan had mentioned earlier, Bai Fuchen. Bai Fuchen, surprised that Shen Wang actually knew him, quickly nodded, you know me, big shot. Shen Wang exchanged another glance with Gu Dongting, a hint of amusement flickering in both their eyes, I've heard of you. Bai Fuchen looked at Gu Dongting cautiously, a shy and timid smile on his face, his eyes sparkling. Brother Gu, I'm a big fan of yours, can we take a photo together? Shen Wang gave Gu Dongting a teasing look with a smile, silently mocking. No wonder this kid was so upset earlier, getting a tongue lashing from his idol. That would break anyone's heart. But even after being scolded, he still mustered the courage to ask for a photo. He must really admire Gu Dongting. Gu Dongting, before his transformation, truly was the white moonlight of the metaphysical world. Gu Dongting coldly refused the young fan's request for a photo, leaving Bai Fuchen dejected, leaning against Ugly Drink. Ugly Drink, with a calm look in his eyes, showed a hint of sympathy and reassuringly held Bai Fuchen's hand, nodding slightly towards Shen Wang and Gu Dongting. Let's have a match sometime in the future. Shen Wang. Thinking about challenging someone to a fight at this time, the battle maniac persona is unshakable. After they left, the atmosphere between Shen Wang and Gu Dongting returned to normal, as if all the previous awkwardness had never happened. They chatted and laughed, in perfect sync with each other. Gu Dongting didn't drink, and Shen Wang, seizing the opportunity to save money, heard that the banquet was paid for by several organizers using high-quality liquor, and he drank a lot. Even with a cultivator's strong constitution, it couldn't withstand his drinking like water. By the end of the gathering, he was somewhat unsteady, but just managed to maintain a semblance of normalcy. Gu Dongting half-supported Shen Wang, escorting him back to his room, still somewhat concerned. Can you take care of yourself? Shen Wang felt his mind was very clear, and said discontentedly, I'm fine, I'm not drunk, what could happen? After speaking, he buried his head back into Gu Dongting's neck, taking a deep breath. You smell so good. Gu Dongting. Gu Dongting's face remained unchanged, as pale as ever, but his earlobes involuntarily flushed red, the blush spreading down his neck to the area hidden by his clothes. Tilting his head, feeling Shen Wang sniffing like a puppy in the hollow of his neck, the hot breath on his bare skin causing a light blush, Gu Dongting felt a mix of helplessness and amusement. This man really doesn't miss any chance to take advantage. Taking out the room card for Shen Wang, he opened the door, half hugging and coaxing Shen Wang into the room. I know you're not drunk, but it's late and you should rest. While speaking, Gu Dongting had already helped Shen Wang to the bed. Just as he was about to tuck Shen Wang in, a sudden force came from beside him. Gu Dongting's vision blurred as he was pushed onto the bed. He blinked in bewilderment, seeing a handsome face with traces of intoxication before him. Like a predator pinning down its prey, Shen Wang looked down at Gu Dongting beneath him with satisfaction, his gaze stunning yet evaluative, as if pondering where to start. Gu Dongting, dressed in white, almost merged with the white sheets, a pure white. Yet, he had jet black, dense hair that contrasted sharply with the white, spreading softly beneath him, creating a striking and intense contrast. His usually calm face, like a finely carved jade statue, was now flushed with life, his eyes hazy and innocently looking at Shen Wang, showing no resistance. Shen Wang's gaze landed on his crimson lips, his voice slightly hoarse. What does it feel like to kiss a man? Gu Dongting's pupils dilated, showing panic for the first time, hurrying to speak. Shen Wang, you're drunk. MMPH. The rest of his words were muffled. Chapter 103. The next day, Shen Wang woke up feeling refreshed and clear-headed. Yet, despite his clarity and vigor, he felt like he had forgotten something. Shen Wang racked his brain, replaying the night, from attending the banquet, being challenged, defeating Ugly Drink and Dao Chunyan, to recalling Gu Dongting standing up for him unconditionally. Later on, Shen Wang tried hard to remember, recalling that after learning the wine on the table was worth thousands, he almost single-handedly drank a whole bottle to take advantage. After finishing it, he still wasn't satisfied and went to others for more wine. And then, his memory stopped there. How did he leave the banquet? How did he return to the hotel? And how did he end up in bed? He had forgotten everything completely. Nothing serious must have happened, right? Shen Wang muttered to himself, hoping for the best. The only thing Shen Wang vaguely remembered now was the blurry dream he had last night. Maybe it was because he saw Ugly Drink and Bai Fuchen being affectionate with each other that it shocked his mind, leading him to think about it during the day and dream about it at night. In his dream, he seemed to have had an intimate encounter with another man. In his sleep, he felt like he was back at the lively banquet, in a secluded corner where two indistinct men embraced each other, intimate as intertwining cranes. With just a blink, Shen Wang found himself one of the men in the embrace. He gazed deeply at the man opposite him, whose face he couldn't make out, only sensing that their heights were similar. Shen Wang thought clearly in the dream, even in a dream, I should be dreaming of a beautiful woman, why am I dreaming of a faceless man? The next second, his attention was drawn to the man's lips. The man's lips weren't full, slightly thin, seemingly a bit nervous as they were pursed, exuding a coldness. Yet, their color was a beautiful, unostentatious pale red, like a delicate petal. Leaning in closer, he could smell a faint, somewhat familiar fragrance. Before he could recall why the fragrance was familiar, Shen Wang was lost in a kiss of intertwining lips and teeth, feeling his heart pounding like thunder, his head dizzy as if intoxicated. Shen Wang, trying hard to remember the dream. That was like being drunk, wasn't it? The memory of the dream was no longer clear, but upon waking up, Shen Wang still felt a tingling sensation in his heart, unable to let go, lingering and unforgettable. After recalling every detail several times, Shen Wang sighed wistfully, pity, it was just a dream. The palpitations from the dream lingered, but outside of it, he was already awake. Sighing again, Shen Wang tidied up and left the room. There were always 2 days of rest after each competition, and since all the competitors had a banquet yesterday, there was no gathering today. In the hotel, only a few competitors were in groups outside, most were resting in their rooms, preparing for tomorrow's rematch. Looking around and seeing no acquaintances, Shen Wang casually went to the hotel's restaurant for some food, receiving an unusually warm welcome and was fed a lot of good stuff. After eating and drinking his fill, Shen Wang left satisfied, heading straight to knock on Gu Dongting's door, feeling inexplicably guilty as he knocked. Guilty about what? Shen Wang was both confused and clueless, he hadn't done anything to wrong Gu Dongting. The hotel's soundproofing was excellent. After waiting a while with no response, just as Shen Wang thought Gu Dongting might not be in his room, the door slowly opened. Gu Dongting was dressed no differently than when he was outside, still in white, with a crossed neckline tightly covering his neck, conservative and ascetic. The only difference was that Gu Dongting's long hair wasn't tied up as usual, but let down, flowing like ink behind him. The long hair softened Gu Dongting's overly cold demeanor, adding a touch of gentleness. In the dim hotel corridor light, his contours seemed softer, like a spirit from an ancient painting. Shen Wang always knew Gu Dongting was exceptionally handsome, but this was the first time he felt the captivating power of Gu Dongting's appearance. The idea of him using the Hawan sect's soul-capturing method flashed through Shen Wang's mind so quickly that he barely noticed it himself. Gu Dongting lifted his eyelids, giving Shen Wang a faint glance, his tone cold. What is it? Shen Wang immediately noticed that Gu Dongting seemed to be in a less than pleasant mood. Despite knowing he shouldn't, Shen Wang couldn't help but notice how clear and bright Gu Dongting's eyes were, the charming way he lifted his gaze, his eyes shining and glinting, both reproachful and angry, paired with unusually red lips. Red lips? Shen Wang was taken aback and asked directly, what happened to your lips? Why are they so red? Gu Dongting did not answer, just silently gazed at Shen Wang, his expression a mix of confusion and anger. Shen Wang could only guess, did you eat something spicy yesterday? Are you not used to spicy food? Gu Dongting looked deeply at Shen Wang again, asking in an indescribable tone, how much do you remember about yesterday? Shen Wang honestly replied, I just remember going to the next table to find more drinks. And you forgot everything that happened after? Shen Wang nodded, still not understanding. Gu Dongting. The two stared at each other for a while, and Shen Wang finally realized that his answer was not satisfying to Gu Dongting. He tried hard to recall, but couldn't remember anything, and asked cautiously, what happened yesterday? Shen Wang was usually carefree and unrestrained. This was the first time since Gu Dongting had known him that he showed such a puzzled, confused, and cautious demeanor. Like a puppy unaware of its mistake, gazing eagerly at its master. Gu Dongting suddenly let out a very light, faint sigh, curving his lips slightly, it's nothing. After speaking, he fell silent for a few seconds, then added, nothing happened. It was just a misunderstanding. With his demeanor, yet saying it's nothing, he's fooling no one. Shen Wang was 100% unconvinced and was about to inquire further when Gu Dongting interrupted him, what did you come to see me for? After hesitating for 2 seconds, Shen Wang decided to prioritize business, asking, do you know where the leader of the Gu Dao resides? Hearing the words Gu Dao, Gu Dongting understood what Shen Wang intended to do, and directly told him the room number, adding a reminder, if you're looking to deal with those contract-bound spirits, seeking out the Gu Dao leader won't be very effective. Seeing that Gu Dongting had guessed his intention, Shen Wang thought for a moment and mysteriously smiled, the mountain man has his own plan. Having said that, he cordially invited Gu Dongting, do you want to come with me? Expecting no refusal, Shen Wang was surprised when Gu Dongting actually shook his head, I need to continue my cultivation, I won't accompany you this time. And he says it's nothing. Shen Wang was certain that something must have happened yesterday that upset Gu Dongting greatly, but since he couldn't recall it, he could only sigh deeply, then I won't disturb your cultivation. As he turned to leave, Shen Wang narrowed his eyes, trying to find clues to the previous night's memories. Gu Dongting watched Shen Wang's receding figure until he turned a corner and completely disappeared from view, then slowly closed the door. At the entrance of the hotel was a wardrobe with a mirror door, allowing guests to tidy up before leaving. Gu Dongting, looking at his reflection, suddenly became lost in thought. He had been practicing swordsmanship since the age of 3, training rigorously through the coldest winters and hottest summers, never slacking off. It was this relentless training that made him a formidable force in the world of mystical arts. Even seniors with far more experience couldn't easily defeat him, let alone launch a surprise close-quarters attack. Yet, last night, he was unexpectedly pinned down by Shen Wang. Admittedly, part of it was due to Shen Wang's sudden actions while drunk, catching him off guard. But more importantly, it was because he had no defenses up against Shen Wang. Without any guard, as a sword cultivator skilled in close combat, Gu Dongting would normally have reflexively broken the arm of anyone who tried to overpower him in an instant. But never had Gu Dongting imagined that Shen Wang would kiss him. By the time he finally pushed the drunkard away, Gu Dongting's hair was disheveled, his usually immaculate clothes wrinkled, and his neck to chest exposed, his lips showing the flushed marks of being ravished. His appearance was such that anyone could guess what had happened. Leaving Shen Wang's room, Gu Dongting was anxious, fearing discovery. He felt an inexplicable nervousness all the way until he safely entered his own room, and only then did he realize. Why didn't he just knock out the drunkard instead of lying powerlessly on the bed, struggling like an ordinary person? He knew at least 300 ways to incapacitate a drunkard, with at least 100 of them ensuring no harm to the drunkard. Yet at that moment, it was as if he was under a spell, unable to recall or use any of them. Disturbed by this question, Gu Dongting couldn't sleep that night, nor did he practice his cultivation. He just sat by the window, staring at the neon-lit streets outside, lost in thought. Until his room door was knocked. The very person who had unsettled his mind stood there with a confused and innocent face, claiming to remember nothing. Gu Dongting slowly closed his eyes, then let out a soft sigh. When he opened his eyes again, a black longsword appeared in his hand. Gu Dongting examined the sword, his gaze complex, your previous master was truly heartless. The longsword vibrated slightly in response to its master's emotions, as if acknowledging them. Gu Dongting's gaze softened, then quickly turned bitter, as if seeing through the sword to its former owner, why am I the only one who remembers? Why does he get to forget? Gu Dongting comforted himself, and when he looked up again, the red on his earlobes had vanished, his usual unapproachable, cool demeanor restored. After storing the black sword back into his dantian, Gu Dongting was about to leave when his gaze paused, carefully examining his reflection in the mirror. Unbeknownst to him, a tiny red mole had appeared on his flawless face, right below the corner of his right eye. This mole, a standard tear mole, so small it was almost invisible, would have gone unnoticed by anyone who wasn't a cultivator with exceptional vision like Gu Dongting. A red tear mole, signifying a life of loneliness, upheaval, and difficult emotional trials. Gu Dongting frowned slightly and gently rubbed the corner of his eye, causing the mole to appear even redder. Shen Wang, following the room number given by Gu Dongting, found the room of the leader of the ghost-dominant sect and knocked on the door. The sect leader quickly answered, and upon seeing Shen Wang, his first instinct was to immediately close the door. But Shen Wang, quick and timely, slipped inside, saying, we're old acquaintances, no need for formalities. The sect leader's eyelids twitched, and he asked irritably, you wouldn't visit without a reason. What brings you here? Last time, Shen Wang caught Lin Yinyang, a long-fleeing traitor of the ghost-dominant sect, and used the opportunity to swindle the sect leader out of millions, nearly emptying the sect's coffers. Because of this, the ghost-dominant sect had to scrounge for work everywhere, desperately trying to make money. Once, when they lent out a minor ghost for an entrance exam, a fierce ghost unexpectedly appeared, almost killing all the examinees. Another time, they lent a ghost for a mystical arts competition, but Shen Wang, through sheer verbal prowess, subdued all the minor ghosts, becoming the most unconventional contestant in the history's competitions. These two incidents made life particularly difficult for the ghost-dominant sect recently, with others casting strange looks at them. The leader of the ghost-dominant sect inwardly lamented, feeling that Shen Wang was inherently at odds with them, bringing trouble whenever he appeared. Shen Wang, seemingly oblivious to the sect leader's tone, wandered around the room and expressed his surprise, "You all share one room." Although the room had decent lighting and layout, it was much more cramped and modest compared to his own accommodations. The sect leader, at a loss for words, asked, "Did you come here just to criticize my living conditions?" After all, the ghost-dominant sect was only a mid-sized faction. Having a room was already quite an achievement, not to mention the many smaller sects that didn't even have rooms. Shen Wang touched his nose and stopped nitpicking, revealing his purpose. "During the competition, didn't I promise those minor ghosts to get them gathering talismans and fight for their social security benefits?" The sect leader of the ghost-dominant sect was taken aback. "Are you serious?" "Of course, do I look like someone who doesn't keep promises?" Shen Wang rolled his eyes and continued, "That chubby leading ghost, isn't it one of your ghost-dominant sects?" Since the competition, Shen Wang had been busy creating gathering talismans, and now that he was ready, he had come to see the sect leader. Upon hearing this, the leader of the ghost-dominant sect paused briefly. "I'll have them brought over." When the master of the ghost control sect saw Shen Wang deceiving the audience with his flamboyant rhetoric during the live broadcast, he didn't take it seriously, thinking that Shen Wang was just unscrupulously trying to win by fooling the ghosts. To his surprise, Shen Wang was serious. Knowing that both people and ghosts would be attending in significant numbers, Shen Wang simply borrowed a large conference room from the hotel manager, setting the meeting place there. After notifying others in the group, the master of the ghost control sect saw people gradually arriving at the conference room. Each ghost floating in the air was extremely excited, showing faces full of surprise, while their contractors varied in expression. Some shared their little ghost happiness, others looked impatient. "My ghost, none of your business. Why should someone threaten me over it?" a dissatisfied practitioner grumbled. Scanning the people and ghosts present, Shen Wang took out a stack of thick talismans and placed them on the long table in the conference room. "These are the talismans I promised. Bring 10 little ghosts, and you can have one. We'll round to the nearest whole number, collect them in the order of registration." The ghosts erupted into a buzz of excitement, eagerly crowding forward, overjoyed. "I knew it, Master, you wouldn't deceive us. Master Shen, you're such a good person. Do you need any more ghost servants? I want to follow you. Master, you're much more generous than other Taoist priests." The ghosts initially agreed to follow Shen Wang's instructions partly for the grand promises he made, though most didn't really believe in these lofty assurances. More so, the ghosts were just there for the excitement, not wanting to obediently serve as mere tools, eager to stir up trouble with Shen Wang and let loose for a while. Although they were scolded by their contractors after the competition, the joy was worth it. Unexpectedly, there was an added bonus. Those few who believed and enthusiastically persuaded other ghosts were now ecstatic, eagerly stepping forward to receive their own talismans, some so impatient they began absorbing Yin energy on the spot, utterly delighted. The rich and pure Yin energy in the talismans made the other ghosts envious, clamoring, "Master Shen, what about us? What about us? You wouldn't let us come all this way for nothing, would you? Without us, you couldn't have held that auction. Your success is partly ours too." The ghosts who previously didn't believe now deeply regretted their skepticism, wishing they could go back to the day of the competition and recruit every ghost they could. The ghosts clamored and jostled into a group, flocking to Shen Wang's side, leaving their contractors forgotten in the background. With a piercing gaze, Shen Wang flicked away a ghost trying to take advantage of the chaos, and said calmly, "I've called you here for a second matter." Hearing his words, the ghosts quieted down, their eyes filled with anticipation. "I promised you employment benefits, providing you with basic security," Shen Wang said with a slight smile, "so, I'm here to discuss this matter with your contractors." Instantly, both the ghosts and the living were abuzz with surprise. The ghosts were unanimously thrilled, some floating up to the ceiling, others rolling around the room excitedly. "Really? Master Shen, you are my hero." Their contractors, however, looked displeased, their faces stern, in stark contrast to the ghost excitement. "Who are you to meddle in our family matters? Indeed, how to avenge our little ghosts is our own concern. What's it to you? Mind your own business. You'd better worry about your own competition instead." Their words, however, dissatisfied the ghosts. "Even though we are ghosts, why should we be your cheap labor? Taking advantage of the fact that we don't have a labor bureau, are you just going to exploit us like this? Humans are truly insatiable. I'm not asking for much, just the necessary Yin energy to maintain normal activities. Before this, I was actually expending my own Yin energy to work for you." The ghosts and Taoist priests soon started arguing, with the situation escalating rapidly. After listening for a while, Shen Wang realized that the core conflict between the two sides was still related to interests. Life wasn't easy for the ghosts, but the Taoist priests weren't much better off. In this era of declining mysticism, the cultivation of Taoist priests became increasingly difficult, their spiritual power barely enough for their own practices, let alone to support ghosts. Shen Wang was listening with interest when suddenly, someone directed their criticism straight at him. "Who do you think you are? How dare you try to change the rules of our metaphysical world just like that?" The speaker, the practitioner who had looked dissatisfied earlier, glared fiercely at Shen Wang, accusing loudly, "Just with a word from you, you decide for us. You want to help these ghosts, why don't you do it yourself? Why make us foot the bill?" His words were incendiary, and immediately the surrounding people echoed, "Exactly. We're struggling with our own cultivation, why should we listen to you? You're so charitable, why don't you contract more ghosts yourself? Forcing us to decide, I think you're not benevolent, but hypocritical." Shen Wang, suddenly berated, was speechless. He cleared his throat, interrupting the argument, trying to explain his plan. "If you're willing, you can join my security plan, like a union, providing basic protection for the employed ghosts." The dissatisfied person scoffed coldly, interrupting Shen Wang, "What security plan? You're fooling ghosts, who wants to listen to you?" Shen Wang paused in his speech, held back his frustration, and continued, we can sign a contract. That person retorted again, a contract. Do you think this is the mortal world where you get arrested for not honoring a contract? You're too naive, truly ignorant of life and death. Shen Wang, holding back his temper, finally couldn't restrain himself any longer. He slammed his hand on the table and said coldly, those who agree to join my plan, I will publicly disclose the method to create a gathering talisman. Once you master it, collecting energy will become much more efficient. At this, both the ghosts and the living fell silent, staring at Shen Wang in astonishment. A gathering talisman. Although they had never heard of this talisman before, everyone present had witnessed its power. All the living people couldn't help but feel their hearts stir with eagerness. Although the gathering talisman lacked offensive power, mastering another technique was certainly appealing. Those families and sects holding secret traditions guarded their knowledge tightly, not allowing anyone to even glimpse it. Others couldn't even take a second look, yet Shen Wang was about to disclose a talisman's creation method for free. In the silence, someone stubbornly argued, even if we learn it, what then? Treat those ghosts like deities and enshrine them. Others. Shen Wang. A free gift was being offered and yet, this person complained, truly a professional at arguing for the sake of it, shameless indeed. Shen Wang, not indulging him further, tapped his fingers on the table to draw everyone's attention, and then spoke slowly, since you don't want it, I'll accommodate you. Added to the blacklist, you're barred from participating in my activities, any activities. As he emphasized the last 4 words, Shen Wang's voice took on a heavier tone. He looked at the persistent contrarian with a half-smile, asking softly, are you satisfied now? The other's face turned sour, his mouth twitching as he retorted angrily, it's just a scheme to exploit us, I don't care for it. And have you reported this activity to the special department? Have you registered it? After saying this, his eyes suddenly lit up, thinking his idea was brilliant. He believed he had the right to command his ghost as he wished, why should Shen Wang interfere? Others being tempted by the gathering talisman was their problem, not his. The man glanced at his own ghost, a gaunt figure hiding among the crowd, its eyes fixated on Shen Wang with fervent admiration. Feeling even more irritated, he thought Shen Wang must have used some kind of bewitching spell on the ghosts. Without hesitation, he decided to call the special department to report Shen Wang for illegal assembly, illegal gathering of ghosts, and illegal participation in social activities. With so many charges, one of them was bound to land Shen Wang in trouble. Just as he dialed the number, the conference room door burst open and several people walked in. The leading man and woman, both dressed in plain, professional attire, had serious expressions. We're from the capital special department headquarters, did someone here call us? The man, holding his phone with the dialed but not yet called number, looked stunned. He glanced at his phone, then at the special department team, and back at his phone, about to raise his hand. Someone beat him to it, raising their hand first, unless I'm mistaken, that would be me. Shen Wang greeted Lu Tingchun and Feng Ju with a cheerful smile. Men. Wait, what's going on here? Chapter 104. Shen Wang gestured to Lu Tingchun and Feng Ju to come closer. Once they were by his side, he looked at the silent crowd and slowly said, I asked the special department to come as witnesses and guarantors. Before arriving, Lu Tingchun and his companion had already been briefed by Shen Wang about the situation and stood silently to the side, providing silent support. Shen Wang took out the contract he had prepared in advance, didn't I say? Only by signing the contract can you gain access to my method for creating the gathering talisman. Matters between ghosts fall into a gray area, beyond the jurisdiction of the mortal world, but the Taoist priests who contract these ghosts are very much alive. The people present were taken aback by Shen Wang's strict requirements, hesitating as they picked up the contract to read it carefully. The basic salary for a contracted ghost is at least 1 gathering talisman per month, ensuring a sufficient supply of energy. Among so many people, there must be someone willing to sign, right? We'll contract with them. 1 gathering talisman a month, who wouldn't be tempted by that? The ghosts were excitedly chattering around the contract. Upon hearing the practitioners' reluctance to sign, they collectively rolled their eyes. You want to treat us as free labor, but that depends on whether we agree or not. Previously, they had no choice, but now, they sought to protect their own rights and interests. All the practitioners. These damn ghosts, how could they switch sides so easily? They have no principles at all. At this moment, the leader of the Ghost Control sect, who had been observing silently, stepped forward, we are willing to sign a contract with you. The other members of the Ghost Control sect were shocked, leader. In the metaphysical world's minor branches, the Ghost Control sect was one of the more renowned schools, known by every practitioner who studied ghost control. Even though the Ghost Control sect's current influence was far less than in the past, its reputation still held considerable sway in the hearts of many practitioners. The Ghost Control sect's leader spoke earnestly, in our sect, our bond with spirits is based on mutual consent and support. Those fearsome-looking ghosts were once living people with families, friends, and perhaps lovers. They still harbor attachments to the mortal world, if not for their unresolved obsessions, why would they risk their souls lingering on Earth? Many of our peers treat ghosts as an entirely different species, believing they're no longer human. But they too have thoughts and feelings, desires and emotions. The deceased, like us, could become malevolent spirits if they die with unresolved grievances. This was exactly what set the Ghost Control sect apart from other schools practicing ghost control. In a world that didn't regard ghosts as human, the Ghost Control sect's philosophy of mutual consent and support made them stand out. After speaking, the Ghost Control sect's leader turned to Shen Wang and bowed respectfully, Taoist Shen, I apologize for any previous offense. Shen Wang modestly helped the Ghost Control sect's leader up, no offense taken. Our disciples, even though eager to change the situation, were powerless and alone in their efforts. The Ghost Control sect's leader sighed deeply, it's fortunate that Taoist Shen is so righteous. He didn't hoard the method to create the gathering talisman for personal gain but shared it, seeking welfare for the ghost community. After everyone from the Ghost Control sect had signed, Shen Wang looked up at the crowd, will you sign, or not? The practitioners collectively fell silent, thinking, do we even have a choice? On one side was the moral high ground of the Ghost Control sect's leader, on the other the watchful eyes of the ghosts. They swore that if they refused to sign, their own ghosts would be the first to desert them. In these times, training a capable and reliable ghost wasn't easy. The practitioners, grudgingly and cursing under their breath, signed the contract with such force that their emotions were evident in the strokes of their signatures. After the contract circulated among the crowd and those willing had signed, Shen Wang retrieved it, nodded in satisfaction, and handed it to Lu Tingchun and Feng Ju beside him. Ministers, please take a look. Compare this list with the roster of practitioners contracted with ghosts in your special department. Perhaps they would find a few unregistered cases. Under the silent gazes of everyone, Shen Wang reiterated, now that you've signed the contract, you must abide by the rules and submit to the special department's management. Don't engage in illegal activities. Stop acting all high and mighty. Who do you think you are? Shen Wang paused, following the voice to find the men who had been constantly arguing and had planned to report him to the special department. The men looked impatient, scoffing, using your position to lord over us, what a joke. Shen Wang raised an eyebrow and asked the leader of the ghost control sect, did he sign the contract? The leader of the ghost control sect shook his head, no. Shen Wang nodded and gestured decisively, then why isn't he being escorted out? The leader of the ghost control sect hesitated slightly, well, that doesn't seem quite right. After all, we're all practitioners. It's better to leave room for future amends rather than driving him out so harshly. While the ghost control sect's leader was still hesitating, a ghost, acting on orders, already hoisted the men up and threw him out of the conference room. The men hadn't expected to be thrown out just for making a few offhand remarks. Furious and indignant, he yelled, what right do you have to throw me out? My ghost is still inside, what gives you the right? Before he could finish, his gaunt ghost floated out, spat in disdain, and declared, I'm breaking our contract. I quit. This man was incredibly stingy. Serving as his ghost meant waking earlier than chickens and sleeping later than dogs, barely receiving any energy, and still having to waste his own energy to work for him. With his miserly and demanding ways, the ghost had long wanted to escape. Now with the opportunity of a protective contract, the ghost was eager to immediately switch to a better contractor and leave this miserly life behind. The man was dumbfounded, not expecting to lose his ghost just by stepping out. He hopped in rage, I don't agree. I refuse to break the contract. But the ghost was determined to leave him, enduring the intense pain of forcibly breaking the contract, and unilaterally ended it. What does your disagreement matter? I agree, and that's enough. After all this, with a bang, the conference room door closed in front of him, leaving him shut out. The man, fuming and cursing under his breath, alternately cursed Shen Wang and the ghost. Finally, he muttered resentfully, it's just a ghost. I don't care. I'll just contract another one. Inside the conference room, the other ghosts applauded the brave ghost, gathering around to comfort him, well done. We should have stood up for ourselves long ago. We are all in equal partnership, why should we be treated as servants? They deserved a lesson. I'll notify other ghosts, if they encounter this man, they should run and never contract with him. Thus, unbeknownst to the men, his reputation was completely ruined among the ghosts. After the 200 to 300 ghosts present spread the word, he would find it impossible to contract a ghost in the capital again. Witnessing this, the other practitioners wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads, feeling immensely relieved that they had signed the contract. Otherwise, they might have been the ones abandoned by their ghosts and ostracized by the entire ghost community. Those who hadn't signed the contract left, and Shen Wang, along with the special department officials, discussed and refined the contract terms, modifying some clauses based on the suggestions of the present practitioners and ghosts. After several hours, the final version of the contract was finally confirmed. Shen Wang then officially handed over the method for drawing the gathering talismans to everyone. Under Lu Tingchuan's arrangement, he also prepared some tips for drawing the talismans and distributed them. Those who brought talisman brushes and paper immediately started drawing. With Shen Wang's guidance, they successfully created a talisman with little effort. While the effect was not as strong as those drawn by Shen Wang, the success of their first attempt excited everyone. I never thought it would be so simple to draw this talisman, even I succeeded. Taoist Shen truly deserves his reputation for expertise in talismans. His drawing techniques are incredibly insightful. I knew it, Taoist Shen wouldn't have us deplete our resources to maintain ghosts for no reason. With such a high success rate for the gathering talisman, providing one per month to a ghost is no problem. Taoist Shen's vision is far-reaching and his strategies are ingenious, truly unfathomable. Initially, Shen Wang watched them draw the talismans. Once most had mastered it, he didn't linger and left the conference room. With this, he fulfilled the promises he made to the ghost regarding the talismans and comprehensive benefits. Shen Wang nodded in satisfaction, commending himself for keeping his word. After resting for a day, the National Metaphysical Competition's next round began. This round of the competition involved each participant drawing a hoarding task of S-level difficulty or higher, earning points by completing tasks. Similarly, contestants could attack each other in the rematch to steal points. Shen Wang queued up to draw his task according to the points order. Among the judges standing in the front was Gu Dongting, who quickly flashed a barely noticeable smile and subtly winked at him. Gu Dongting followed the procedure as if he hadn't noticed Shen Wang's greeting gesture. Unperturbed by Gu Dongting's aloofness, Shen Wang cheerfully went to draw his task, discovering it was an SS-level task named Imperial Capital's Haunted House. Chapter 105. There were thousands of participants in the preliminary round, but only a little over 100 had made it to the rematch. The tasks prepared for the contestants were varied, including over 20 tasks like ghost catching, exorcism, geomancy, divination, and fortune-telling, divided into groups of 5 for competition. Each task was an S-level difficulty mission provided by the Special Department and the Metaphysics Association. Due to the high difficulty, these were long-standing, unresolved missions from the Special Department and Metaphysics Association, brought out for the competition as an opportunity to solve them. This not only resolved the competition's task issue but also accomplished the missions, achieving a win-win situation. The task card Shen Wang drew was named Imperial Capital's Haunted House. He examined the card and found it only provided the location and general key points of the mission, with no further details. Protect the task initiator, complete the mission, earn points. Shen Wang murmured the instructions on the task card, deep in thought. This task, seemingly making the 5-person team natural allies, actually made them competitors, as there were only so many points available within the team. Shen Wang looked around, wondering who else had drawn the same task. Noticing Shen Wang's gaze, the chubby boy and Shi Yan showed their task cards, eagerly asking, Shen, what's your task? Imperial Capital's haunted house, Shen Wang displayed his task card. The chubby boy wailed, complaining tearfully, I got the task to purify the resentment at an ancient battlefield, SSS level. Many metaphysics sect leaders tried and failed. What use will I be there? Mine is relatively simple, an exploration of an ancient tomb, only S level. Shi Yan and Xie Qingming were both lucky and unlucky. Lucky to draw the same task, but unlucky for it being a difficult SSS level, we have an exorcism task. Apart from Shi Yan and Xie Qingming, the rest of them, surprisingly, did not draw the same tasks. Shen Wang retracted his task card, I wish you good luck. Shen Wang felt confident in handling whatever came his way, while the others, especially the chubby boy and his group, would have to rely on luck. Without a strong ally, the chubby boy and his group were disheartened. When the staff announced the start of the task, they clung to Shen Wang's clothes, weeping. Shen Wang. Seeing their pitiable state, Shen Wang handed them a few talismans, then firmly removed their hands and turned to leave without hesitation. No kidding, these few ineffective ones aside, he still had his own competition to focus on. With the task locations being different, the contestants needed to show their own unique skills. Whoever arrived first would have a subtle advantage. Upon leaving the competition hall, while others walked or ran, quickly dispersing, Shen Wang pondered for a moment, then decisively stood by the road and hailed a taxi, heading off. Other contestants. Hadn't all phones, cash, and other non-metaphysical items been confiscated? Where did he get the money for a taxi? Shen Wang got into the taxi, directly stated the destination, and the driver nodded cheerfully, all right, I'll get you there as fast as I can. As the taxi smoothly took to the road, the driver couldn't help but make conversation. Not many young people take taxis these days, they all use ride-hailing apps. Are you in a hurry, young man? Shen Wang, stroking his chin thoughtfully, replied, no, I just don't have any money. A strange silence suddenly fell in the cab. The driver tried to lighten the mood, you're quite the joker, young man. I'm serious, I have no money, Shen Wang said, taking off his wristwatch, can I use this to cover the fare? The driver was about to pull over and kick him out of the cab, but upon hearing watch, he glanced at it and couldn't help asking, are you filming a video, young man? The electronic watch was clearly a branded one. Though not extremely expensive, it was worth a few hundred, more than enough to cover the fare. Others watching the live stream from the watch's miniature camera, damn, you can't do this. This watch was an identity device issued by the competition organizers to the contestants. It not only displayed the points leaderboard but also allowed contestants to send messages to the organizers in case of danger or if they wanted to quit, ensuring their safety. It also had a mini camera for live streaming, enabling the observation of the contestant's status. Was Shen Wang really using such an important item to pay for a taxi ride at the start of the game? Not just the competition organizers, but everyone was stunned. This was the contestant's identity proof. Would losing it this way count as voluntarily withdrawing from the competition? Shen Wang smiled, I'm not filming a video. If you don't want the watch, I can also offer to read your fortune. The driver, looking puzzled and taking advantage of a red light, scrutinized Shen Wang again, fortune-telling. You know how to do that. This young man, who looked like a TV star and seemed too young, didn't appear to be someone knowledgeable about such things. Shen Wang, with an air of mystery, solemnly declared, indeed, I am a lay disciple of Baiyun Temple, having studied under the temple master himself. You might not have heard of my name, but you know about Baiyun Temple, right? Baiyun Temple. The driver knew it all too well. It was the most famous Taoist temple in the imperial capital, bustling with visitors. People would line up from the top of the mountain down to its base every day to offer incense. The driver couldn't help but regard Shen Wang with respect, so, you're a master from Baiyun Temple. I apologize for any disrespect. But master, how did you end up without even the fare for a taxi? Unfazed, Shen Wang spoke slowly, you see, I may look like I'm in my 20s, but I'm actually over 40. I've been practicing in Baiyun Temple for years, rarely leaving. I came down from the mountain to exorcise demons and didn't expect the world to have changed so much in just a few years. Indeed, a day in the mountains, 1,000 years in the world. Shen Wang had a handsome face with a slightly wicked charm. However, when he deliberately maintained a serious demeanor, his naturally sinister aura receded, replaced by a semblance of an ethereal Taoist air. The driver was completely taken in by Shen Wang's act, also expressing his thoughts, you do look young for a master. Indeed, a master from Baiyun Temple. Well, practicing has its merits, but the secular world has its charms too. Technology has advanced rapidly these days. Unbeknownst to the driver, those watching the live stream were utterly speechless at Shen Wang's cunning tactics. Someone comparing Shen Wang and Gu Dongting had a sudden realization, no wonder he looked familiar to me. Shen Wang's feigned demeanor was exactly like that of Gu Dongting. A middle-aged judge actually from Baiyun Temple was fuming, that rascal. Impersonating a member of Baiyun Temple, isn't there anyone who can stop him? As he voiced his anger, others tried to pacify him, let it be, he does have real skills, and he hasn't tarnished the reputation of Baiyun Temple. It's just a competition, and there's no rule saying contestants can't claim to be from other sects. Take it easy, at least now he won't have to pawn his watch to the driver. During the drive to the haunted house, Shen Wang and the driver chatted amiably. Not only did he read the driver's fortune, leaving him astounded and calling him a real immortal, but upon leaving the taxi, he also gave the driver a talisman for safety. The driver waved reluctantly from the window, Master, I'll definitely visit you at Baiyun Temple. Master, be careful in there. The haunted house is notoriously sinister among the old residents of the imperial capital. Only after Shen Wang waved goodbye did the driver contentedly place the safety talisman carefully into his embroidered car charm, exclaiming, who would have guessed the master is in his 40s or 50s? Incredible, truly incredible. The driver felt he had a story to boast about for a year. Though he didn't charge for the ride this time, he felt like he had earned something. Shen Wang was satisfied, the driver was satisfied, and the judges watching the live stream were nearly slack-jawed in astonishment. It should be noted that apart from points for completing tasks, the competition's scoring also included the contestants' on-the-spot performance. For example, getting to the task location with a ghost's help could earn extra points, whereas those who chose to walk wouldn't receive any. But Shen Wang's case was unique. You can't say he didn't use metaphysical means, he did. But if you say he did, it seems like he didn't. How should they score him? The judges exchanged puzzled glances. The middle-aged judge from Baiyun Temple, still fuming, drew a big 0 on the score sheet, exploiting loopholes. 0 points. Unaware that transportation was also a scoring criterion, Shen Wang walked towards the haunted house, keenly observing his surroundings. Despite being near the outskirts, the area around the haunted house in the imperial capital, where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, was filled with well-decorated villas, clearly a wealthy district. The landscaping was meticulously arranged, but unlike other areas, the most abundant vegetation here was low shrubs. Without vast grasslands or tall trees, the area somehow felt desolate. It would probably feel quite eerie at night. Shen Wang didn't need to check the map again. He followed the direction where the yin energy was the strongest and stopped before a dilapidated mansion. A young man playing with his phone outside the house looked up at Shen Wang and brightened. Hello. Shen Wang thought for a moment and responded, hello. After a few minutes of mutual contemplation, the young man, unable to bear the awkward silence, initiated, excuse me, are you here for the competition? Are you the task initiator? Shen Wang gave the young man a once-over, subtly furrowing his brow. The young man nodded excitedly, yes, master, hello. Shen Wang had learned from the taxi driver that this large house was an old building from decades ago, once a famous club. It fell into disrepair following a war and subsequent reforms. In modern times, though attempts were made to demolish the old house and construct something new, anyone who tried ended up going mad, only recovering their sanity after leaving the vicinity. Thus, the old house became a notoriously haunted site in the imperial capital, even affecting the property values of the surrounding villas. Looking up at the haunted house, Shen Wang's gaze revealed immense energy slowly seeping out, yet seemingly trapped within a 3-meter radius as if hindered by something. Despite being daytime, the area was shrouded in a gloom as if night had fallen, all gray and murky. The young man, noticing Shen Wang's gaze, also looked back at the old house, rich in history and full of stories, and remarked, it's beautiful, isn't it? These old buildings have a special kind of beauty. Shen Wang, I can't say if it's beautiful or not, but you certainly have a unique taste. Chapter 106. The young man, not understanding Shen Wang's comment, looked puzzled. Huh? Shen Wang withdrew his gaze from the sinister old house, not intending to explain, and directly asked, what's your situation? Caught off guard by Shen Wang's abrupt change of topic, the young man quickly introduced himself, my name is Ma Jiwen. As he spoke, he frantically searched through his backpack, finally pulling out a thick black leather notebook and handing it to Shen Wang. Ma Jiwen, a comic artist and a native of the imperial capital, recently found this old diary while cleaning out his ancestral home. The diary detailed a beautiful love story, which deeply moved him, inspiring him to adapt it into a comic. Initially thinking it was just a source of inspiration, he began having the same dream repeatedly from that day on. With a hint of fear, Ma Jiwen shared, in the dream, I became the male protagonist in the diary, dating and falling in love with a female protagonist whose face I couldn't see. The decorations, room layouts, and clothing in the dream, all from the last century, turned the originally sunny setting spine-chilling. Distressed by these dreams, Ma Jiwen was nearly driven to nervous breakdown. Driven by a desire to get to the root of it, he followed clues from the diary in his dreams, astonishingly finding this haunted house in reality. I swear, even though I'm a born and bred resident of the imperial capital, I've never been here before. Ma Jiwen glanced at the diary with fear in his eyes, but this place, it's exactly like in my dreams. Terrified at the realization that the things from his dreams existed in reality, Ma Jiwen started to suspect he had encountered something malevolent. Shen Wang half-heartedly listened to Ma Jiwen's story while casually flipping through the diary. The diary was well preserved, its black cover showed no signs of aging. Only upon opening it did the yellowed pages, faint ink smudges, and torn paper reveal the marks of time. From the handwriting, it was clearly a man's writing. The diary detailed how the author stumbled into a gathering and met a strikingly beautiful lady. They hit it off instantly, with the diarist falling for her at first sight. After this page, several pages of the diary were torn out, leaving only intermittent records of the author's courtship with the lady. They talked about everything under the sun, sneaking out for dates, walking in the park, he gave her a silver bracelet, she gave him a pocket watch in return. But too many pages were torn out, leaving behind only these sweet memories, without any conclusion. Only the youthful emotions in the text, transcending through history, could reveal his heartfelt affection. Sighing, Ma Jiwen commented, looks like a sweet love story, doesn't it? A young man's chance encounter with a lady of a reputable family, a sweet love story of mutual understanding and affection. But the place where this story unfolded, this haunted house, was actually a dance hall decades ago. A dance hall named Tulip, neither famous nor long-standing, disappeared into obscurity during the war. Shen Wang closed the diary and handed it back to Ma Jiwen, understood. Ma Jiwen, puzzled, asked, aren't we going to go in and check it out? No rush, Shen Wang smiled, we're still waiting for someone else. Ma Jiwen became even more bewildered, aren't you, in competition with each other? Wasn't he told by the staff that this was a competition, with several people competing simultaneously, and the one who arrives first gets to start the task? Why is this guy so calm and composed? Ever heard the saying, many hands make light work? Shen Wang smiled, handing Ma Jiwen a talisman for safety, keep this with you. Ma Jiwen, a bit dazed, oh-ed and instinctively accepted the talisman. Holding the talisman, Ma Jiwen's eyes suddenly lit up. Recently burdened with investigating the haunted house, he had been under immense stress, plagued by continuous dreams, resulting in poor sleep quality and a foggy mind, accompanied by an inexplicable chill. As soon as he touched the talisman, he felt a gentle warmth spreading from his palm throughout his body, warming his chilled limbs and clearing his muddled mind. A master indeed. Ma Jiwen quickly treasured the talisman close to his heart, feeling as if his heart was soaked in warm water, finally relaxing his tense nerves. Initially skeptical of Shen Wang due to his youthful appearance and striking looks, Ma Jiwen now had no doubts about his abilities. The pair didn't have to wait long before the other competitors started arriving gradually. The first to appear in their sight were two men, one tall and one short. Surprised to see Shen Wang, they greeted, Taoist Shen. Recognizing them, Shen Wang's expression subtly changed, Taoist by, Taoist. Ugly. Bai Fuchen greeted Shen Wang with a sweet smile, and though happy, he sighed, with Taoist Shen here, our chances of winning seem slim. After the banquet incident, no one underestimated Shen Wang's abilities, now having a clear understanding of his strength. Ugly Yin's eyes brightened, didn't expect us to end up together. Shen Wang's eyelid twitched, suspecting these two had some backdoor influence to stay together in the competition, like conjoined twins. While they were talking, the remaining two competitors quickly arrived. One was a member of the Metaphysical Association, always seen as Bo Yu's underling, a man familiar to Shen Wang, who introduced himself as Wushu. The last person to arrive was a woman dressed peculiarly. Seeing Shen Wang, she smiled and introduced herself in a friendly manner. Hello Taoist Shen, I'm Pang He, from the Immortal Maiden sect. Shen Wang noticed her eyes were slightly narrow, more reminiscent of a beast's pupils than those of a human. In the metaphysical world, apart from the main large sects, there are various smaller paths and sects, like the Gu insects of Miaojiang and sects bonding with demon beasts, such as the Horse Immortals. These sects are collectively known as the 5 immortal sects, categorized under one large group. Shen Wang discerned that this woman named Pang He was a disciple of the 5 immortal sects, bonded with a fox spirit. Without saying much, Shen Wang let Ma Jiwen introduce the situation to everyone, then signaled the group, shall we go in? None of the others objected, following Shen Wang in an orderly manner. Shen Wang. He had intended to wait for the others to take the lead, but unexpectedly ended up being the leader himself, a miscalculation. Pushing open the creaky, dilapidated door, they entered the mysterious haunted house amidst a grating squeak. The once decrepit building instantly reverted to its appearance from decades ago, as if time had flowed backward, restored to its new and lavishly decorated state. The silent rooms gradually filled with life, with guests and dancers appearing out of thin air, and the unique music of the last century filled the air. Amidst the sharp, melodious singing of women, Shen Wang suddenly looked around. The competitors who had entered with him had vanished without a trace. The surroundings were filled with guests moving back and forth, dancing under the ambiguous, dim lights. Shen Wang realized in a flash, no wonder even some powerful metaphysical experts couldn't deal with this haunted house. The haunted house itself wasn't harmful, but it was a massive illusion. An illusion created by the resentful spirits of those who had died here. Since the haunted house posed no harm to the living, Shen Wang didn't hurry to find the others, instead leisurely observing the lifelike dancers and guests around him. The stunningly beautiful dancers were either dressed in curve-revealing kipeos or in pretty Western dresses, smiling sweetly, their eyes seductive as they danced lightly to the music. When their eyes met Shen Wang's, a bold dancer quickly threw him a flirtatious wink and puckered her red lips in a flying kiss gesture. Shen Wang calmly returned the glance, even offering a smile, seamlessly blending into the misty ambience. Suddenly, a delicate voice sounded near Shen Wang's ear. Would you like to find a dance partner, sir? Turning around, Shen Wang met a pair of alluring eyes. The owner of the eyes wasn't remarkably exquisite in features, a round, moon face preferred by the older generation, slightly chubby but with stunningly beautiful eyes that were both seductive and pure. Innocently charming yet enticing, a modest appearance yet a captivating aura. Seeing no response from Shen Wang, the woman chuckled lightly, her eyes relaxing. You're quite handsome, sir, overshadowing even me. My name is Azzy, what's yours? Azzy. Shen Wang's mind stirred, and he asked her, do you know Ma Shuyuan? Covering her mouth, Azzy giggled, I don't know him. Are you looking for someone, sir? Shen Wang, looking at her, couldn't muster any other emotion but a sense of heaviness. Even the earlier novelty of watching a scene like a movie up close had faded. This Azzy, despite her mature and experienced demeanor, was no more than 18 years old. My name is Shen Wang, he sighed softly, addressing Azzy. I came here with a few friends but we got separated. Could you help me find them, Miss Azzy? 3 male friends, among them 2, 1 tall, 1 short, probably together, and another man likely alone. There's also a female friend. Azzy glanced at Shen Wang curiously, then leaned closer, her breath as sweet as orchids. Mr. Shen, maybe your friends are off having fun on their own. Why not join me instead? Let's have some fun together. Shen Wang, considering her young age and that she was a girl, tried to hold back but couldn't resist stepping back. Miss Azzy, the stench of death on you is too strong, it's suffocating me. Azzy's expression changed, forcing a stiff smile. Sir, what kind of joke is this? Shen Wang sighed again and, as Azzy leaned in once more, he took out a yellow talisman pinched between his fingers. Azzy, are you even a man? Unwavering in the face of a considerate, young, and beautiful woman like her. Chapter 107. Realizing she couldn't seduce Shen Wang, Azzy dropped her coquettish act, her eyes shifting eerily as she sized him up. Are you the type of man who likes other men? Shen Wang, these girls from the last century sure know a lot. Seeing Shen Wang's displeased expression, Azzy quickly changed her tone. All right, you're looking for your friends, right? Indeed, some guests did come in just now. Saying this, she gestured for Shen Wang to follow her. Shen Wang followed Azzy, noticing that as they left the hall, the vivacious scene blurred like a water-soaked oil painting. The dancing girls' smiles stiffened, revealing the ashen skin of restless spirits. They continued to twirl in the dance floor, their nearly all white eyes unblinkingly fixed on Shen Wang. The faces of the guests gradually became indistinct, leaving only vague outlines. In this eerie atmosphere, Shen Wang followed Azzy without hesitation, only to see the grand ballroom suddenly transform into a backyard. The haunting female singing faded, replaced by a faint murmur of conversation. Turning around, Shen Wang saw that Azzy had vanished without a trace. He wasn't too surprised, simply raising an eyebrow and searching for any signs of the others in this new illusion. After a few steps, the murmur of conversation became clearer. Shen Wang paused, following the sound. It was Bai Fuchen and Ugly Yin. But something was off about the two of them. Ugly Yin's disfigured face was expressionless, but his calm, undisturbed eyes betrayed a hint of despair as he quietly watched Bai Fuchen, who was much shorter than him. Bai Fuchen, with an arrogant expression, lifted his chin and said, though you're just a common servant girl from the Tuliply, I've noticed your diligent work. My family happens to need a few maids. Shen Wang paused and observed for a while, realizing they were caught in a cliché, arrogant young master falls for me, plot. Ugly Yin noticed Shen Wang's arrival, his eyes flickered for a moment, his ears reddening. He was about to speak when Bai Fuchen interrupted him. You ungrateful servant girl, Bai Fuchen said with dissatisfaction, I drove away those women, ladies, to thank you and even considered buying your freedom. Are you not willing? Look at you. While you're decent looking, you're rather robust. Do you plan to work menial jobs in the dance hall for life? Shen Wang's gaze fell on Ugly Yin's face, and he couldn't help but doubt himself, decent looking. The aesthetic of this young masterby is quite peculiar. Or is it the case of beauty in the lover's eyes? Ugly Yin was completely helpless, being a purely combat-oriented cultivator. His usual approach to illusions was to break them with brute force. If someone else were trapped in an illusion, he would have physically awakened them by now. But now, the one caught in the illusion was Bai Fuchen. Ugly Yin took Bai Fuchen's hand, Xiaochun. Bai Fuchen's incessant chatter suddenly stopped, his face reddening, lips curling up, but he still retorted stubbornly, "How dare a mere servant girl call me by my pet name?" His demeanor was coy and seemingly shy. Unexpectedly, Ugly Yin pulled him over to another man. Bai Fuchen's eyes widened in shock, his face full of heartbroken betrayal. "Who is he?" "Your betrothed from the countryside. Look at his shifty eyes, he's obviously not a good person. You work menial and exhausting jobs at the Tulip just to send money for him to study. He must have squandered your money on frivolous activities." Shen Wang, described as shifty-eyed and cunning. He was now certain that this young masterby didn't see beauty in the eyes of the lover, but rather had an aesthetic sense quite different from ordinary people. Ugly Yin quickly covered Bai Fuchen's mouth, offering an embarrassed smile. "Taoist Shen, sorry for this embarrassment." Bai Fuchen, his mouth covered, had a look of heartbreak and despair in his eyes, almost on the verge of tears. It's fine, it's fine." Shen Wang touched his nose, hiding a smile. "Do you need help?" Ugly Yin immediately responded, "Then we'd be very grateful, Taoist Shen." He had been waiting for Shen Wang to offer help. As soon as Ugly Yin let go, Bai Fuchen began cursing. "How dare you cover my mouth for some other men? Do you have feelings for him? Even though I'm clearly—" The next second, a slender finger pressed on his forehead, and Bai Fuchen's rant came to an abrupt halt. His eyes momentarily fogged with confusion, then gradually cleared, finally breaking free from the illusion. Shen Wang watched Bai Fuchen's face change through a spectrum of colors, asking with a smile, "Taoist Bai, may I ask what you saw?" Bai Fuchen's face turned through a palette of colors, finally settling on a deep red, almost steaming in embarrassment. He whimpered and buried his head in Ugly Yin's embrace, stubbornly refusing to come out. Shen Wang couldn't hold back and burst into laughter. "Taoist Bai, with your talk of being a servant girl and betrothed to some wild man, one wouldn't have guessed." It seemed the quiet, obedient young boy harbored melodramatic fantasies in his heart. A hint of amusement appeared in Ugly Yin's eyes as he wrapped Bai Fuchen in his arms, his gaze softening like melting ice. Shen Wang's laughter stopped abruptly, clicking his tongue lightly. He shouldn't have teased the couple. It was like asking to be fed dog food. Once Bai Fuchen recovered, he stood up from Ugly Yin's embrace, his face taut as he explained, "The moment I stepped into the haunted house, I was ensnared by the illusion." He spoke earnestly, trying to appear nonchalant, but his face still flushed, resembling a red apple. Ugly Yin's throat bobbed, barely catching what he said. Bai Fuchen, a pill master, lacked Ugly Yin's strength and was immediately captivated by the illusion upon entering the haunted house. In the illusion, he was the young master of the scholarly Bai family, visiting the Tulip with classmates to gain experience. As soon as he stepped in, his classmates vanished like fish in water. Left alone and naive, Bai Fuchen found himself overwhelmed by a throng of women. Panic-stricken, fearing he would be stripped bare by these women, a strong hand suddenly pulled him out of the crowd and into the quieter backyard. When Bai Fuchen caught his breath, he saw Ugly Yin before his disfigurement. In his eyes, Ugly Yin's face was still unmarred, strikingly handsome, striking right at his heart and making it race. However, Ugly Yin was dressed in an incongruous red robe and skirt, with a female hairstyle and a garish large red rose in his hair. Caught in the illusion, Bai Fuchen found nothing odd about this attire, only puzzled that this woman seemed unusually tall, but soon his mind glossed over this inconsistency. Cho Yin was like a robust country girl, her exceptional height and strength stemming from her inability to marry, forcing her to move to the city to earn a living as a maid doing menial tasks in the Tulip house. Then, moved by pity, he decided to redeem the maid and bring her home, a scene that Shen Wang happened to witness. After finishing his story, the blush on Bai Fuchen's face, which had subsided, started to creep back up. He glanced at Cho Yin beside him and unconsciously added, "You still have 2 spots of rouge on your cheeks." The hilarity of Cho Yin in the illusion was matched only by Bai Fuchen's embarrassment upon awakening. It would have been bearable if only he and Cho Yin knew, but unfortunately, Shen Wang had seen everything. Bai Fuchen felt like burying himself in Cho Yin's embrace again. Cho Yin's eyes sparkled with amusement as she grabbed Bai Fuchen's hand. Bai Fuchen pouted, attempting to shake off the hand, but after failing twice, he let Cho Yin hold it. Shen Wang, not noticing their subtle gestures, summarized based on Bai Fuchen's words, "This illusion satisfies one's deepest desires and even fixes its own bugs. It's a highly autonomous and complete illusion." Cho Yin pondered and then asked, "How do we break out of this illusion? Do we kill those minor ghosts?" He could only discern that the illusion was sustained by the Yin energy of numerous minor ghosts. Once the Yin energy was insufficient, the illusion would naturally collapse. Shen Wang rolled his eyes dramatically. Why resort to violence? It's so boring. Cho Yin was momentarily at a loss for words. "Let's find the others first and then decide," Shen Wang suggested, calculating quickly before striding off in a chosen direction. Cho Yin and Bai Fuchen exchanged glances, following Shen Wang closely. When the trio found Wushu, they saw him walking in circles at a spot, seemingly obstructed by an invisible barrier, continuously circling the same area. Shen Wang observed for a while, noticing Wushu holding a compass, apparently trying to break a formation. He waited for a while, and then a while longer. As time passed, he grew impatient with the illusion not being broken, and finally, he directly shattered the illusion himself. Wushu, holding the compass, was startled, his eyes widening as if awakening from a dream. Shen Wang curiously looked at him and asked, "So, what did you see?" Clutching the compass tightly in his hand, Wushu's face was rigid. I broke through an illusion and was battling a female ghost." Like Bai Fuchen, he entered the illusion as soon as he stepped into the Yin residence, but he was stronger than Bai Fuchen, seeing through the dancing girls as mere ghosts and directly using a magical instrument to break the illusion. It's better to follow Shen Wang and see how he deals with these ghosts. Maybe he could learn something. Wushu, without any shame of following his arch-enemy from a special department, calmly met Shen Wang's gaze, resigned to his fate. Shen Wang didn't think much of it and motioned for him to follow, choosing another direction. However, as they walked, they found that the surroundings gradually changed again, and it seemed they were back in the ballroom. The ballroom was just as lively as before, buzzing with men and women flirting with each other, as if Shen Wang had never revealed the truth, nor had Wushu broken the illusion. Bai Fuchen worriedly said, "There are so many people here, how can we find Taoist Pangha and our client?" Everyone was clueless. In such a ghostly environment, finding the faint vitality of living beings was like finding a needle in a haystack. They looked at each other and unanimously turned their eyes to Shen Wang. Others might be helpless, but Shen Wang could definitely do it. Chapter 108. Indeed, Shen Wang could do it. To others, this illusion was incredibly real, but for Shen Wang, whose spiritual sense far exceeded his cultivation, it was child's play. Bai Fuchen and the others watched as Shen Wang looked around and then walked in a direction, stopping in front of a dancer wearing a green cheongsam. Bai Fuchen and the others glanced at the unfamiliar-looking dancer and then back at Shen Wang, their eyes filled with confusion. Could Shen Wang be deluded by the illusion? The dancer in the green cheongsam stood stiffly, seemingly oblivious to Shen Wang and the others, with a stubborn look on her face. An older dancer beside her yanked her over and hissed viciously, "Are you tired of living? Why are you showing such an attitude to the guests? Do you think you're some precious lady? You're just a dancer, your life is cheap. If a guest shoots you dead, no one would even collect your body." The dancer in the green cheongsam, with eyes like a fox, defiantly said, "I'd rather be killed than entertain those Japanese soldiers." Not far away, several men in black suits sat nearby, eyeing the dancer in the green cheongsam with ill intentions, showing off what they thought were charming smiles. Shen Wang and Bai Fuchen frowned slightly upon hearing this. After whispering among themselves for a while, the dancer in the green cheongsam was persuaded. She walked towards those men with a stiff face. Before she could even stand firm, someone eagerly pulled her into their arms, laughing loudly while forcing her to drink, and called her in heavily accented Chinese, "Flower girl." Damn it. Bai Fuchen couldn't stand it anymore and clenched his fists, ready to step forward. Shen Wang stopped him. "This is an illusion." Bai Fuchen clenched his fists tightly, grinding his teeth in anger. "So what if it's an illusion? Are we just going to watch those beasts bully a woman?" Shen Wang's tense expression slightly relaxed. He stepped forward, passing directly through the men, and lightly tapped on the forehead of the dancer in the green cheongsam. The dancer in the green cheongsam, who had been suppressing her anger, was startled. The next second, her beautiful green cheongsam turned into strangely styled modern clothing, and her unfamiliar face transformed into one they recognized. Bai Fuchen exclaimed in surprise, "Pangha." No one expected that Pangha would be one of the dancers. If not for Shen Wang breaking the illusion, perhaps no one would have realized the truth. Pangha's eyes shifted from restraint to anger. Damn it. This damn illusion. Before the others could react, a fox shadow burst out from Pangha's body, scratching and tearing through the bodies of those men. They twisted and vanished like smoke in an instant. Even so, Pangha was still not appeased. She controlled the fox shadow to wreak havoc in the hall, tearing the illusion apart in an instant. Shen Wang discreetly stepped back, and Bai Fuchen and the others also silently retreated, distancing themselves from this furiously angry woman. As the illusion shattered, the true face of the Yin residence was finally revealed. Stripped of the illusion's adornment, the interior of the Yin residence was decayed and dilapidated, with only the rough outlines of the rooms visible. Weeds covered the floor, and moss had climbed onto the rotten wooden tables. The place bore no resemblance to the luxurious splendor of the illusion, looking more like a haunted house from a horror story. No need to pretend, this is indeed a haunted house. Shen Wang glanced around and immediately spotted several hidden ghosts. Just as he was about to summon these ghosts for questioning, someone stumbled towards him, bursting into tears and crying out, "Master! Save me, master!" In such an environment, Shen Wang almost kicked the person away reflexively, but he restrained himself upon realizing that this was their neglected client. Ma Jiwen scrambled over, clinging to Shen Wang's leg and sobbing uncontrollably, "Master, you have no idea what I saw." It was terrifying. After several unsuccessful attempts to detach him, Shen Wang resignedly asked, "What happened?" The others also turned their attention to Ma Jiwen. As an ordinary person, Ma Jiwen should have been entranced by the illusion upon entering the Yin residence, and indeed, he almost was. But before he could succumb to the illusion, a burning pain suddenly erupted in his palm, as if something had been scorched. Ma Jiwen snapped back to reality, only to find the beautiful woman in the cheongsam in front of him had transformed her face. One second she was so beautiful, the next she had a ghastly, toothy grin, smiling at me and inviting me to dance. Ma Jiwen was a mess of snot and tears, still terrified. I didn't dare to speak, it was so frightening, my heart has never beaten so fast. Ma Jiwen then realized he was still holding the safety charm given by Shen Wang. Too scared to do anything, he found a corner to crouch in, burying his head in his knees, pretending to be an ostrich. Upon hearing noises, he cautiously peeked through a gap and, seeing it was Shen Wang and his group, he scrambled towards them. After hearing his story, Shen Wang had little reaction, but the other contestants were visibly unsettled. Bai Fuchen, you could see through the illusion just by relying on the safety charm given by Brother Shen. Pangha, how powerful must a safety charm be to do that? Impossible, right? Wushu, then, may I ask where can one buy such a thing? Enough, you're treating this like a marketplace, Shen Wang said. This is a competition, be serious. Bai Fuchen, disappointed, withdrew his gaze and let out a long sigh, asking, so, what do we do now? Everyone's eyes were on Shen Wang, looking to him for guidance. Shen Wang looked up, now, of course, we need to drag out those ghosts. The group waited intently. And scare them out of their wits. Bai Fuchen and the others, isn't that a bit too simplistic and crude? Shen Wang, crude. If it's effective, it's good enough. As he spoke, Shen Wang's fingertips were already conjuring talismanic symbols. He toyed with them, about to throw, when a woman's voice urgently stopped him. Wait. The corners of Shen Wang's lips curved into a smile. Yielding graciously, he retracted the talisman, saying softly, Lady Azzy. Azzy appeared in midair, floating in front of Shen Wang, and complained coquettishly, Master, we are just ordinary ghosts and have never harmed anyone. Even when people wanted our house, we only let them wander through the illusion before sending them out. We really couldn't be more innocent. The others watched Azzy's demeanor without showing any surprise. Only Pangha's eyes revealed a hint of pity. Azzy bit her lip, tears coming readily. She looked at Pangha with tearful eyes. Kind sister, please spare us this time, considering we're both women. You've experienced it in the illusion. We dancers are just insignificant beings in troubled times, struggling to survive. Pangha instinctively looked at Shen Wang. Brother Shen, maybe we could. Shen Wang didn't respond to Pangha. Instead, he picked up the trembling Ma Jiwen from the ground and asked, have you ever known a man before? Were you in a relationship with him? A man. Azzy covered her mouth coyly. What are you talking about, master? The number of men I've known is countless. Shen Wang. He nudged Ma Jiwen, signaling him to deal with it himself. Perhaps feeling secure with Shen Wang behind him, or driven by his obsession with the diary, Ma Jiwen shakily rummaged in his backpack and stammered, Miss Azzy, do you remember, my great-uncle, his name was Ma Liancheng. Azzy was startled, frowning slightly as she tried to remember. I don't recall. Was he one of my previous clients? After searching for a while, Ma Jiwen finally pulled out a diary. My great-uncle met you when he was young and never forgot about you. He never married, always remembering the promise you two made. In the diary, the young great-uncle promised that he would return with money to marry his beloved girl and live a good life with her. But after that diary entry, there were no more additions. Later, the diary was torn up, removing all the heavy details about Azzy being a dancer and leaving only the beautiful memories. Azzy took the diary, her gaze distant. How long has it been outside? Ma Jiwen replied, over 80 years. Azzy caressed the cover of the diary without opening it. He never married. Yes, he lived to be 105 years old, without ever marrying or having children. To think there was such a man. Azzy murmured, half in awe, half in wonder, but I don't remember him. She then asked, how is he now, is he well? Ma Jiwen hesitated, he passed away this May. It was while sorting the old man's belongings that he found the diary. Azzy sighed, opened the diary, and after only a few pages, her expression became serious, then she suddenly chuckled, you've mistaken the person, I am Azzy, the Z as in purple. The girl in the diary was Azzy. Everyone, still immersed in this poignant love story, was stunned. Had they mistaken the person all along? Azzy closed the diary, Azzy. Soon, another ghost timidly floated out, hiding behind Azzy and looking nervously at Shen Wang and the others. Here. Azzy handed the diary to her, herself a mix of tears and laughter. Azzy appeared much younger, about 15 or 16 years old, unlike the skilled dancer Azzy. She was more introverted and silent. Without mentioning it, no one would guess she was a dancer. Azzy looked at the diary, her face reflecting memories, and then she shyly smiled. I remember him. The clumsy youth who mistakenly entered the ballroom. He was the one delivering clothes to the girls in the back of the ballroom, himself wearing clothes full of patches, tall and not at all boyish. After delivering the clothes, he wandered around the backyard, unable to find the way out. It was Azzy who led him out. That was his first time delivering clothes there, and he didn't even know it was a ballroom. Later, the two of them secretly fell in love and even began planning how to buy her freedom and leave the ballroom. But Azzy's eyes gradually dimmed. I let him down. Ma Jiwen never expected the heroine of the story to be so young. He was completely taken aback, but in that era, it was common for teenagers to marry. He awkwardly waved his hand. No, it wasn't your fault. As he poked Azzy's head, you're already dead, there's no way to keep your promise. If anyone is to blame, it's those despicable Japanese soldiers. Japanese soldiers. Pangha, recalling everything from the illusion, felt a physiological revulsion. What happened? Azzy glanced at her, still smiling seductively and nonchalantly said, what else? Those beasts played us to death, several of our sisters. We managed to kill a few of those beasts, but then they slaughtered everyone in the ballroom. After saying this, she looked at Shen Wang and the others' grim faces, covered her mouth, and laughed. I've said it already. In times of chaos, life is the least valuable, especially the lives of us women. Chapter 109. As Azzy spoke of this, there was no sadness in her demeanor. She arched her eyebrows, somewhat smug, as if proud of having killed a few beasts, even though she lost her own life and has been trapped in this haunted house for nearly a century, unable to move on. Even the more introverted Azzy was biting her lip, her eyes slightly shining, admiringly looking at Azzy. Shen Wang and the others breathed heavily for a moment, Pangha biting her teeth, her eyes faintly brimming with tears. Noticing their gazes, the usually confident Azzy showed a hint of shyness. She held Azzy's hand, her voice losing its flirtatiousness for the first time, speaking softly, those beasts came to our land, committed atrocities, burned, killed, and looted. Although we are just inconspicuous, lower-class women, we still know what national integrity and dignity mean. Just like what Pangha encountered in the illusion, when those Japanese soldiers came to the tulip ballroom, they fancied a dancer and wanted her to accompany them. However, she refused, having lost family members to these soldiers. Despite the other dancers' desperate pleas and efforts to appease them, the humiliated soldiers refused to let her go and forcefully took away several dancers that night. 2 days later, only their cold bodies were returned, stripped of everything, with unbearable wounds exposed to the sunlight, and their eyes wide open in pain and horror. Sharing the same fate, the other dancers felt a chilling void in their hearts, overwhelmed with boundless anger. Why should they be allowed to do as they please on our soil? Why should their foreign status allow them to disregard the law and trample on lives? Even as lowly as insects, women of the night huddle together for warmth and rely on each other. How could they accept the cruel deaths of their sisters, who were laughing and cursing just a few days ago? Later, the most beautiful Azzy voluntarily approached those soldiers, seductively smiling and speaking coyly, leading them back to the ballroom. That night, after the soldiers drank the drugged wine, the seemingly fragile dancers used hairpins to stab, kitchen knives to slash, and teeth to bite, torturing the immobile soldiers to death. At dawn, the dancers calmly put on their best clothes that they rarely wore, washed every inch of their skin, their faces bare without makeup. Clean and pristine, they stepped into a new life. Alas, Azzy sighed lightly, still a bit forlorn. Back then, we thought we might have a decent next life. At least not to be born in a time of chaos, maybe to have an ordinary and happy family, living a normal woman's life in plain simplicity. Such a dream was so far out of their reach. But all of them were trapped in this haunted house, the place of their death, unable to leave, only waiting lonely for the day they would finally cease to exist. Panghe, being a woman, empathized deeply with Azzy and the others. She was the most immersed in the illusion. After hearing Azzy's calm narration, she was in tears, angrily cursing through her sobs. It's so unfair that those beasts got off easy. Why are they not the ones suffering instead of you? How can this be? How can this be allowed? Azzy, who had been somewhat lost in thought, suddenly burst into laughter upon seeing Panghe's distressed state. Miss, you are truly kind-hearted. Ma Jiwen also felt chills as he listened. Looking at Azzy, he suddenly spoke. I think I've heard about this incident before. The Tulip Ballroom was only open for a short time and didn't leave much of an impression, vanishing from people's memories after it closed. But among the older generation in the capital, a story was passed down. A tale of heroic women who bravely killed several Japanese soldiers. When the older generation spoke of this, their tone was full of admiration and respect. They praised these women as the most intelligent, brave, and virtuous, true heroes of China. Ma Jiwen paused for a few seconds before continuing. My great-uncle often told me this story. He later joined the army and became a soldier. That teenage boy later became a hero on the battlefield, narrowly escaping death and eventually driving all foreign enemies out of his country. In his old age, his favorite pastime was to sit in his chair, boasting of his battle exploits to the younger generation, telling his stories so often they could recite them by heart. But no one knew that the cheerful old man kept a diary hidden in his bedside drawer, secretly reading it on sleepless nights. Whether he ever thought of that quiet and timid girl, Ma Jiwen couldn't say, but despite his fondness for children, he never married or had kids. Everyone fell into a long silence. Aji held the diary in her arms, her eyes filled with deep sorrow, but as a ghost, she couldn't shed even a single tear for that boy. As he patted her shoulder, a reminder of the world's unpredictable turns. Suddenly, Shen Wang spoke. His great-uncle passed away not long ago. If you go after him now, maybe you can continue your bond in the next life. Aji looked up sharply, meeting Shen Wang's eyes for the first time, her voice trembling. Really? Can that really happen? I wouldn't deceive you, Shen Wang's voice softened, as if to not frighten the timid spirit. This diary has been with him for decades, imbued with his essence. If I bind this essence with you, you'll have a chance to meet again in your next life. As he pulled Aji behind her, dissatisfied, if reincarnation was that easy, would we have been trapped here for decades? Talking about reincarnation now gives Aji false hope. What if it doesn't work? What would she do then? Shen Wang, unfazed, how do you know it won't work if you've never tried? Before Azzy could respond, Aji poked her from behind, whispering, Sister Azzy, I want to try. Trapped here for decades, unable to leave, their only respite was glimpsing the living through illusions, without any form of entertainment. Eventually, even the living visitors dwindled. They were all weary of such a life. Azzy paused, then sighed, if you want to try, then go ahead. Shen Wang did not refuse. He smiled gently at the sisters, Azzy and Aji. When he was in the illusion earlier, Shen Wang felt something was amiss. After inspecting the layout of the haunted house under Azzy's guidance, his expression subtly changed. Azzy, always observant of his expressions, anxiously asked, what's wrong? Is it still not possible? Shen Wang's eyes were deep. Do you remember when this illusion suddenly appeared? His question startled by Fuchen and Chou Yin. Isn't this a naturally formed illusion? Illusions can indeed form naturally, especially in places with heavy yin energy which can easily induce illusions in the living. Previously, no one suspected any human interference in this illusion. They naturally assumed it was due to the multitude of ghosts and the dense yin energy here. But now, with Shen Wang's questioning, they all realized that the matter wasn't so simple. After some reflection, Azzy tilted her head and ventured, perhaps a few years after our deaths. But the specific timing was blurry to her, she couldn't recall clearly due to her disoriented state back then. Shen Wang frowned, looking at the ground and slowly said, below us, there's a large illusionary formation. Ordinary formations use spiritual energy as a guide, but this formation absorbs yin energy instead. With the yin energy of the many female ghosts in the haunted house, even Shen Wang initially failed to see through the formation, mistaking it for the mischievous acts of Azzy and the other ghosts. He only realized the truth after sensing something amiss and investigating carefully. Azzy, Aji, and the other ghosts gathered around, no longer afraid of Shen Wang, bombarding him with questions. Master, what's happening? Is there a problem? Can we still reincarnate? Can it be quicker, Master? Aji might not catch up with her lover. Shen Wang's expression softened slightly, and he gestured for all the ghosts to step back. Rest assured, if I said I can help you reincarnate, then I will. As he spoke, he began calculating with his fingers while swiftly moving in strange patterns across the ground. The others and the minor ghosts were completely baffled by his actions. Soon, a gust of wind stirred up the thick dust at his feet. Tui. Bai Fuchen squinted, spitting out the dust that had accidentally gotten into his mouth. He wanted to bury his face in Chou Yin's embrace yet also wanted to watch Shen Wang's maneuver, torn between the two. In the midst of his dilemma, Shen Wang uttered lightly, break for me. The next second, a wilder wind, seemingly from nowhere, raged through the room, whipping up waves of dust, forcing Bai Fuchen and the others to tightly shut their eyes and mouths to avoid the dust. With their eyes closed, their hearing became more acute. They heard Shen Wang asking Azzy, has any Taoist priest come to you before? Azzy nodded without hesitation, yes. After that, there was silence except for the howling wind. When the wind finally ceased, Bai Fuchen and the others waited a moment before cautiously opening their eyes. The floor looked as if it had been scrubbed clean, shining like new and oddly contrasting with the decaying furniture around. But the most eerie thing was the formation in the center of the room. A massive, deep red formation, covering almost half of the room. Wushu was dumbstruck, never having imagined a formation hidden underground. This red color is so strange, it's like human blood, Shen Wang interjected calmly. But this isn't the blood of the living, rather that of corpses. This was a formation that nourished itself on yin energy, drawing from the minor ghosts, sustaining its master. Azzy and the others, being ordinary people, faced death with resignation, preferring the afterlife over clinging to this one. Yet they became earthbound spirits, trapped here for decades, becoming nourishment for others. Shen Wang's expression was icy. He had never witnessed such a malevolent formation, but he knew of a similar one. In a long-forgotten text, he was drained of blood by the Tang family, and after death, his soul was suppressed under their old family home. His endless resentment, transformed by the formation, ironically became the Tang family's fortune, protecting them. His resentment too turned into nourishment for the Tang family. Chapter 109. As he spoke of this, there was no sadness in her demeanor. She arched her eyebrows, somewhat smug, as if proud of having killed a few beasts, even though she lost her own life and has been trapped in this haunted house for nearly a century, unable to move on. Even the more introverted Aiji was biting her lip, her eyes slightly shining, admiringly looking at Azzy. Shen Wang and the others breathed heavily for a moment, Penghe biting her teeth, her eyes faintly brimming with tears. Noticing their gazes, the usually confident Azzy showed a hint of shyness. She held Aji's hand, her voice losing its flirtatiousness for the first time, speaking softly, "Those beasts came to our land, committed atrocities, burned, killed, and looted. Although we are just inconspicuous, lower-class women, we still know what national integrity and dignity mean." Just like what Penghe encountered in the illusion, when those Japanese soldiers came to the tulip ballroom, they fancied a dancer and wanted her to accompany them. However, she refused, having lost family members to these soldiers. Despite the other dancers' desperate pleas and efforts to appease them, the humiliated soldiers refused to let her go and forcefully took away several dancers that night. 2 days later, only their cold bodies were returned, stripped of everything, with unbearable wounds exposed to the sunlight, and their eyes wide open in pain and horror. Sharing the same fate, the other dancers felt a chilling void in their hearts, overwhelmed with boundless anger. Shen Wang frowned, looking at the ground and slowly said, "Below us, there's a large illusionary formation. Ordinary formations use spiritual energy as a guide, but this formation absorbs Yin energy instead." With the Yin energy of the many female ghosts in the haunted house, even Shen Wang initially failed to see through the formation, mistaking it for the mischievous acts of Azzy and the other ghosts. He only realized the truth after sensing something amiss and investigating carefully. Azzy, Aji, and the other ghosts gathered around, no longer afraid of Shen Wang, bombarding him with questions. "Master, what's happening? Is there a problem? Can we still reincarnate? Can it be quicker, Master?" Aji might not catch up with her lover. Shen Wang's expression softened slightly, and he gestured for all the ghosts to step back. "Rest assured, if I said I can help you reincarnate, then I will." As he spoke, he began calculating with his fingers while swiftly moving in strange patterns across the ground. The others and the minor ghosts were completely baffled by his actions. Soon, a gust of wind stirred up the thick dust at his feet. "Tui." Bai Fuchen squinted, spitting out the dust that had accidentally gotten into his mouth. He wanted to bury his face in Chou Yin's embrace yet also wanted to watch Shen Wang's maneuver, torn between the two. In the midst of his dilemma, Shen Wang uttered lightly, "Break for me." The next second, a wilder wind, seemingly from nowhere, raged through the room, whipping up waves of dust, forcing Bai Fuchen and the others to tightly shut their eyes and mouths to avoid the dust. With their eyes closed, their hearing became more acute. They heard Shen Wang asking Azzy, "Has any Taoist priest come to you before?" Azzy nodded without hesitation, "Yes." After that, there was silence except for the howling wind. When the wind finally ceased, Bai Fuchen and the others waited a moment before cautiously opening their eyes. The floor looked as if it had been scrubbed clean, shining like new and oddly contrasting with the decaying furniture around. But the most eerie thing was the formation in the center of the room. A massive, deep red formation, covering almost half of the room. Wushu was dumbstruck, never having imagined a formation hidden underground. "This red color is so strange, it's like human blood," Shen Wang interjected calmly. "But this isn't the blood of the living, rather that of corpses." This was a formation that nourished itself on Yin energy, drawing from the minor ghosts, sustaining its master. Azzy and the others, being ordinary people, faced death with resignation, preferring the afterlife over clinging to this one. Yet they became earthbound spirits, trapped here for decades, becoming nourishment for others. Shen Wang's expression was icy. He had never witnessed such a malevolent formation, but he knew of a similar one. In a long-forgotten text, he was drained of blood by the Tang family, and after death, his soul was suppressed under their old family home. His endless resentment, transformed by the formation, ironically became the Tang family's fortune, protecting them.